That was very mellow. I feel very relaxed right now.
That's just chill vibes. I love that.
Get me through the rest of the week.
That will get you through the rest of the week.
Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our show, but we'll be back same time, same place next week.
Don't forget, you can catch all of our episodes on the Radio Australia website or wherever you listen to your podcast. Bye there.
Talk here.
Can You Be More Pacific? An ABC sport production for ABC Radio Australia.
This program has been funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs and
ABC News. Good evening. I'm Melissa Polomini. Northern Territory Senator Melandiri McCarthy is demanding the opposition leader reports any allegations of child sexual abuse in Alice Springs to authorities. Peter Dutton was in Alice Springs again today and repeated claims of widespread sexual abuse of children in the outback town. It's mandatory to report any concerns of child abuse to authorities in the Northern Territory, and Senator McCarthy says Mr Dutton's allegations are serious.
I would ask Opposition Leader Peter Dutton, if you are aware of this, then you need to mandatory report it to police so that there can be an investigation immediately.
3 police officers are injured and 3 teenagers have been arrested, accused of ramming a police car in central Victoria. Courtney Withers reports.
Police say a 19-year-old male driver in an allegedly stolen vehicle hit a police vehicle and then a pole near Bendigo just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. The 3 police officers in their car at the time, as well as the 2 15-year-old passengers in the teenager's vehicle, were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The 3 teenagers have been arrested and are now helping police with their investigation.
The Premier is playing down concerns that new public drunkenness laws will come into effect on Melbourne Cup Day, a busy day with intoxicated punters. Under the changes, police will no longer be able to arrest people. Instead, those who are too drunk will be taken to a health facility to sober up rather than a jail cell. But Daniel Andrews says he's not concerned by any backlash.
It is the law of the state, and people can have views on whether it's a good law or otherwise, but that is the law. And I don't think locking people up because they are drunk is a sign of success.
Communities in Western Australia's northwest are on red alert as severe tropical cyclone Ilsa intensifies. Hannah Murphy with the story.
An area from the remote Aboriginal community of Bidjadanga to Wim Creek is currently on a red alert for the cyclone, which is bearing down off the northern coast. It's expected to make landfall later tonight or early tomorrow at Category 5 strength. It will be the strongest cyclone to hit the WA coast in 16 years. Emergency services have evacuated some residents and roads have been closed as a precaution. Evacuation centres have been set up in Marble Bar, Newman, Nullagine and South Headland.
7 people have been charged with trespassing after they allegedly broke into an abattoir in northeast Victoria and chained themselves to machinery. 3 men and 4 women were arrested at the scene, accused of breaking into the Benalla facility in the early hours of this morning. The activists say they stopped work at the abattoir by chaining themselves to a gas chamber used to paralyse pigs before processing, a legal and common industry practice. Former US President Donald Trump is suing his former lawyer for nearly $750 million, alleging breach of contract. Chelsea Hetherington reports.
Donald Trump says Michael Cohen breached his duty as attorney to act in his client's best interests. Mr. Cohen worked as Mr. Trump's attorney for more than a decade, but the two had a major falling out after the 2016 election, as investigators began looking into several of Mr. Trump's aides over hush money payments that were made to bury negative allegations about the former president. In 2018, Mr. Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison and a fine after pleading guilty to charges of fraud and campaign finance violations. Now out of prison, he's become a high-profile critic of Mr. Trump. Mr. Cohen's lawyer is confident the lawsuit will fail.
In sport, the unbeaten Carlton will take on Adelaide tonight, opening the AFL's first ever gather round. Meanwhile, Richmond coach Damien Hardwick says the Tigers are having a rotten run of luck with injuries, with 13 players out of action. Richmond plays the Sydney Swans in their gather round match at Adelaide Oval tomorrow night. Hardwick says his club's injury list means opportunities for players who are still developing.
A guy like Samson Ryan that's been waiting for his opportunity for 2 to 3 years now gets that opportunity, and a guy like Ben Miller comes in also for another opportunity to hold down the number one ruck spot. So we're really excited to see what those guys are offer, and the opportunity that provides these players is really paramount to us going forward.
To the weather, there's a strong wind warning for the Central Coast. Areas of early morning fog tomorrow, cloudy with isolated showers about Gippsland, clearing in the afternoon, dry and mostly sunny elsewhere. In Melbourne, early fog, then mostly sunny, a top of 23. It's currently 19 degrees.
For extreme entertainment, stream comedy whenever you like on ABC iView.
That's so cool.
Extreme feel-goods with Ghosts, Ronnie Cheng, international student, and Summer Love.
Never hold back, kids.
Extreme funnies from the Melbourne International Comedy Festival.
That means a lot.
And extreme good times with Starstruck, Peep Show, and Fisk.
Why would you say that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's Extreme Comedy Gold.
So cool.
And you can stream it all for free on ABC iView.
ABC Sport.
We begin this broadcast by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this match will be played today, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening.
One state.
And they will come from everywhere.
4 days.
This will be special.
9 matches.
You just cannot take your ears off this game.
And all 18 clubs for a round of football like we've never seen before.
We're going to put on one hell of a show.
Snaps across the body and the party continues.
This is AFL Gather Round, live from South Australia.
Gather around, everybody, and listen to this brand new groove. It's going downtown in this party. Bring your friends and family.
Gather bursts away, kicks the goal.
This is Gather Round.
The celebrations as they come from everywhere.
Grandstand AFL.
100% pure footy.
Perkins to the hand pass to Stringer. He's going to go the barrel. Don't tell me.
Cause here it comes, here it comes.
Cartmart follows up. Finbury sells the dummy for an early goal of the year. 55 out. He's given this plenty. That's a magnificent strike of the football.
AFL Gather Round.
Something big is coming. Something big is coming.
He stops, clocks, fires and goals.
Something big is coming. Something big is coming.
What a piece of individual class.
Something big is coming.
Biggest moment of his life. 55 loads up all the way home.
Fill your lungs, are you ready for it?
High altitude flight for the showboat.
All the tricks on display.
AFL.
Two-step bang.
This kid is going places.
Puts the Jets on and kicks it on the run. Boy, does he love it.
He launches an absolute rocket.
Oh, the home fans like that. From 50, he goes whack.
One bounce at 40, one bounce at 20,
And he goes. Loads up with that right foot. Cannon on the right boot. Floats it through.
their season's well and truly alive.
This is AFL Gather Round on radio,
ABC Sport Digital,
and now streaming on the ABC Listener.
Something big is coming, I know.
All footy roads lead to South Australia this weekend. 18 teams, 9 matches across 4 days at 3 venues, with footy fans flocking from every corner of the country for the magic of Gather Round. Tonight, the team carrying the name of the city, the Adelaide Crows, coming out of a patient rebuild. And in more recent times, back-to-back wins, they meet the competition's ultimate hype machine, Carlton. One of only 2 teams with a 0 remaining in the right-hand column on their record. Welcome to ABC Sports coverage on Grandstand AFL of Gather Round, the inaugural edition in the AFL, the first game of the weekend tonight, Adelaide and Carlton on your air. My name's Corbin Middlemass. To call the footy with me is Aaron Bryans, the voice of South Australian footy on Grandstand AFL. G'day, Az.
Make me blush, Corby. No, it's a privilege to be here for what's going to be a historic weekend, the inaugural Gather Round. A blockbuster matchup to kick things off as well. They've traded wins, these two sides, over the past few years. You've got the second and third best contested possession teams. 3 of the top 10 goal kickers are out there tonight as well. and what could be the biggest crowd we've seen here at the Adelaide Oval since the pandemic. So it has all the makings of a classic. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Two young teams as well. The Carlton still bottom 6 in the competition in terms of age, and Adelaide, despite their wins in recent weeks, bottom 3 last week in terms of the birth certificate. Big ins for Carlton tonight. Walsh, Kennedy and Akers all make their way back in. There is no late change, while for Adelaide, Fogarty and Pedler make their returns. The subs have been named, so Ned McHenry is going to be the starting sub for Adelaide on the back of 22 disposals last week against the Dockers, and Josh Honey out of the starting 22 but will be the tactical sub for Carlton. Premiership players in the experts chair tonight on Grandstand AFL. First of all, Adelaide Crows Premiership player, man who's been a voice on the ABC's coverage of footy for over 20 years in this state. His name is Rod Jamieson, and I'm very pleased to be sitting alongside him. Great to see you, Jamo.
Corby, thank you, and welcome, Aaron. And I like just getting here early today, coming into the town. It's alive, and the build-up to this game, and where Carlton sit, Adelaide sit, both probably rebuilding to not where they're at their best just yet, probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 years away, but they've got the right blokes in the helm and right seat, so looking forward to a cracking game.
Collingwood Premiership player, former St Kilda captain Luke Ball has made the trip across. Hello, Bally.
It's great to be here, Corby. I just walked across the bridge, Jamo, with what felt like a couple of thousand people, and beautiful clear sky, sunset and activations going on all over the place. I haven't been to Adelaide for a while, actually, certainly since COVID times, and it was nice to walk with a crowd of people and not get abused, and used to getting that sort of treatment here as an opposition player. But no, there is a great feeling around the town, and hopefully tonight, as you said, is a great way to kick off 9 great games of footy for the weekend.
So 8 of the 9 games have already been sold out. People everywhere in their footy colours up on the terrace, which is excellent to see. But Jamo, the concept overall, how has it been embraced by the locals here in South Australia in the lead up to this weekend?
Yeah, look, it's been huge. So certainly from a tourism perspective, it's been outstanding. Accommodations at 90%. Another sort of WOMAD, which is more of an international attraction. They've exceeded that now, so 90% of accommodation sold. Never been done before here in South Australia. Restaurants are sold out. You've got the Barossa Valley, you've got the Adelaide Hills, you've got down south, you've got the beach, where they're not quite as conducive there, but certainly where Adelaide sits around Adelaide, or certainly the CBD, and it sits in amongst Adelaide, it's sort of 10Ks, 20Ks from everything you need to get to, and it's a great venue, great place to be.
I got a text message from someone earlier today that said a mate in Norseman just told me that there's a heap of caravans headed for South Australia, so people have come across from WA by hook or by crook, however they can get here for gather round this weekend. There's going to be matches, 6 of them played here at Adelaide Oval, obviously the premier venue in the state. There's 2 matches played out at Norwood. Jamo, a ground with a heap of history, a famed venue, of course, home of the Redlegs, and one out in Mount Barker as well. What can you tell us about those other 2 venues in particular that a lot of footy fans probably aren't as familiar with?
Well, here in South Australia, the South Australian National Football League, SANFL, it's referred to. There'll be players that you might have seen on maybe that represent Australia, like Gary McIntosh, Michael Aish. You could go on in terms of the amount of people. Michael Taylor played at Collingwood, assistant coach at Adelaide too. So that's where Norwood, the players that are represented there. Max Michaelani, his father, played at Norwood, and he's in his 5th game for Adelaide this year. It's only about 4 Ks out from where we are right now. It's a small ground, so they're going to host 2 venues there. So that'll be compact, probably 8 to 10,000 people. So not as big as what it is, but it'll be electric. Mount Barker's about 45 minutes from here, up in the hills. Can get a little chilly, so you'll have blokes in the back of vans, I would have thought, with armchairs and couches that you normally do at your country footy. But if you're going to head there, maybe on the weekend, it's going to be a little bit chilly. But I think everyone around Adelaide, not only metro but regionally, has embraced it. I did hear one that someone has actually flown in, Bally, from the UK that arrived yesterday, has got tickets to all 9 games and flies back to the UK on Sunday night. So the appeal, that's just an isolated incident, but I think a lot of people around Australia feel the same way.
Now, the concept ball is not unique to our game. In fact, has been completely pinched from the NRL, obviously, who do Magic Round every year at Lang Park. And such is what's the old saying? There's no such thing as new ideas anymore. They borrowed it from the English Super League, so they stole it from the UK version of Rugby League. Then obviously it's come to the NRL, and now footy are having their go at it. What do you make of it as a concept overall, the fact that we've got every team in the one place on the one weekend?
Oh, I love it, yeah, and I think the players will enjoy it as well. I think it's a bit different, isn't it? It's unique, and it's an opportunity to perhaps, to obviously congregate in the same area, and players will be crossing paths across the weekend. So I think the players will really embrace it, and it sounds like obviously that the crowd and the fans are going to embrace it as well. And I mean, in a way, it's sort of, you wonder why it's taken us so long to have a go at it, in a sense, Jamo. I think, and interestingly, just chatting to someone, that the forced games in Queensland of the COVID couple of years gave us a little taste of it, without the crowd and all the hype. So it's, in a sense, it's sort of wonder why it's taken so long for us to have a crack at it.
Well, watching the footy show last night, they actually referred to it. It happens in Melbourne every week, so isn't it? That's how it is.
Well, I did hear in retaliation, the NRL next year are going to schedule their Magic round in Melbourne across the same weekend, because everyone's sitting around twiddling their thumbs in Melbourne, they think. So that makes sense too, doesn't it?
Well, they've had a couple of State of Origin games, NRL, here too, and there's another one planned here, I think, for June or July, and they get certainly 30 to 40,000 to come on to those.
Did they pinch that off us? Did I hear someone from the AFL say, well, they pinched State of Origin off us, so we're just sort of getting one back. It's 15 all.
There you go. They're always at it, aren't they? The premiers of the CEOs of both codes. No surprise, Gillon McLachlan has already come out before the ball's been bounced to say this is already better than what the NRL were able to do with their Magic round. What they've been able to do for gather round here. You might be able to hear Peking Duck in the background. They're playing a little bit of pre-game entertainment for us out in front of us. We might just take a little bit of a listen in, if we can, to some of the pre-match entertainment as it unfolds here at Adelaide Oval.
Everybody say happy birthday, Julia!
So Peking Duck there on the back end of their set, just playing before the main event tonight. Of course, it is going to be Adelaide and Carlton, and you'll be able to hear it right here on Grandstand AFL through ABC Sports coverage of Gather Round. Now, the first fixture tonight kicks off with the Crows and the Blues, and there's no late change for either team. The news that's going on in the footy landscape at the moment, the man to tell us all about it is the best newsbreaker in footy in Mitch Cleary. He's going to be on the boundary for us tonight, but he joins us in the box before then. Hello, Masai.
Good evening, guys. Thanks for having me on board. And how good is this? This is an absolute picture of the Adelaide Oval.
We just had to quickly tie a bow on round 4 before we could focus on round 5. There was a tribunal hearing tonight.
Yeah. Will Day unsuccessful in his case to get off that 2-match ban, so he will miss the next 2 games for the Hawks after that dangerous tackle on Brad Close. Quirky moment this afternoon. Geelong had told the tribunal that they were going to challenge Gary Rowan's 1-match ban for his tackle on Chankwath Jath from Monday. Got to this afternoon, only a couple of hours before the tribunal. The Cats called through and said, no, forget that, we're going to accept it and move on, because we had to get to selecting our team for Sunday's game. So Gary Rowan, after all the conjecture, misses a 1 game for the Cats, and they'll get a couple of ins to face West Coast here on Sunday.
I saw you run through some teams a short time ago, Mitch, and the big names in particular at Richmond in terms of the 2 name-brand players that were missing from the team sheet last Thursday are both there this evening.
Jack Revolt and Trent Cotchin both in. So Cotchin, of course, last week the sub. Revolt managed completely, both in the 22 to face Sydney here tomorrow night. 3 massive outs. Jack Graham, Toby Nankervis and Tom Lynch, who the Tigers said today will miss at least 12 weeks. That's a big blow for the Tigers. They're still holding hope on making the 8, but it's going to be tough without their most important forward. At the Swans, they lose McCartan brothers, Paddy and Tom, Lance Franklin, as well as Dane Rampy. That's 4 big outs for the Swans. Bailey Smith at the Dogs has a calf injury, had a bit of a calf through pre-season, has played the first month, but misses for the Dogs. They do get Cody Waitman back. Tom Jonas out through injury for the Power, the captain. So that's a big loss for them, given what the Dogs forwards have in stock here on Saturday night.
Are we going to say the number 1 pick on Sunday?
It's named in the squad. Keen to see how that falls out when the teams are finalised on Friday. All the noise coming out of the Giants camp is that he's close. Impressing in the VFL. I reckon I'd have Aaron Cabot's name in my record ready to go for Sunday.
Gill's been front and centre all week. He's been sort of hand in hand with Peter Malinauskas, of course, the Premier of South Australia all weekend. The 2 of them obviously integral to getting this whole concept up. who is going to be the next chief executive of the AFL? Are we any closer?
Well, for the last 6 months, we've all thought it was going to be Andrew Dillon, the incumbent head of football and general counsel at the AFL, but there's been a late push for the Western Bulldogs chief, their president, Kylie Watson-Wheeler, who oversees all things Disney-related here in Australia. There's a late push for her. A watch on what happens with Kylie Watson-Wheeler. I still have Andrew Dillon as the front runner, but Bawley, they've had 12 months to decide. It was 12 months yesterday Gillon McLachlan said he was stepping down, and still we don't have an answer. The big concern now is Gill will see through to the May budget. So I think it's May 8 or 9, the federal budget, waiting for the funding around Tasmania to see if Anthony Albanese will open his wallet to pay for the Tasmanian Stadium. Still waiting on an answer on who replaces Gill.
Well, the longer it goes without an announcement that Andrew Dillon will assume the seat, the more you're probably inclined to think that it's someone else, that someone from outside the organisation.
She's here this weekend?
She is. Had a prior engagement at the Victorian Amateur season launch last night. Was a late withdrawal for that. Hawthorn's Andy Gowers replaced her. The president of the Hawks, Andy Gowers, came in late. And Kylie was at the winery yesterday for Gill's semi-farewell. So she made a quick dash across the border to be there. If that's a hint, maybe we'll keep an eye on her as the potential replacement.
I think one of the issues with the Tassie stuff, isn't it? I think we're all in agreement. I mean, all clubs have sort of supported it now if the funding comes through. But where's it going to land? Where's the actual stadium going to land? Is there still any indication what the final position will be?
Macquarie Point is looking likely on the harbour esplanade there at Hobart. But, yeah, no exact finalisation. The club's still yet to be presented with a final detail on what the stadium will actually cost. And in recent times, the last 5-10 years, every stadium built in Australia has gone well over budget. So let's see where this one falls.
Every house has, let alone a stadium.
Absolutely. Mitch, we'll chat to you from downstairs. Thanks for the update.
Chat to you then.
Mitch Cleary, part of our team on Grandstand AFL, the best newsbreaker in footy, and he'll be on the boundary for us tonight on Grandstand AFL, so a bit to play out on that front. It's going to be a tough act to follow, isn't it? I mean, you look at Gillon McLachlan, and in particular the way that he presents publicly, so he's such a polished media performer, and Kylie Watson-Wheeler, who is so well credentialed in everything she does. All the talk from the big Disney bosses, and obviously Disney run and operate so many huge media networks all over the world, but she's never been a big media performer. Generally at the Western Bulldogs, it's either the chairman or the CEO that does a lot of the talking, and there it's a Meat Baines. Kylie doesn't do a lot of that, so they're going to gain an awful lot in whoever they get, but it's very hard to replace that complete package, and notwithstanding that, I'm sure a lot of people will argue Gillon has a couple of blind spots himself.
I guess they'd be hoping that Gill, on his way out, leaves the place in a position where there's not as many opportunities or requirements for putting out fires publicly or getting up and being that figurehead. And look, there are ways around that. Obviously, they can spread that load across the executive team. We know that there's quite a large and experienced executive team there with Travis Auld, who's very comfortable in front of the camera as well. So, it's going to be a fascinating 4-6 weeks.
I think the biggest one will obviously be the concussion case, won't it, too? So whoever comes into the chair, and it's the biggest challenge facing the competition, not only the past and I guess what's been built, but what's going to happen and what is going to be the pool to be able to support those going forward too. Because you've got to come up with the right method to be able to measure, and when concussions happen, and then what goes on. So it's that's for me, and I guess as a previous board director, in terms of where I think the commercial, the health, fiscal, all that of the AFL, you no doubt get the right people in place, but that's the biggest challenge in terms of insurance and risk.
Talk about key attributes as well. Do you favour charisma over business sense? Because you look at someone like maybe a Justin Longmuir at Fremantle, has barely any personality, but understands the game, and that's why Fremantle went for it.
Yeah, he's not the most outgoing media performer.
And there's probably other organisations too that would do the same. Like you get them out the front, you just go, no, well then put other people out the front and get them out from time to time. So you're going with acumen, that would be the number one tick for sure.
We're getting set to go for Gather Round Thursday night footy, Adelaide and Carlton at Adelaide Oval. It is, of course, the on-ramp to what is going to be a huge weekend here in South Australia, a double-header on Friday night, then the 3 games on Saturday, starting out in Mount Barker before the double-header at Adelaide Oval, and then again 2 games back here at Adelaide Oval on Sunday, with a match out at Norwood sandwiched in between. There are no late changes for the game tonight. Ed McHenry is the sub for Adelaide, and for Carlton, Josh Honey is going to be the sub. Time for the welcome to country. We might kick it downstairs for the official opening. We're ready as soon as TV's ready.
It's all about the radio anyway.
It's the old line
Ganari
about the
Jack
video.
Kanya Pundo Undo at Pinakuna with Chabakskin. I thank you, Welta Ghana, Naranga, Warangumil. Tandaganya was the name given to this country in the time of creation, meaning the male red kangaroo rock. Tanda was the one that gave us our law in the time of creation. Our people have lived in this land for thousands of years and now share this country with people from around the world. In the spirit of our land and the banks of the River Torrens, our people live and the spirits live within these lands. Tarnda looks after all of us, and on behalf of Kaurna people, when we welcome you through language, we welcome you to the spirit of our country. Marwechang ngarl ko bukya na mene yalaka ngarlo wangan de mani na borni ngarl ko yarta na Tarndanya.
So the official welcoming to gather round at Adelaide Oval with the two banner crews now just running out onto the ground that lay face down on the surface here at Adelaide Oval. Aaron Bryant's outside the venue on the River Torrens. There's a whole lot of sort of activations that have been set up. I know you were wandering around out there earlier. What is actually outside that's part of this event beyond just what happens inside the stadiums?
It's essentially a carnival atmosphere, Corby, very, very much, I guess, held around the Elder Park gazebo. So you can not only see yourself to the convention centre and close to King William Street, but then make your way over the bridge. I think the feature part of it all, aside from the players that are roaming around and all the kids' activities there, is actually the zip line across the River Torrens, which I heard was down a little bit today. They had to make sure it was working properly, but that'll be a feature across the weekend that I'm sure a lot of visitors would love to have a crack at.
Have you done the zip line yet, Jamo?
No, I haven't. I've bungee jumped, but I haven't done it across the... I wouldn't want to be falling in the Torrens, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'd hope that they make sure that it's working properly. Yeah, but I walked past that. It looked like a bit of fun. There were some really young kids having a go at it too, so I wanted to have a look at it tomorrow.
Here come the Adelaide Crows. You hear the pyrotechnics going off in the background. The banner is raised, and the Crows wearing their custom jumper for Gather Round. It is predominantly navy blue with the yellow and red outline of their logo in the mighty Crow. Jordan Dawson, their captain, leads them out onto the ground. He's been best on ground in his last two starts. Somewhat controversially, the first week in the showdown, there was no doubt in it last weekend, in which he had 27 disposals and kicked a goal against the Dockers and 13 contested possessions. A big night for Adelaide as they start their climb back up the table. A patient rebuild. Matthew Nix in charge. He now starts his fourth season, 2-2 Adelaide on the year. After a winless opening fortnight, they've now won back-to-back games to square themselves off at 2-2.
Jamo, you must be a huge fan of this new Guernsey. It's, I guess, an homage to the pre-season kits of the 96, 97, 98 sides, and sold out in 13 minutes when it was launched.
I think it looks like a strong jumper. Again, traditionally Adelaide have gone with the tri-colours and the hoop, and they've fallen back on the history of the club and the Crow to be able to bring it out and gather round to represent it accordingly. So it's a strong jumper and well supported by the membership to actually touched on it. And I think there's another batch coming in, but they're pretty much sold out as well.
You've been heavily involved in the past, Jamo, as a member of the board, obviously a premiership player at the footy club. 2-2. Is it about where Adelaide thought they would be, or are they ahead of schedule through the opening month of the season?
I think when you reflect that if, but, could have, should have, but I would have thought Adelaide should have been up by 10 or 12 at half-time against GWS up there against the Giants, and then sort of fell away. Giants have always touched up Adelaide around the clearance work, and they were 3 men down at the end of it, so monumental win by the Giants to be able to do that. Richmond first half really disappointing. Yeah. Came out 1 point in it at three-quarter time, Borley, and then Richmond blew them away in the last. So could have been 3-1, could have been 4-zip as well too, but they backed up against Port, did really well, full game, finished off with 6 in the last quarter, and Look, I heard you earlier, Corby, talk with Ben around Fremantle. They were a bit slow, and it wasn't until late in the game they pulled the trigger to get going. We know they want to go quickly, but they weren't able to do it. Adelaide restricted. So I think Adelaide 2-2, they'd be happy where they are, Borley, but I think they'd be more if it was 3 or 4, obviously, and they could have been in that position.
You mentioned the Richmond game, Joe. They've really only played one really bad quarter, maybe quarter and a half of footy for the year, I think. And what's encouraging, I would think, for Adelaide people is that they're really starting to establish a brand. They're pretty reliable, I reckon, pretty honest as to, again, take that quarter out as to the effort that they bring to the table. And that's always not going to be met with execution, and there's younger players we know, but I reckon that's a pretty good sign for this team.
You hear the Carlton theme song in the background, the Navy Blues, who are decked out predominantly in white, just with the outline of their monogram in navy blue tonight, and the panels down the side of the jumper. There is no late change for Carlton. They get Akers, Kennedy and Sam Walsh all returning to this team. They were a strong clearance team in the past. They haven't had to be through the first month of the season, and they've still got an O on their record. The full preview to come next.
With the ABC Listen app, you can take the footy with you wherever you go. Off to walk the dog?
Take the footy.
Going camping?
Take the footy.
Picnic in the park?
Take the footy.
ABC Sport's expert coverage of the AFL
Incredible grab.
and the NRL. Every goal, try, mark and tackle, live and commercial free.
He bounces it through.
So whatever you're up to,
Take the footy.
take the footy with you on the ABC Listen app.
ABC Sport.
Grandstand AFL. This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2023 AFL Gather Round.
100% pure footy.
Here it comes.
AFL.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app. Look for the AFL button.
Something big is coming, I know.
The footy world gathers in Adelaide for a magic concept that comes to the AFL for the first time. It is the ultimate footy festival as Gather Round begins in this famed venue at Adelaide Oval. It is a cool night and getting colder in the city of churches. The cathedral lit up in the distance behind the beautiful old scoreboard at Adelaide Oval, and both teams are out on the ground in readiness for the first game of the inaugural Gather Round. It is Adelaide and Carlton. There is no late change. The Crows out onto the ground first, predominantly in navy blue tonight with the outline of the famous crow on their jumper, while for Carlton they're predominantly in white with just the outline of the CFC, the monogram in the middle of their strip. There's no late change for either team. Akers, Kennedy and Walsh, the three big inclusions for Carlton. For Adelaide, Fogarty and Pedler return. Ned McHenry and Josh Honey are the two subs. Corbin Middlemass and Aaron Bryants to call the footy for you. Aaron's alongside me. Looks like we're just about ready to go as the crowd's filling up, and I'm never surprised as to see that the first place that is always packed is the Old Hill, which is very well populated again, even while there's a number of seats still available. Everybody wants a bit of ground in front of the old scoreboard.
It'll be incredibly lively across the evening, Corby, if the Crows get up late in this game. And it is set to be a blockbuster that fits the occasion. We've got over 50,000. It's a sellout crowd. The biggest crowd that we've had here at Adelaide since the pandemic was 50,090 in round 23 last year. I think we break that. And then you talk about these two sides. They've traded wins in their last 4, but Carlton has never won at the Adelaide Oval, an average losing margin of 65 points. So on paper, you say maybe Adelaide are a realistic chance to hand Carlton their first loss in 2023.
The Crows upset Carlton here late last season, which actually triggered a 4-game losing skid for the Blues and ensured that their finals drought continued. They're not about just upsetting other people's story. They want to write their own, the Crows, in season 2023 under Matthew Nicks. Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball, our grandstand AFL experts, premiership players, with us for the full preview of what's to come. The Crows and the Blues just moments away. Jamo.
Yeah, look, I mean, I really like what Carlton are doing under Michael Voss, and they can see the way they're playing and what they're trying to build. But you go back to that round 20 game last year where Adelaide won by 29 points. Charlie Kerner kicked 2, Mackay kicked 1, Cottrell, who's not playing tonight, kicked 2, but Paddy Cripps and Sam Walsh had 41 and 40 disposals, respectfully, too. And there's just this, I guess, heavily reliance on those 4 players particularly. Now, it'll come through experience and they'll build upon that, Borley, too. But when you have a look there, Taylor Walker kicked 3, Fogarty kicked 2, and Rory Laird he had 32 disposals. So I think both clubs are further advanced, but Adelaide, where they're positioned tonight, the firepower up forward, I'll have some concern for Carlton in the fence area.
Come back to you in just a moment, Jamo. There's a bit of late drama. Mitch Cleary is with us tonight on the boundary, the best newsbreaker in footy. Masai.
A late out for Carlton, injury in the warm-up, and it's their man that has been, I guess, injury-prone over recent years. Mitch McGovern has injured his calf just moments ago in the warm-up, so you'll see the number 20 out there for Carlton. Lockie Plowman has come in from the emergencies, is getting ready to sit in the grandstand, but he's come into the 22, Lockie Plowman, and will play tonight in place of Mitch McGovern. Josh Honey remains the sub for the Blues.
Thanks, Mitch. So, no Mitch McGovern against his old team tonight, Jammer.
Yeah, huge out, isn't it, too? They rely on his intercept mark or possession work in the back half, too. I was going to highlight that as to how he was going to play tonight, whether he was going to lock down or whether he was going to try and just float across and be that third man up to play that role. Now, that is a huge out for Willian. I don't know how they're going to fill that hole, where they're going to pull a player similar to fill that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, and Lockie Plowman, enough experience. We haven't seen him. I must admit, I had to check number 20. I saw it down there and I thought, is that? Yeah, it is Lockie Plowman. So he has played enough footy. We know that. What's he up to now? He's played over 100 games or over 140 games.
His last game was the last time they met. So round 20 last year. Fell out of the team back end of last year.
There you go. So probably... Yeah, not going to have the impact aerially that McGovern has in terms of his intercept play, but he'll look to get a lockdown role in that back six for the Blues, I'm sure. I'm interested. You mentioned it, Corb. They're really good ins for Carlton. It's the first time that they've had their full midfield brigade together with Sam Walsh coming in now. And when you look at it, it is deep. So Walsh, Cripps, you mentioned Jamo, Chera, Kennedy, who I love as a player, and starting to really tick over that 80 game mark now, where he's coming into his own. George Hewitt's become a really important player, and Akers on the wing. So together with those two ruckmen, De Koning and Pitney, that's going to be a real test for that Crows midfield today. And you mentioned the skipper. It's interesting. I think, Jamo, a few eyebrows probably raised when the captaincy was announced at the Crows at the start of the year, and Jordan Dawson, but he looks like he's just taken the responsibility on beautifully. And in the last couple of weeks, he's actually gone inside more. We know what he can do across half-back and on the wing, and his kicking's always been a real weapon of his. But I've loved the fact that he's gone inside in the last couple of weeks, and he's taking centre bounces. He's winning inside contested footy as well. And with that Carlton midfield brigade, I expect to see him in there a bit more today with his big body. I expect to see him lining up next to Patrick Cripps, who's got a great record, as you said, against the Crows tonight.
Yeah, no, Bully, I'd agree. And what you found in round one, the Giants really dragged him back to that full-back line, so he didn't have the impact. And we know across the half-back he can run, rebound, great left foot, and doesn't look like he does it with a whole lot of effort either, and it's low and it's hard and fast. And so come the Port Adelaide game, he then sort of injected himself into the middle at times, and they rotated through. So you'll see Saligo go through it, young player, Rochelle, Rankin. So he just had some speed as well as that big body through there. And I guess the transition was spoken about some time with Rory Sloane, particularly after he did his knee and the impact, and we weren't quite sure whether he was going to come back and where he was going to play. So just the maturity that he has shown and the leadership. And he's got this, I guess, aura around, look, he can certainly play. Is he a hard nut? Does he live and breathe football? The outside would say no, but he genuinely does, and he hates losing, so he's really filled the role really well.
And looking forward to watching Isaac Rankin on another big stage again tonight. He comes across from the Gold Coast Suns.
Genuine speed.
Genuine speed. Wanting these games, though, wanting these occasions. You get the sense, and he acquitted himself so well in the showdown, and he's such a match winner, so you expect him to be lively tonight, and a bit interesting to see who gets that match up as well, whether it's St Adam Sard, who's such a key player, we know, for the Blues in terms of his run and drive. And you mentioned what they've done this year under Voss. So the shift really has been, we know how potent they are forward, so the shift has been a little bit in terms of how they move the ball, getting a bit more speed on their ball movement from half-back, but also then how they set up behind their attack to defend. They were horrible last year at defending turnovers. And you think of Sard and these sort of players, Doherty, who's not out there tonight, attacking from the back and getting up really high, and if they turn it over, being really vulnerable out the back. They've addressed that, obviously, over the break, over the off-season, and they've stiffened up their team defence a bit. And their points against, albeit with a 4-week sample size, is much improved this year.
Yeah, I think the Adam Sard one is going to be tantalising, because you would think that he'd probably go with Rankin in terms of his initial speed, but that might restrict him in terms of his run and rebound too, because Isaac doesn't always come that high up. And we've seen in the past, if you put a bigger body on Isaac, you rely on the congested space to shut that down. But if he gets the space, then the bigger body can't go with him. So you need the speed to do that. And you know, Lockie Cowan may be that player, and it'll be a big job. He's only played the 4 games. Adam Sard seems to be the right bloke for it. The others are too big to maybe handle it. And then you've got Rochelle, who's not dissimilar too with his power and explosiveness.
Heard Matt Rendell say on the radio today that Nick Murray's become almost the most important player for the Crows. So with him and Jordan Butts tonight, they get the big guns at the other end, who kicked 10 goals last week. So another great matchup as well.
Indeed. Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball, our grandstand AFL experts. Mitch Cleary's on the boundary line. Massai.
Thanks, guys. Packed house tonight. Just one concern for Crows fans. Their typical seats they have for a normal home game not in place tonight. Given it's the AFL's game and gather round, Crows fans were actually asked to buy separate seats to that what they usually sit at for the 11 home games for the season. A little bit of late drama getting to their seats, but I think they're in place now. Packed house. Can't wait.
Late drama with the teams as well. So McGovern are laid out, as Mitch told us in the warm-up. Lockie Plowman takes his place. Honey and McHenry, the respective subs. Who's winning, Bally?
I had Carlton by under 2 goals. I really like their ins. McGovern goes out. I'm going to stick with it.
Jano?
I'm going Adelaide in a home match up against Carlton and their poor record here in Adelaide.
Here we go. Footy's gathering storm. Welcome to Gather Round. Here with Aaron Bryans on Grandstand AFL.
Riley O'Brien wins it down for the Crows. Front and square, though, is Hewitt. Wrapped up immediately by Laird, and we'll get a ball up in the centre circle.
And Jordan Dawson starting in the centre bounce against his opposing skipper in Patrick Cripps.
Sam Walsh back in the guts as well for the Blues. De Koning wins it down straight to Laird. He's wrapped up by the Blues ruckman. Ball up to come once again. Still in the centre circle.
Looks like George Hewitt's going to run with Rory Laird.
Let's see if third time's the charm. De Koning down to his skipper Cripps. He runs into a wall. Murphy wraps him up and brings him down. He loses control. Walsh is there with the assist to flick out a handball, but he turns it over. Smith for the Crows. Gives it off to Duday. Forward to Laird. Now out wide. The dummy and then the kick from Hinge inside 50 is poor. Takes a bounce beautifully for Fogarty though. On return from injury, he gathers and gives it to Murphy, sells some candy, heads into the scoreboard pocket, Sard with the leap over the top of Keys, couldn't control it, loses it to the Crows, Jones gives it back, Rankin from the tight angle, snaps for the opener. A magical finish on a historical night. The Crows strike first through Isaac Rankin. 1 straight 6, Carlton yet to score. 70 seconds in at the Adelaide Oval.
Well, look at that. 9-1 disposals just to Adelaide. Chris was just jumped on in the middle of the ground, the turnover. What we've liked around Adelaide is how clean they are. Particularly if they don't win the first one, they're certainly clean with their second, and they just worked it out wide and forward, and Rankin just picked up as he's done for the last couple of weeks.
Brilliant kick, wasn't it? Oh, that's the Eddie Betts pocket off one step. Yeah, that was a magic kick.
If you're a promoter, Bally, and you said, how do we want this game to start? It'd be the home team, Rankin, in Eddie's pocket, in front of the scoreboard, kicks the first of the weekend.
Yeah, he's 12th of the season.
Ben Keys looks like he's gone to Adam Sard actually too, down there in the Crows forward line, Jamo. That's a watch.
Adelaide 1 straight. Carlton barely touched it. Back in the middle, O'Brien wins the hit out. Got it down, led. Somehow got a hand pass out to Dawson, who runs away from his opposing captain Cripps. Kicks to the outer wing. It'll sit okay for Pedler. Puts it inside the forward 50. On the hop, gets to Walker. Shoots a hand pass to Fogarty. To Keys. Top of the goal square. Got the ball. Crows have the first 2. What a dream start for the home team. Hosting not only Carlton but every team in the league, and Adelaide have kicked the first 2 goals while Carlton have touched the ball once. Adelaide by 12 points, 2 straight. Carlton yet to score, 2.5 in.
Just straight out of the centre bounce again, and we know how important centre bounces are these days with the 6-6-6 to get the ball down to even numbers. And I just mentioned, hadn't I, that Ben Keys looks like he's starting in an interesting role, maybe as that defensive forward against Adam Sard, Carlton's prime mover, and just getting goal side. Sard got back, didn't he? But the tackle actually helped Keys because it slung him around onto his left foot. It looked like he had him cold, and he was good enough to get it onto his boot. A dream start for the Crows.
Nick Newman to Rankin too.
Adelaide by 12. De Koning wins it down. Before the footy charging across from the wing. Scholl couldn't control it but caught one high. Adelaide take the advantage, and O'Brien immediately is tackled and gives it away. Hollands off a step. High up to half forward for the Blues. Coming late, Silvani spoils, then gathers. Caught up in the Jones tackle, loses it. High pressure footy at the Adelaide Oval. And Walsh will hold things up at right half forward for Carlton.
Yeah, Ben Keys has taken that role, Bally, so that high half forward. He's got a massive motor, works up and down the ground, and probably more in that defensive role you've highlighted.
15 disposals to 2. That's their third as Walsh extracts that hand pass to Fisher, gives it to Durden, shoots Golan, and the SA boy has Carlton's first. Corey Durden pegs one back for the Blue Baggers early. 4 minutes in, Carlton 1 straight, Adelaide 2 straight. Fast footy, Crows by a goal. Luke Ball and Rod Jamison on Grandstand AFL.
Just how important the clean movement, isn't it? The congested and then tight and the intensity coming out of the middle there. Walsh with a tackle, couple of handballs inside, and Durden didn't have a great deal of space to be able to finish off.
Yeah, nice hands from Walsh, wasn't it? Just getting down. And I mean, they just had to get their hands on the footy, didn't they? The Blues, we spoke about that first 5 minutes. They couldn't get their hands on the Sherrin. So it'll be a nice confidence booster for Sam Walsh to get that goal assist, and for young Durden as well, kicking a goal.
2 disposals, 2 tackles, 2 contested, 2 ground ball clearances, and 1 clearance. Sam Walsh already.
Early birthday present for Corey Durden, who turns 21 tomorrow. The Golden Grove boy, which is northeast, I should say, here in Adelaide. Bounce in the middle, Crows by 6. And O'Brien wins it down, looking for Laird, who bursts across. The 3-time Malcolm Blight medalist gives it to his skipper Dawson, then to O'Brien, spears it into the 50, but it was a hit in hope. And Lewis Young was waiting back to cut it off for the Blues. He'll play on quickly, handing it off to Sard. Some of the Wolves have travelled over the border. And he dinks it to Wiedering.
Great disposal, hasn't he?
The Carlton to the Riverbank stand into the ground as Wiedering, long contest, kick down the wing to Coney, the target. O'Brien whacks it away down into the path of Smith, who goes darting through the middle, kicks across the centre square, and Keys marks. He can kick inside the open forward pocket on the broadcast side. Hand pass goes out to Jones. He pegs it back across the other side of the ground. Short kick to Rochelle, front edge of the centre square. Forward 50 filled up. Rochelle goes deep inside 50 to Rankin. Holland's the spoil. Dangerous spot. Top of the defensive goal square. Walsh onto it. Quick hands. Away to Young. He feeds a hand pass out wide for Akers, and it slips through his hands and over the boundary line. And we'll have a throw in. Forward pocket for the Crows. They're kicking to the cathedral end in this opening term. Crows by a goal, 2 straight. Carlton 1 straight. Bit of late drama. McGovern out in the warm-up, replaced in the starting 22 by Plowman. The 2 subs, McHenry and Honey.
Tossed in, 20 out from the Crows goal. Walker wins it down against De Koning, but slapped it straight in the path of Sard. Errant handball, trying to get it out of defensive 50. And as far as Chase Jones, who paddles it back over the boundary line, 45 out. Ben Keys, 3 disposals alongside Sam Walsh, who's in for his first game of the season after back surgery in the off-season.
Just a star, doesn't he? Been really consistent, young player, about a season away from playing 100 games already.
Back into play, Walker again wins it down to Rochelle. He was under a bit of pressure, threw a handball in hope, about 20 out from goal. Charging through, Murphy flicks one out. Tried to get it to Keys. He's wrapped up immediately as soon as he touched the pill. Ball up to come 20 out. Still in the left forward pocket for the Adelaide Crows.
Crows with the first 2 inside the opening 3 minutes. Carlton with the last. The crowd just exhales a full house at Adelaide Oval as Walker wins the hit out, and Wiedering happy. The pressure from Fogarty to take it out of bounds. We'll have a throw in left forward pocket again for Adelaide.
Newman and Rankin at it.
A bit of feeling, isn't there?
Yeah.
As you'd expect.
At the start he's had, Newman kept Toby Green to 1 goal, kept Dusty goalless. 2 of his scalps in the opening 4 weeks from the boundary throw-in. Walker wins the hit out. Akers just chucks his boot at it. Sockers it 50 metres up in the air, and in the end, Chase Jones stands underneath it, takes the intercept mark. Still at half forward. Short kick to Laird. Carlton with plenty of numbers back, and now a 50 in the protected zone. And as a result, this will make a certainty of it for Rory Laird, who's going to be marched to the top of the goal square.
So the Carlton defenders got a bit jumpy. Jordan Dawson just sneaking around the back, and a couple closed in on the area they don't need to be, and it's going to be highly costly.
It's taken him from 55 out at left half forward to the top of the goal square. Death and taxes, less of a sure thing. As Rory Laird, their 3-time best and fairest winner, pops through Adelaide's third. 3 straight to 1 straight. Crows by 12 points again at the 8-minute mark of the opening term. Grandstand AFL, Corbin Middlemass, Aaron Bryans. Now premiership players, Rod Jamison and Luke Ball.
Just a bit of a lack of concentration, wasn't it? Always got to be switched on when Jordan Dawson's lurking around the the 50 to 60 mark, I should say. Just going to have a look at the replay to see who the culprit was. Dawson went left, and no, it was George Hewitt. There's not a lot in it. That's one of those ones. Did it really affect the kick? I mean, Rory Laird was still backing back and wasn't even looking in that direction. So, letter of the law, yeah, sure, it's probably a 50, but that's one of those ones where the penalty seems to far outweigh the crime.
Crows back up by 12. Pitnet into the ruck against O'Brien. Wins it down. Put it in the path of Kennedy. One of their 3 inclusions, but he overran the footy. Charging through Cripps. Sockers off the deck. Goes twice in the end. Second may have been in danger, but the whistle stays away. Charging off half forward. Fisher gives it off. Hollands inside 50. His kick intended for Curnow. But Murray got there first to knock it over the boundary line. It's an interesting tale tonight, Jamo. If you look at the pathways of Jordan Butts and Nick Murray, both rookies, against Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, it feels a little one-sided, but statistically they match up quite well.
Yeah, they're big, strong stay-at-home defenders, so they'll make the boys work hard.
Crows by 12 from the boundary throw-in. First clean touch for Laird. Hooks a kick off half-back. Young on the wing. Punches it away for the Blues into the lap of Hollands. Just got a kick away. Slides down to half-forward. Collecting is Malera. Hand pass under pressure. Ends up with Kennedy for the Blues. He's tackled immediately. Taken to ground by Scholl. Ball spits out and Hollands can't handle it over the boundary. And a throw-in 52 metres out from the Carlton goal.
It's Ollie Hollands' work rate, Paulie, too. Just the ground he covers for a first-year player.
Hot footy early, isn't it? The Crows have certainly brought the pressure. Good test for the Blues here.
Toss back in left half forward. Pitnet disposes of O'Brien and volleys it out of the air as it tumbles towards the left forward pocket. Motlop's there first. Went to ground in the tackle from Michael Annie. Stood up but lost it. Clearing kick from Duday only as far as Hollands. Although did it go over the boundary line beforehand? It did. So to be brought back into the left forward pocket. 25 out. Carlton's attacking 50. Riverbank stand end.
Max Michaelani gets big jobs, 5th game. People liken him to Benny Hart.
Boundary throw-in. Pitnet wins it down to Motlop. Tackled immediately. Dropped the footy. Ump says play on. Pack forms behind him. Umpire circles and says I'll have it. And there he is on debut. Young Max with the chase down tackle. Up it goes again. Still inside the forward 50 for Carlton. O'Brien wins the hit out. Down to Miller. Hand pass away to Butts. Hurried kick out of the defensive arc. Saab middle of the ground. Got a hand on it. Spills to Plowman, the late in for Carlton. Gives it to Chera. Kicks deep inside 50. Mackay hands to it. No mark. Spills through to Charlie Curnow. Motlop picks it from him. And Michael Annie runs him down again. Another ball up top of the goal square as the pack forms behind him. That's twice now. As soon as Motlop's touched it, Michael Annie is on him. On his heels like a pair of socks. Straight on him. Bang. Ran him down second time.
Tossed up just next to the goal square. Volleyed out of the air by Cripps, but through for a minor score on the left-hand side. It is Adelaide by 11 points. 11 minutes into the opening quarter here at the Adelaide Oval. Just on Max Michaelani, Corby, as well. He's had 1 goal kicked on him in the opening 4 games. This is his 5th, obviously. Long ball by the Crows as they head to the eastern wing.
Free kick picked out 2. It's going to go the Crows' way, so Murphy takes it. Hand pass away to Laird. He flares it out to Scholl. He's got it on that logo out of wing. Kicks to Walker. Bit of body on Young. Marks plays on. Dobson. One to bring the house down as Taylor Walker. Pure strength, and then the finish with a beautiful drop punt to kick the Crows 17 clear. 12 minutes in, 4 straight to 1-1. Adelaide by 17.
He looks good when he gets it early, Taylor Walker. He gets his tail up. A couple of weeks ago against Richmond, there was some talk that he had a sore groin. Couldn't get hold of the footy and struggled, but kick 4, I think it was last week, and then already now does a lot of the ruck work. Fends off, but just needs 1 or 2 steps both sides, and normally pretty accurate.
That's a bonus, isn't it? If you can kick a goal from a kick-in, it's the least likely source of scoring.
Had 3 goals on the Blues last year, Bally. Taylor Walker in Adelaide's win in round 20.
Just a bit more height up there too. Riley Thilthorpe now going forward for Adelaide.
So the Crows by 17, midway through the opening term. Great to have you with us as part of Gather Round. O'Brien wins it down. Charging through was Cripps. There's a whistle for a hold. It'll go Adelaide's way. Back to Jordan Dawson, the skipper. Had Shelley running around him. Instead goes himself. Long ball into the 50. Intended target was Walker, held out of it. Back with the flight, couldn't be controlled by Young. Spills down to Jones. Off a step, he's pushed as he kicked, and it carries across the face. Far enough that it hits the right-hand behind post. No score. Free kick to Carlton in the scoreboard pocket. It's Adelaide 4-24. The Blues 1-1-7. 13.5 into the opening term. Aaron Bryans, Corbin Middlemass, Luke Ball and Rod Jamieson with you.
18 more disposals, Adelaide, than Carlton, but the problem from Carlton too at the moment, they're only going at 55%, Corby.
Cowan takes the free but turns it straight over as Rochelli with a contested mark. High half forward. Pokes the kick out wide. Will be taken by Michael Lanny, who's got it just outside the 50. The teenager will kick it to the top of the goal square. Walker again flies at it, punched away from him. Rankin there front and centre. Newman sweating on him. Ball spits out, collected by Hinge, runs the gauntlet, tackled and dispossessed. And in the end it was Newman who had to try and stop him. Broke the first tackle from Young, and Carlton on the last line win back the footy, top of the defensive goal square as Newman flares it out wide of the back pocket and hits up Akers.
Well, it's all been under pressure, Jamo. That's only their third mark for the quarter, so they might do well here just to try and maintain a bit of possession here, the Blues.
Akers races along the boundary line, then heads up to centre wing western side. O'Brien was in the middle of the pack and could have claimed it, just couldn't control it. Durden at the fall of the footy, wrapped up by Sloane. Ball up to come right in front of the benches. Broadcast side in front of us here at the Adelaide Oval. Sellout crowd. The opener to gather round. Tossed up. Pitnet wins it down straight to Kennedy, who gives it off. Akers again for the Blues. Heads up to the attacking 50. 2-on-2. Mackay brings it down. Coming across. Motlop against Michael Lanny. Couldn't get there. But scatters for the Crows. Hands it off to Murray and he can exit up to the western wing to Walker.
Kick the last goal of the game. Adelaide have 4 of the first 5. He's in the defensive half here. Tex. Crows by 17.
Had to slow it down. Nothing ahead him.
15 minutes into Q1. Pulls the trigger back inboard to Dawson. The skipper goes wide to Millerer, who marks, and a short kick back inboard to Pedler. So happy to play the patient, slow build-up game here, Adelaide, with Carlton well set. Plenty of white jumpers back. Pedler's just going to load up and bang his long left foot over the hot spot. Thumped away by Pitnet out of bounds. A throw in 35 metres around from the Adelaide goal. Kicking to the Cathedral end in the opening term. They're 4 straight. Carlton 1-1, 16 minutes in.
Big raps on young Pedler. Gemma, I think, don't they? Back into the side. Beautiful long left foot on him.
And loves the tackle. Hard,
tough,
full contest.
Toss back in. Pitnet with a fist. Smashed it straight into his opposing ruckman, Thilthorpe. Carries just to the boundary line, but Dawson keeps it in. A little 1-2 with Laird. Then pops it in looking for Fogarty. Beautiful vision amongst 4 Blues. And on return from medial injury, Darcy Fogarty will have a shot at goal. 45-degree angle left of centre. About 35 out.
It's the hardest kick in footy, that kick inside 50 to find a mark, and he's just threaded the needle there, hasn't he? Jordan Dawson continue on his good form, up to 6 possessions already, winning ball inside and out, 3 contested, 3 uncontested, and every time he gets it, I think he kicks it at 90% across the year, so certainly want the ball in his hand, kicking inside 50.
It's the last 2 games. Darcy Fogarty, 5-1 for the year. He'll kick from 40 and back with a bang. Darcy Fogarty pushes it out to a 23-point advantage to the Crows. 17 minutes in, they're 5 straight 30 to the Blues, 1-1-7 on Grandstand AFL.
What they've been able to wrest Adelaide since the first 2 rounds is their efficiency in front of goal. They've kicked 12-18 against the Giants, and then against Richmond it was 10-16. The following 2 games, 18-9, 17-9, and here we are now into the first quarter. 9 inside 50s for 5 straight, so just the pressure that applies to your opposition.
Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Lockie Plowman, as we said earlier, was preparing to spend the night in the grandstand. A late inclusion. He's now come off with a blood rule, just getting his nose attended to. He'll be right, though. He's back on the ground shortly for the Blues.
Thanks, Mitch. 6 goals in the first term last week against Freo, 5 against Port Adelaide, and they kicked 4-9 the opening quarter of the season against GWS. So fast start again for the Crows. They're going forward out of the middle. Laird, hand pass to Dawson, slips over, gets up and puts it straight on the chest of Rochelli. Marks at centre half forward, 45 out.
It's one of the greatest things, Paulie, that I've sort of heard from the opposition, and certainly everyone that follows the foot, is the relentless pressure when you come up against Adelaide. That's the brand that Matthew Nicks is just trying to build within the club.
Just dominating out of the centre too at the moment, aren't they? Dawson again. had time to slip over, get back up, lace out his forward.
Rochelle, he'll have to kick it from right on the 50. His drop punt is superb. 6 goals, 6 goal kickers. A lights-out start for the Crows. They are humming. 6 straight to 1-1. Adelaide by 29 already. 19 gone first term.
Corby, there's 10.5 minutes remaining in this first quarter, so there is still a lot of damage. Carlton have the ability to somehow arrest it, slow it down. Just the thing for me, Paulie, here, looking at some of the, I guess, the metrics in the back half coming into this game, the Crows have scored they're the number 1 going inside 50 when they do get it in there. And the Blues are the number 2 at stopping it as well. So already Adelaide have started in the manner they have, and Carlton just can't find a way 10 minutes into this first quarter.
6 goals from 10 inside 50s. That's a horror start, isn't it, for Michael Voss and his coaching staff.
In the first 2 rounds, Adelaide were worst in the league for scores from set shots. Completely accurate tonight. O'Brien wins it down to Laird. Little 1-2 with Sloane. Now Laird heads up towards half forward for the Crows. Walker caught behind in the pack. Off hands. Trickles down to Ed Curnow. Couldn't gather at his toes. Thilthorpe can, though. He wants to play as a mid. He's doing well. Got it to Laird. Then Sloane. Now Smith. Heads into the 50. Fogarty pulled it out of nowhere. It was a bit too high. Hollands was waiting at the back. Fogarty at the last possible moment stuck both mitts up and reeled it in.
That's a work rate issue now, Jamo. There's just more Adelaide jumpers in the screen at every contest than Carlton jumpers, and it's a hiding in contested possessions, 24-11 already. Really ugly viewing again for the Carlton coaching staff, and goodness me, would this be almost a knockout blow?
40 out, straight in front. Fogarty misses to the left-hand side.
Calling for the round 1 knockout.
Well, goodness me, 7 goals to 1 in the first quarter. It's
the first blemish of the Crows, 6-1-32. Carlton 1-1-7, time on in the first on Grandstand AFL.
Well, they just can't get their hands on the footy. 40 more disposals, Adelaide, than Carlton, and Adelaide are going at 81%. That's incredible, the clean.
It's hard, long kick out to half-back, and Mackay, strong contested mark in front of Butts, but a long way from goal.
Yeah, well, it's desperate times, isn't it? The big fella's got to come up to the half-back line to get his hands on the footy.
Kicks down the wing to Silvani, no mark, spills to Durden. Sweating on him, Hinge, later tackle. Durden got a hand pass away, but turns it over. Sloane for the Crows, hand pass back to Hinge, kicks down the interchange and finds Scholl. Marked straight in front of the interchange gates. A 30-point lead for Adelaide, 21 minutes into the quarter, but still 9 minutes on the game clock, 6 goals to 1.
Scholl heads to the 50. It wasn't a great kick. Didn't favour Fogarty, who had 3 to beat. Young brought it to ground. Couldn't control it. And the Crows have got away with it again. Rochelle gets it off to Laird. His handball was poor, though, as he headed back towards the arc, and Ed Curnow will have scored it over the boundary line. The Blues, Bally, had 4 defenders there.
Yeah.
Couldn't beat Darcy Fogarty.
It's a great example. So at the moment, the Crows are trusting one to go in and win it, and then they're just spreading faster than Carlton and getting them on the outside.
Adelaide by 30. Toss back in. Thilthorpe won it down, charging through Cripps. May have been held by Laird. Certainly sold it, then fell onto the footy. Wrapped up, 55 out. Umpire circles and says, I'll have it.
Cripps, Kennedy, Chera, Walsh, Curnow, Hewitt. There is some experience in there. They need to show some leadership around it. Mid-game is to be able to find a way to slow things down.
Thilthorpe wins the hit out at half forward, but down to Chera. Hand pass out wide for Fisher. Sweating on him, Rankin, and the ball ends up out of play off the Fisher hand pass, and the ump says insufficient intent. Free kick Adelaide.
Just handball straight to the ground, didn't he? Rankin speed. Rankin
kicks inside the forward 50 and dropping in the hole is Ed Curnow. Courageous mark with the pressure from Fogarty, and he was hit late, so Ed Curnow, who's still slow to get up after that late bump, is hunched over but grabs the share and is about to run 50 metres downfield.
Just undisciplined there from Fogarty. It was a poor kick from Rankin inside 50, but Fogarty just had to they had them locked in, didn't they? Just had to
Ed Curnow with the offload made Newman wait for it. Kicks to centre half forward over the head of De Koning. Spills down to Duday. Hand pass back into pressure. Sloane couldn't grab it. Spills to Silvani. Shoots goalward. He's missed everything. Out on the full. The Riverbank stand end of the ground. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Carlton have tapped into their posts of cryptic messages. They've got the sign holding up now from the bench with a power button, the same button you see if you turn your computer on or off. They're trying to get a bit more out of this side.
I think they'll be jumping up and down on both feet to just shut it down.
I think that's what it is. I think that one's, let's shut it down, boys. Yeah. Let's try and keep possession of the footy for a minute.
I would have thought they'd been asking them to turn it on, the way they've started.
Adelaide have worked their way to the eastern wing. Walker on the 45, spots Duday. Looks to switch. He's got Hinge alone on the gather round logo, western side. Back into the square he goes. Smith. It's an easy kick mark game for the Crows. They're like witches' hats, the Blues. And inside 50, he's hit Rory Laird. 45 out, straight in front.
Oh, look at this.
Handed it off and charging through. Brodie Smith with the right boot. Bomb! They're rocking and rolling, the Adelaide Crows. 7-1-43. Carlton 1-1-7. 24 minutes in, the opening term on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball.
I'm sure the power button doesn't mean to go to sleep. Yeah. The opposition have got a free kick 50 metres out from goal and let the best kick in the team waltz in behind him and have an uncontested or an easy shot at goal. That's really, really worrying signs here for the Blues. We mentioned that, the game's almost out of hand already if they don't address something soon. And you're right, there's enough experience and senior players around the ball, Jamo, to do something about this. As you said, they just can't get their hands on the footy, and they're not working hard enough to be able to get into space to maintain the footy either.
First 7-goal opening term under Matthew Nicks. 36 points is Adelaide's lead, 7-1 to 1-1. Back in the middle, socket away by Dawson to the advantage of Smith. He kicks it again, but it's smothered. Ricochets out towards De Koning, who picks it up 60 from home. He bangs it to the unguarded goal square. It's offline and skids out of play. Right forward pocket. River end of the ground at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, Tom De Koning too. Great work in the middle of the ground. Put a smother on. Adelaide had possession. They were just about to clear once again and just doing all the work to go forward. Just wayward kick.
36-point lead to the Crows. Charlie Curnow yet to touch the footy. Toss back in. Carlton's attacking 50. O'Brien won it down. Coming through. Hewitt couldn't control it. Nice hip and shoulder from Miller. He got it back to O'Brien. The Crows can escape. Hinge to Keys. Out to the broadcast wing. Silvani waiting back. Philthorpe flew. Couldn't control it. But he was taken out of the contest.
Just over 200 centimetres. When you get back to the play, you're not going to be able to stop that. Although it's going to go to Fogarty.
Took a while to get it back to him. In the end, it will be an Adelaide ball just behind centre wing. Fogarty with a short kick, just 15 metres to his skipper Dawson.
Disposal number 13. The highest for Carlton is Zach Fisher with 4.
Been groundbreaking since he's moved into the middle. Heads into the 50, looking for Philthorpe. Front and square, he brought it straight down to Rankin, who hands it off to Murphy. On the boundary line, centres his kick, and the mark is taken at the top of the goal square by Pedlar. Flew out, charging from the goal line. And across the pack, he'll have a shot on goal from 15 out, straight in front.
Don't want to moz him, Bally, but 3 matches, he's kicked, 4 goals, I think, coming into this game. This is not his strength.
4 goals, 3, Jamo. But this is straight in front, on a platter, straight over the goal umpire's hat. The Crows are making a statement at the Adelaide Oval. 7 goals the lead. 26 minutes in. 8-1-49 plays 1-1-7 on Grandstand AFL.
It's a statement indeed. We heard them talk during the week about the fact that they were ready for prime time now, and goodness me, have they shown out in this first quarter. It's, as much of a horror show as it is for Carlton. We're more inclined to talk about the Crows now. That contest's not good enough from the Blues defenders. Luke Pedlar's 183 centimetres and he's outmarked 2 taller Carlton defenders. So just everything going right for the Crows. So impressive. Their toughness and their pressure in and inside the contest and their ability to run and spread and use the footy outside. It's been a complete quarter from them.
8 different goal kickers for their 8 goals as well. It's not as if sort of Tex Walker or someone's got hold of them up front. What a spread for Adelaide. No clean break out of the middle. There's a free kick. Rochelle put his head over it and was clipped high. And again, more go forward for the Crows out of the middle. Still 5 minutes remaining in the quarter, so we're only 3/4 of the way through. And Adelaide have kicked 8-1 to Carlton's 1-1. He flicks it out wide to Duday. On the eastern wing, goes along to the hot spot. Fogarty competes as another whistle on the play. High tackle, it's going Carlton's way. And to Cowan, but the advantage is applied. Holland's peeling off the back flank, goes to Curnow. His first touch, he takes the mark. Charlie wants to play on immediately. Kick to centre half forward, and his partner in crime, Mackay, takes the mark. Just a step inside the 50. He's getting jeered too. He beat his tribunal case during the week to be here after his late hit on Harry Sheasel, and South Australians weren't expecting to see him balling.
Probably his most predominant kick is one that he snaps over his right shoulder. Here he's got to go back and kick it straight. Short run up.
Harry Mackay from about 55 out. His left-footed drop punt is on target. It's there. But Carlton are playing way uphill. Just their second goal as the Crows have put 8 past them at the other end. 29 minutes into the opening term. Adelaide 8-1-49. Carlton 2-1-13. Crows by 36. Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball.
Well, it's a great kick, isn't it? And that's what he had to do. And it's their two big linchpins, their key forwards getting involved. Beautiful kick from Hollands to get it over the top of Murray, the Adelaide defender, to Charlie Curnow running back into space. And you thought that he might have had the rush of blood to wheel around, and he looked up and there wasn't anything there, so he was good enough to be patient and spot Harry Mackay, who was working his way back to goal as well. So well done. They had to find something, didn't they? And that came from the back half. So let's see if that can spring the rest of the Blues boys into action.
Reflected in the score, 55% time in possession to 20. Carlton, that is, the uncontested 59, Adelaide 17 to Carlton.
The Blues break a run of 6 unanswered goals. O'Brien wins it down in the middle. Laird on hands and knees, shovels it back out to his ruck. Gave it to Dawson, then back to Duday. The Crows controlling it at the moment. Duday heads up towards right half forward. Pedler in a one-on-one with Saab. Brought it down to Chase Jones. Shrugs the tackle from Saab, the All-Australian defender. Headed up to Keys, who couldn't mark in front at right half forward. Doesn't matter, because Jones kept fighting for it. Handball out wide to Pedler, who bursts away from 3 defenders. Retreats back to Duday. Off a step into the scoreboard pocket. He's found the hole where Wiedering was. He should have taken it all alone. Instead, he fisted it straight to Laird, who off a step has put it through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Adelaide 8-2-50. Carlton 2-1-13. And there's still 4 minutes to play in this opening term.
It just highlights the pressure, the perceived pressure that Carlton are under there. Wiedering should have just taken that, an easy, uncontested mark, but got a fist to it, and Adelaide had a shot on goal.
Nick Newman takes some ground and then thumps it to half-back, and Charlie Curnow, a contested grab between 2 Crows. Had Murray trailing and Hinge in front, and he came down with the Sharon. Swings his kick across the half-back line to Silvani, who marks, pokes the pass to the wing, and there's Hollands. Takes the mark eastern side. Chips it down to half forward. Ed Curnow giving chase. Runs onto the bouncing footy. Grubbers a kick inside 50. Up to meet it is Duday. Steps out of play with the footy and the pressure from Motlop, and will have a boundary throw in 40 out from the Carlton goal.
Well, that's a good sign. Ed Curnow just put his head down and ran about, sprinted 200 metres for that ball. That's the work rate that's required to get them back into this contest.
Toss back in. O'Brien entangled with Pitternet. Neither got a clean tap coming through. Kennedy couldn't control it. Miller came to meet him. Fall the ball. Head over the footy. Came out through Hinge. Got it to Miller. A clearing kick out to right half back. Keys hands it off to Dawson, and somehow Adelaide have rebounded with pace. They're away. Murphy back to Dawson, who can clean run through the corridor and head for home with an empty 50. Takes a bounce in the square. Had backspin. And they just got a hand to it on the goal line. Desperate stop there. Jack Silvani got back and makes sure it's just a minor score. Adelaide 8-3-51. Carlton 2-1-13. That's as close as it gets, Corby.
Nick of time. He's gone back behind the ball, Silvani, too, for this last couple of minutes. But it's exciting play, isn't it? Shades of the coast.
Shades of Michael Long and his father from the 93 grand final all those years ago with the goal line save as the long kick out to half-back for the Blues ends up with Motlop. Surge kick in the middle's a turnover. Puts it straight to Hinge. Short kick to Scholl. Crows with the footy just over halfway. Or they split behind him, Hinge and Fisher lucky not to give away 50. Shoulders lays it up to centre half forward. Fogarty the target. Young whacks it away from him. Spills down to Miller. Brushes one aside. 52 out. Kicks into the pocket. It'll slide out of play. Skidding into the behind post. And the boundary throw in forward pocket for Adelaide. 8-3 to 2-1. Crows by 38. We're at the 33-minute mark of the opening quarter, and there's still a couple of minutes on the game clock.
We've got here blood rule, I think. Wiedering, is it, or Pitnet?
Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
It's Mark Pitnet coming from the ground, just bleeding from his chin or neck region. He'll come off and get that attended to. Just on the power sign on the bench, they've taken it away, but Michael Voss, he's spent a lot of time in the last 5-10 minutes on his laptop, alternating between stats and vision. Keen to see how fired up he comes out at quarter time.
I think he'll be buying a cross lotto ticket.
Lucky for the Blues, they waited till De Koning got to the ruck contest before they tossed it back in. He didn't win it, spilled down and off a step. It's gone out on the full as Murphy headed for home on the left-hand side. So Adelaide still up by 38 points as we approach quarter time. The 10th time they've scored 50 in an opening term, Jamo.
Yeah, the possession at the moment, 26 marks to 10.
Long kick from Silvani out towards half-back. Competing in the air, Mackay a little slow to get up. Picks himself up now as De Koning wins the footy, still at half-back. Akers gave a hot footy to Kennedy. Rankin wanted it more, charging through traffic. Wins it for Adelaide. Hand pass to Butts, gives it to Rochelle. He kicks across the ground, a turnover. And Plowman takes the intercept mark, centre half-back for Carlton. He retreats into the defensive 50. Newman drops the mark. Plenty of time to regather, a 20-metre radius from anyone on the ground. Sweeping hand pass out to Young. He's going to give it back to Newman, who keeps on running up over halfway. Eastern boundary line, chips it along the wing, and Charlie Curnow skidding through. It hit the turf before he took it. And a boundary throw in high half forward for Carlton. Mitch Cleary.
Despite handing over the captaincy, Rory Sloane is clearly still the most vocal crow down here on the boundary, yelling out to his teammates, including Riley O'Brien, to kill that ball before out of bounds. That left Harry Mackay a little worse for wear in that marking contest. He has got up and continued the game.
80 seconds on the clock for the Blues. O'Brien wins it down though. Laird got a handball out to Murphy. Run down in the tackle from Cripps. And Dawson will have scored it back over the boundary line. Still on the eastern side in front of the Max Bashir stand. Big crowd tonight to kick off gather round. The hill, you could not move. Everyone on their feet at the northern end. Adelaide certainly rewarding them. Up by 38 points. Toss back in. O'Brien again wins it down to Laird. He's sandwiched in a tackle. Cripps was there alongside Shearer. We'll get a ball up on the logo.
I know you've been shouting them out, Jamo, but some of these numbers are outrageous.
They're insane, aren't they?
70 more disposals. Laird leads Adelaide with 15. Hollands and Newman lead Carlton with 5 disposals.
It's horror viewing. And the contest is the one that Michael Voss will be disgusted with, really. Plus 22 in a quarter of footy. First quarter, let alone.
Mitch?
Third Blues blood rule for the quarter. The second time Lockie Plowman's coming off just below his bottom lip, getting his blood rule attended to. A lady in Lockie Plowman in place of Mitch McGovern, out injured in the warm-up.
Mitch Cleary on the boundary. 8 goals to 2. 38 points Adelaide's lead from the restart. Riley O'Brien first clean touch. Hand pass to Jones. Gives it to Laird. Off balance. Kick forward, but Sard intercepts. Races back the other way. The wolf cries as he kicks to half forward. But a turnover. Duday with the intercept mark at half back. The experienced Crow. Adelaide by 38 in the waning moments of the opening term.
Just under a minute to go. You'd think Adelaide would just slow things down, maintain possession.
They've switched across the defensive 50 to Hinge. And now to Butts. Left back pocket. Not a lot ahead. He'll have to go to a pack. Kill some time with 25 seconds on the clock. Coming late. Big fly from Newman. He hit face first into the deck, but he did enough. Got it to Silvani. He's kicked it straight out on the full. Rushed the kick inside 50. That might just do us for the opening term. Adelaide free kick, left back pocket. Just need to be smart here.
Blake Akers was calling for a handball.
Hinge has possession of the footy. Playing on at left half back. Run along the boundary line and go long up to centre wing. Charging out to meet it. O'Brien went through his hands. Cowan at the back sends it back where it came from with a torp up to half forward. Whistle in the marking contest. It'll go Carlton's way. Cool. Right on the quarter time siren.
Just didn't need to do it, did he, Murray? Just maybe a bit of late in the quarter fatigue, just a bit sloppy, really. And Curnow certainly got the journey here, so he'd be frustrated, be annoyed with himself.
You wouldn't want it in anyone else's hands, Jamo.
Yeah, look, he's possibly got the distance, but he can't veer off the line, so he's going to have to run straight and just give it his best. But look, at the moment, he's the man that you want in his hands. He's kicked 16 goals.
Murray stands the mark, 51 out. Charlie Curnow will start in the centre square. Long run up, heads for home. Plenty of power, but no accuracy. Out on the full in the left forward pocket. A great little metaphor of Carlton's opening term. They've been absolutely demolished by Adelaide to kick off gather round. 8-3-51 they lead the Blues, 2-1-13.
Every other team in the competition will be here this weekend, and that's one way to get their attention. 8 goals past Carlton in the first quarter of gather round. 8-3 to 2-1. Adelaide by 38 points. 8 different goal kickers. Keys for Shelley, Pedler, Walker, Rankin, Laird, Fogarty and Smith. For the Crows, what a spread that is. Durden kicked Carlton's first and Harry Mackay their second. That's it for the Blues. Crows by 38 on ABC Radio, Sport Digital, and now streaming through the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
Victor Moa, Boomerang, Hills Hoist, One Day Cricket. Aussies are an inventive lot. It couldn't have been made anywhere else. Tony Armstrong is rolling open the shed door to explore Aussie creations.
They tell us who we are and the times we live in.
And in there lies the charm.
From Speedos to Stubbies to the humble meat pie.
Enjoy the show.
Great Australian stuff. Tuesday nights on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView.
You're listening to the AFL Gather Round.
Grandstand AFL.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Kick from Hinge inside 50 is poor. Takes a bounce beautifully for Fogarty though. On return from injury, he gathers and gives it to Murphy, sells some candy, heads into the scoreboard pocket, Sard with the lead over the top of Keys, couldn't control it, loses it to the Crows, Jones gives it back, Rankin from the tight angle, snaps for the opener.
Dawson, who runs away from his opposing captain Cripps, kicks to the outer wing. It'll sit okay for Pedler. Puts it inside the forward 50. On the hop, gets to Walker. Shoots a hand pass to Fogarty. To Keys. Top of the goal square. Got the ball. Crows have the first two. Walsh extracts it. Hand pass to Fisher. Gives it to Durden. Shoots goalward. And the SA boy has Carlton's first. Free kick picked out too. It's going to go the Crows' way. So Murphy takes it. Hand pass away to Laird. He flares it out to Scholl. He's got it on that logo out of wing. Kicks to Walker. Bit of body on Young. March plays on Dobson.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Down to the opening term, 8 goals to 2. Adelaide by 38 points. They did lead by as many as 42 at one stage in that opening quarter. Call for Middlemass, Aaron Bryans, our Grandstand AFL experts, Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball. But first, downstairs to Mitch Cleary. Mitch.
Ed Curno's just returned from the rooms, went down with a Carlton physio to get some work done, complaining of shoulder soreness at the start of the quarter-time break. As for the Crows, Josh Rochelle getting some work done and some treatment on his groin, has rejoined the huddle, though, for this quarter-time.
Thanks, Mitch. The SMS 0437 774 774. Hi, team. This round is really exciting. Enjoying the call. Bit envious of the people who get to be there at the stadium. Purely coming from a rivalry perspective, I hope the Crows win. Go the Pies. That's from M in Melbourne. So the SMS number 0437 774 774. Now, Bawley, we're at the MCG for the second half of the last game of footy that was played on Easter Monday. There were 16 goals kicked, 15 by one team. We've seen 10 goals kicked in the opening term here. So in the last 3 quarters of AFL footy, there's been 26 goals.
Extraordinary, yeah, and I think we spoke about that. Adelaide during the week we're welcoming this challenge on the big stage. Thursday night, everyone watching, and goodness me, have they been ready, Jamo? They've just been so impressive. We can touch on Carlton in a second and how horrible the numbers look, but right from the first bounce, you could tell they were on, weren't they? Their pressure inside, their ability to go in and win the contested footy. But what I liked was that. And you mentioned in the call a couple of times, I think, Aaron, that Carlton were overloading numbers at the contest. And what that meant was when they weren't winning it, that Adelaide were able to spread and outnumber on the outside as well. So they've got a really good balance at the moment, the Crows, between going in and winning the footy and then having that sort of contest method, that balance around the stoppage to have that numbers to be able to flick it out into space. And they always had numbers outside Carlton players into space, didn't they? And they just looked dynamic. They looked quick and dynamic. I've been so impressed. So couldn't have gone any better from the Crows. And, from a numbers point of view, Rory Laird, what a player he is. 16 possessions. Jordan Dawson, the skipper, 13. Really liked Hinge's game. Haven't seen a lot of him, certainly live. And playing across half-back, but looks really fast, but composed as well with ball in hand. And young Rochelle, he's been good as well. So a really even contribution across the ground. but their pressure around that. It started at the contest. Their pressure to force Carlton to cough it up, and then their ability to run and spread's what's been the most impressive thing for me, Gemmo.
Yeah, look, 5 of their 8 goals have come from that stoppage clearance work where Adelaide have got on top, and they've just been clean in that particular area. It's been the speed and efficiency that ultimately has got them in the position where they are. And go back at probably 2 years, Borley, I reckon you would have found you'd be talking about Adelaide and what you've just said about Carlton. Oh, they just get sucked into the contest and they get too many around to get 1 or 2 over the top, and Adelaide just get blown away. And a little bit of GWS in round 1 that's happened, so they've been able to arrest it pretty quickly too. But for me, it's just Carlton. The be able to just slow things down. It's easy to say from this position where you can just sort of see it unfolding, but look, slow it down, go sideways, hold on to the football. And when Carlton did have it in that first quarter, they didn't really do that. They wanted to continue to go forward, and they didn't have much ahead of the footy. They had to actually sit and wait too. But all Adelaide just with their, and 67 more disposals.
Yeah.
And the marks 29 to 11, uncontested 78 to 20. I mean, these numbers are insane for a quarter of footy.
If you're looking for, I mean, Curnow and Mackay look dangerous, don't they? There are times where the ball's been in their area and they've had one-on-ones. Their hands look sticky. They look dangerous. They just haven't been able to get their hands on it and get it down to them enough. So if you're looking for a positive from Carlton fans, surely they're going to be able to get their fair share of footy around the clearances this quarter.
Luke Ball and Rod Jamieson on Grandstand AFL. 38-point lead for the Crows as we start the second. O'Brien won the hit out and then got it down on his knees to win the footy. Hand pass to Sloan, gives it to Laird. Under pressure, hand pass missed Sloan, trying to get it back to him. Walsh picks it up, kicks inside 50 for Carlton. Tumbling out in front of Mackay, can't bend over to pick it up. Butts grabs it, he's dispossessed. Says he was tackled high. Free kick for Butts. He'll take it at half-back. For Adelaide, his father Gerald actually played for Carlton back in the late 80s. One of a couple of Sons of Blues out there playing for Adelaide along with Lockie Scholl.
Heads up to the western wing. Jordan Butts to a pack. Off hands, spills front and square to Jones. Somehow managed to get it out. Laird put Walker in a bit of trouble. He's caught in the tackle and turned it over. Chera sends it back towards the 50, but charging out. Tom Duday at his best, sliding in. Cuts it off for the Crows. Contract year, touring clubs circling. Crows fans love him though.
Stop it.
Heads back where it came from. Walker in front position with the double tap down. Waiting at the front. Jones is wrapped up by Cripps. He's been everywhere so far for the Blues tonight. One of their better players. Ball up to come just behind left half forward for the visitors.
Does he stay, Jamo?
I think so. He's put off talks until the end of the year. He started slow, but slowly starting to find the form and intercept the footy and close tagging, so he offers a lot.
Tom Duday was speaking about widely regarded as a future captain at one point of the club. Got another ball up here on the wing.
In the leadership group.
Crows by 38. O'Brien wins the hit out. Chera passing through the stoppage, just threw it to Walsh. Got a hand pass out to Hollands. He fumbles. Kennedy gathers, gives it to Walsh, gets it back. Kennedy kicks down to half forward. Big pack form, slips out the back to Durden. He couldn't control it. Michael Annie collects under pressure from Durden. Got a hand pass away. Duday back pocket for Adelaide. Hand pass to Smith. Gets back on his right boot. Looks for Jones. Kicks it over his head. Ed Curnow takes the intercept mark half forward.
Ed Curnow heads to the top of the goal square. He's looking for Harry Mackay. Nearly got free against Butts off hands. It'll roll through as Tom Duday lets it hit the left-hand goalpost. Minor score for the Blues. Trailing by 37 points, the first score of the second term.
Goes without saying, with some of these Carlton prime movers need to get their hands on the footy a bit. Hewitt only the one possession. Kennedy only 4.
Smith brings it into Murray, marks at half-back, and then moves it on quickly down to Walker, who locks up with Young. The ball slips past both of them. Dawson runs onto it. There with Cripps. In the end, Young comes back to lend a hand for the Blues. Hand pass forward to Akers. Under pressure immediately as well from Scholl. Still no clean handle to the greasy footy. In the end, Walker's clean. Picks it up off the deck. Hand pass to Dawson for Adelaide. Jams it on the boot. Kicks it 3 rows back. Out on the full. Free kick for Carlton at half-back. It's all Adelaide. They lead by 37 points, 8-3 to 2-2. 3 minutes into the second quarter on Grandstand AFL. The SMS number is 0437 774 774. Let us know where you're listening. Perhaps if you've made the trip to South Australia this weekend or are on your way for Gather Round.
The Crows fans in the Mark Rashudo stand wouldn't give the footy back to Adam Sark, so we've had a bit of a delay here as Carlton look to get going off right half back. Meanwhile, Adelaide's had a chance to set up. Finally, they bring it in.
Short kick. inside Adelaide's forward 50. 4 inside 50s to Carlton for 1 rush behind in this quarter.
Sard went to Cowan, now Chera back where we started at right half back. Jordan Dawson had 27 last week at 96% efficiency, so you don't see out on the fulls often. Down the line he goes. Mackay crunches the pack. Spilt to Laird. He couldn't control it against Walsh. And a boundary throw-in to come on the eastern side. Down on the boundary, Mitch Cleary.
Aaron, just as Michael Voss was delivering his stern message at the quarter-time break, there was about 5 or 6 Adelaide Oval ground staff just replacing divots almost like a golf course. 6 games here. They're going to be under the pump this weekend.
Jordan Dawson across his 4 games, Aaron, is down at 86%, both by foot and hand, so he's all class.
Boundary throw-in led again. First disposal, hand pass to Hinge. His kick smothered. Ricochets out of bounds. Another throw-in on that eastern wing. It's hard to spot too many spare seats. Full house game's been sold out for weeks as the opener to gather round. Adelaide and Carlton. We're seeing a Crows showcase for the first quarter and a bit for the boundary throw-in. O'Brien grabs it, kicks it forward for Adelaide, but straight to Newman, defensive side of the wing, hands it out wide to Ed Curnow, kicks down the wing for Carlton. Bowled over in the chase was Duday. Carlton winner Silvani away towards Chera to Mackay. Mackay kicks and a goal square. Charlie went one-handed, spills it and through it goes for a rush behind. A little sloppy right on the goal line for the Blues. 8-3 to 2-3. Adelaide by 6 goals neat as we tick past the 5-minute mark in the second term.
Well, they've been able to arrest it, Carlton, haven't they? They've gone forward multiple times and just the ease in which they should have been able to finish off on that occasion.
Murray looked for Fogarty at right half back. He was outnumbered, brought it to ground, and Keys applies a high tackle on Chera at the 4 of the footy. Plays on immediately. The former Docker heads to the left forward pocket, coming across Duday with the spoil. Had to go twice. Did enough to knock it through for a minor score on the left-hand side. The Blues slowly chipping away at the deficit, but still trailing by 35 points.
Adam Chera, another one that was virtually unsighted in the first quarter. He's up to 5 possessions already in the second.
The Crows go quick as Murphy marks defensive side of the wing, kicks beyond it to Dawson. Another inside 50 to Walker. Coast to coast from the kick out and Tex marks. 25 out, just left at centre.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow Adelaide, when Jordan Dawson just gets the footy in his hand, he's already had 3 in this quarter and he's had 16 for the match, and Taylor Walker was 20 metres away. You think as a defender it's going to be enough flow in the air to be able to get to it, but no chance when Jordan Dawson's got the football 60-70 out.
13th game against the Blues. He's never been goalless. He's got 1 already as Tex Walker jogs in for the first of the second term. No. Misses across the face. But a score from a kick out. So big problems for Carlton everywhere at the moment. 8-4 to 2-4. Back to 6 goals the margin. 3 behinds for Carlton from 6 entries for the quarter, and Adelaide now 1 score from 1 entry. 6 minutes into this second term.
Sard plays on and heads long to left half back. O'Brien was in front position, brought it down. Motlop at the 4 of the footy, handed it wide. Fisher in game 100, got it out towards Walsh. He turned it over. Coming across Duday, caught in the tackle. He's held up close to the boundary line and will get a ball up.
6 goals is not a big margin in this game, is it too? But just the way Carlton are performing at the moment, you can't see them making an indent in that at the moment.
Tony won it down looking for Hewitt. Lost it immediately in the tackle. Dawson's now brought down in a chicken wing almost. Held up close to the boundary line. We'll get another ball up. Mitch Cleary's downstairs.
Mark Pitnet, the Carlton ruckman, has 2 Carlton doctors attending to an eye injury. High tech down here. They actually got their phone torch out to look through his eye to see what's wrong with it. He is still in the hands of docs down here.
A very useful device, isn't it, the smartphone? Free kick here for the Crows from the boundary throw-in, and Sloan was held without it. So the former skipper with that heavy strap in on his right knee. Looks inside a congested forward 50 from 70 out. Just pokes the pass against the boundary line to Jones. And the number 1 right on the junction of the 50 and the boundary line. Lays it up top of the goal square. Walker hands to it. No mark. Spills to Rochelle. Kicks one high up and under into the pocket. Sard underneath it. Takes the mark. Back pocket for Carlton. They've got it all to do. Down by 6 goals early in the second term, the Blues.
Spots a target on the switch to Fisher. It's a bit of a dangerous kick as Hinge charged late, but he got there. Hands it off to Kennedy. Down the western wing, Mackay presents. Marks centre wing, then hands it off, running alongside. Silvani heads towards the attacking 50. Didn't have a lot of options. He put it in the path of Charlie Curnow, but just a little too wide for him. Takes a couple of bounces and over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back in, 25 out.
Just the balance of how you want to play. Yes, Carlton they were able to get it out of their back half, but Jackie just wanted to keep going. He had to nail it to Ed, but there were two defenders with him, and that's the end result, going out of bounds.
O'Brien and Silvani lock up. Silvani got a hand to it, spills down to Sloanhead. Curnow tackles him, ball comes out. Silvani collects, hand pass, a clean turnover, straight to Scholl. Bangs it out of the defensive arc. De Koning competes on the wing, spills down underneath Rankin, though, as he's tackled immediately by Newman. Got the job on him, and we'll have a ball up here, high half forward for the Blues. Adelaide by 36, 9 gone, second term.
Tossed up, O'Brien entangled with De Koning. The Crows won it down, but he gave it straight to the Blues through Chera. Nice little dance step from Walsh, who heads into the left forward pocket. Coming out Curnow, but it's spoilt away by Murray. Seems to have the better of him so far tonight, Jamo.
Well, look, we spoke a little bit about them coming into the game too, and how good they've been as those stop defenders, but the way Carlton are delivering into that forward 50, it'd make it easy for a defender.
Boundary throw-in on the paint of the Blues, attacking 50, trailing by 36. De Koning wins it down into the path of Chera, immediately tackled and lost it. Laird clears it as he's pushed to ground, straight back to Sard. Arches the back, heads into the 50. Curnow presents, juggles, and at 3 bites he pulls it in just as he hits the turf. Murray was right on him, and that's why Charlie Curnow is one of the best in the league.
Almost ran under it.
Yeah, he did. He just got a slight nudge, didn't he? But that's a brilliant effort. At that speed, for a big fella to be able to... We just kept his eyes on the footy, really, didn't he? And he got it on the third grab. Adam Stard slowly working his way into this game as well. It was a beautiful kick.
Curnow needs 2 tonight to match Jeremy Cameron in the Coleman race. He'll kick from 55. It was awful. Wide so far, it's nearly at the scoreboard and out on the full. Free kick to Adelaide, who remain up by 36 points. 10-minute mark of the second term. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Carlton has pulled the trigger on their sub. Mark Pitnet out of the game. Appeared to be an eye injury. Josh Honey's thrown the warm-up top off. The number 36 warming up on the boundary for the Blues.
Thanks, Mitch. Big call early in the game for the boundary throw-in. Comes down to Laird. Kicks one high up and under. Still inside Carlton's forward 50. Curnow competes. Murray thumps it away from him. Fisher wins it back half forward. Hand pass to Akers. Gives it to Cowan. Gets it back. Akers kicks inside the forward pocket. Flying is Murray. No mark. Spills to Durden. Tackled in the same motion as soon as he grabs it. Duday takes him to ground. A ball up left forward pocket for the Blues.
Just working their way on top, though, aren't they? Been able to control field position here, the Blues. That's 9 inside 50s to 2 for the quarter. Need to get themselves some reward on the scoreboard.
Tossed up. Both rucks got a hand on it. And carried all of 2 metres and over the boundary line where we'll get a proper boundary throw-in. Northern end.
Flossie's had to work hard tonight too, isn't he? You've Mitch McGovern out pre-game. Tom De Koning now has to do majority of the ruck. You think Jack Silvani will do a fair bit of that too, but 2 probably second-string ruckmen have just got to find a way to find their teammates.
O'Brien 4th in the league for hit-outs. He wins that one down. Again, straight to Chera, though. They're an odd combination in terms of rivals. He's wrapped up immediately in a tackle. We'll get another ball up. 40 out. Slight angle to the left. Inside, the Blues attacking 50.
Paddy Cripps on the boundary. 1 disposal in this quarter.
De Koning wins it down. Straight through Hewitt. At the back, Saligo off a step. He's been quiet so far. Clearing kick. Carried just the 15. It should have been taken by Akers. He did well on the second bite anyway. Gave it to Walsh, who turned it straight towards the boundary. Tried to get it to Ed Curnow and just slipped out of his hands.
That right shoulder of his is a real problem, isn't it, too? He's worried he can't really reach it out. That handball was just to the side of him. He couldn't put out both hands.
Well, it was from the knock on Fogarty in the first quarter, wasn't it? Where he cannoned into his back. So, yeah, it's an interesting watch.
The boundary throw in, Chera, hand pass away to Hewitt. He gives it to Akers, high half forward, kicks it deep for Charlie Curnow, and Duday's up, whacks it away from Hinch, his own teammate. The only 2 that flew, and we'll have a boundary throw in forward pocket for Carlton. The Blues in all white tonight, just with the navy panel down the side of their jumper and the outline of the monogram in the middle of the Carlton plain strip. The Crows predominantly in navy blue tonight with their custom jumper with the outline of the Crow. For the boundary throw-in, stoppage goal chance for Walsh. Chucks it on the boot, gets the kind bounce. It tumbles through for a goal. Walsh makes his return, celebrates it too. But it's Adelaide who have been doing more of that. The Crows by 30 points still 8-4 to 3-4, 13 and a half minutes into the second term. That's our first goal of the quarter. It also gives Carlton 2 in a row for the first time tonight.
Well, they get some reward. It wasn't pretty, was it? But sometimes you've just got to find a way to scrap a goal. And Sam Walsh, it's great to see him back. He's looked pretty sharp, a bit rusty with a few disposals, but up to 11 possessions now. We know what he's going to bring to this Carlton team and trying to will them back into the contest. So well done. Threw it onto the boot. A little bit of luck involved, but I just needed to, as I said, get reward for effort. That was their 11th inside 52 for the quarter. So tide slowly starting to turn.
Thoughts on the Miles Bridges sort of 2-3 celebration, Bally, when the team's 6 goals down?
No, I missed it. I missed it. I'll have to have another look at it, Corp.
Crows by 30. Not sure you'd be celebrating at the moment if you're the Blues. De Koning wins it down. Head over the footy. Pushing the back goes the way of Hewitt. They'll take the advantage. Ed Curnow towards the 50. Back with the flight. Duday cuts it off just inside the defensive arc.
It's the modern player, though, isn't it?
Yep.
It's all about the celebration, and usually it's American sport related.
Yep.
Went wide to Miller down the line. He looked for Walker. Newman comes across to fist it into the second row.
And scoreboard stage of the game, irrelevant.
Yeah, I was about to say,
get that on Instagram, isn't it?
I shouldn't say, because I love the celebration, and then I can't really come out and kill him when he does it when the team's behind.
Well, he might kick another goal, so that's his only chance to do it for the game. Doesn't matter what the scoreboard says.
Crows by 30 points. Blues have kicked the last 2, though, for whatever that's worth. After an avalanche to start the game from the home team, from the boundary throw-in, Silvani puts his head over it. Pack forms around him. Comes out the back door to Ed Curnow. Took 2 tacklers with him, but squeezes a kick in reverse. Went out towards Newman. Hand pass away to Kennedy. Hurried ball down to high half forward. Mackay flies outnumbered. Spills through to Murray. Hand pass wide to Duday. Threads it forward to Miller. Kicks along the boundary line. Pantler at full stretch. No mark. Newman keeps it alive for the Blues. Hand pass just inside that eastern boundary line to Hewitt. Skids through, wins it. Gives it to Cripps. Hand pass out in front of Newman. This is okay from the Blues. Kicks inside forward 50. Big collision mid-air. Duday and Michael Annie. Spills down to Charlie Curnow. Tumbles a kick to the behind line and through it goes. Kicked it in favour Fisher, who was lurking top of the goal square. Another behind for the Blues. They've kicked a few of them in this quarter.
I don't think they'll pay it, Corby. There was a free kick, which I actually not sure if it was there. It was Michael Annie colliding with Duday, and they've given a free kick to the Crows in that contest.
Score stays the same. Crows by 30. 16 played second term.
They'll head up to the eastern side. There's a holding whistle now. And this time it's going Carlton's way. No one knows who it's supposed to go to, who is the offender. In the end, Tom De Koning will receive the footy on the logo centre wing.
Well, Lewis Young thought it was his too, so not only the umpires don't know, the players don't know.
A reprieve for the Blues, who are under fire at the moment. De Koning heads to the scoreboard pocket. Motlop uses the body. Off hands, it trickles close to the boundary line. He's surging onto it, but can't control it in the tackle. Butt's got there to meet him. Pushes him over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play right next to the right-hand behind post. But good pressure there from the Crows' defence.
Great defensive pressure too. Jesse Motlop was away, clean take, and just Bartz did what he had to do.
Boundary throw-in, deep forward for Carlton. Thilthorpe wins the hit out for Adelaide. Then a follow-up hand pass back into congestion. Michael Annie collects. He's drilled in a 2-man tackle almost immediately. Ball up forward pocket.
Never see the veins come out of Vossi's neck. Not sure if they were at quarter time, but Carlton have found a way to slow the game down and get it in their forward half.
Still forward pocket for the Blues. Thilthorpe more decisive touch. That was clever from Laird. He tried to keep it alive and handball the opponent's boot. Ricochets out of bounds. Ump says spin it in. 30 out from Carlton's goal. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Just on Sam Walsh's NBA-inspired celebration. Spent all of October in the States watching NBA games before going for back surgery in December. So maybe picked up something on his overseas trip.
Crows by 30. We're inside Carlton's attacking 50, though, from the boundary throw-in. It's knocked in the path of Saligo. Turned it straight over. Busting through a couple. Hollins shakes off 3. Gets a kick up to the right forward pocket to Charlie Curnow, who rises above. And there's a bit of biff after between Michael Annie and Motlop. It won't matter because Charlie Curnow has it in the scoreboard pocket. Tight angle, but only 10 out.
What's with the small blokes, Paulie? They're always a bit lippy.
A bit angry, aren't they? Yeah. We did say at quarter time they were looking dangerous. They were looking on the limited opportunities they had in that first quarter.
Curnow opens the angle on the left. It's flat, but it's true. And Carlton get back-to-back goals for the first time this evening. The deficit down to 24 points. The Blues 4-4-28. Adelaide 8-4-52. 18 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, it touched on the 6 goals, not a big margin too, and Carlton are a good side. We know they weren't just going to sit back and allow what happened in that first quarter to be so one-sided in favour of Adelaide. In this quarter, Carlton have really taken it up to them. They've only got probably nearly 20 more disposals. They're going at 72%, 13-2 inside 50, so they've arrested it. They haven't, as you touched on, Borley, they haven't been able to finish as well, but 2 goals in this quarter, but they're slowly chipping away and only 4 goals down.
Yeah, no, we're going to come with those. So now it's on the Crows to absorb, isn't it? The pressure. We know the AFL footy, momentum game, so real challenge for the Crows now to be able to gain some territory and maybe just maintain possession of the ball as well.
No Pitternet, so Silvani rocking a lot. Philthorpe outpoints him here, down to Laird, hand pass towards the outer wing, comes the way of Rochelle, gives it to Keys, dumped up to get him rid of the footy. Rochelle goes back, collects, centre half forward, gives it to Keys, his hand pass picked off, inadvertently socked away by Hewitt, still a live footy, centre half forward for the Crows, comes out to Scholl, hand pass to Rochelle, slips the side tackle, hand pass back to Smith, took on one, gives it back to Rochelle, floats a high kick to centre half forward, Fogarty crashes the pack, ball spits out, Wiedering grabs it, centre half back, looks into the middle of the ground.
Rubber of a kick along the deck, but it somehow worked. Coming across Honey, the sub, activated for Pitternet, hands it off to Ed Curnow, his kick was poor. It's just stayed in for Hollands, who gathers on the paint, eastern side. Hands it forward to Hewitt, little underground one to Silvani. Behind centre wing, he heads high to right half forward. They're outnumbered at the moment, and the Crows win out. Scholl outmarks Durden. On the 45, he spots Rochelle. Adelaide by 24 points. Hot crowd, over 50,000 in to start gather round.
Gave the umpire a cheer as he came in, lost his feet.
Rochelle on the 45 again, close to the boundary line, hits Duday. Plenty of footy tonight for him. Charges forward, then heads up to left half forward. Walker at the back of the pack, brought it down, coming through Cherrett. Threw back the head as if he got one high. Don't think he did. And the umpire certainly saw it that way in Alex Wetton. Ball up to come at left half forward.
I don't think it matters which state you watch footy in, Jamo. That'll never not be funny. From the boundary throw-in, Philthorpe palms it down. There's a high up and under from Rankin. Just stays inside the boundary line. Newman thought the mark was paid. He was crunched from behind. Pack forms behind him. Newman gets up, looks at the umpire and says, "What about that?" We'll have a ball up, half forward for the Crows.
Fogarty and Pedler from Adelaide haven't touched the football in this second quarter.
Crows by 24 points, but goalless in this second term after kicking 8 in the first. 21 minutes old. Sloan gives it to Rochelle. Kick smothered. Nice work, Chera. Ricochets to Motlop in the centre square. His hand pass a turnover. Sloan collects. Taken down in the two-man tackle. Ed Curnow and Chera have got him. And a ball up. Front edge of the centre square for Adelaide. They lead by 4 goals. Time on second quarter.
Yeah, they've dialed it up, haven't they? The pressure this quarter. The Blues had a lot more of the footy, but they've out-tackled the Crows as well. 22 tackles already for the quarter, so quarter time sprays worked.
Silvani won it down. Dawson came through, handed it to Sloan, but he slipped and has coughed it up. The Blues are away now. Chera takes 2 bounces up to right half forward, hands it wide into the 50 from Durden, and he's looking for Mackay. Great diving spoil from Butts. Although they've given it away, they have. Free kick to Carlton. Butts dived across the front of Mackay. Yeah. Must have had a bit of the jumper in there.
Just the left arm. It was a desperate spoil with the right arm, but the umpire was right there too. That's that 4 umpire system probably working. Just saw a grab of the jumper, so not much in it, but in a good spot for Big Charlie, Big Harry.
Opens the angle from 35, right on the boundary line. He's got 2. Magnificent finish. The Blues with 4 goals either side of quarter time. Game on at the Adelaide Oval. 18 points the margin. Adelaide 8-4-52. Carlton 5-4-34. Time on in the second. Aaron Bryans, Corbin Middlemass, Luke Ball, Rod Jamison with you on Grandstand AFL.
How much we love this game too is that just swings that first quarter all Adelaide. They kicked 8 goals to Carlton, only the 2. Absolutely smashed them. And with nearly 6 minutes remaining or just under, here we are talking about how Carlton is starting to dismantle, just slow Adelaide down. 3-3, 14 side 50s. Adelaide have only scored the 1 behind.
Is that the beauty of having just 2 big gun forwards, isn't it? You know that if you can just get possession, level out around the contest, get enough ball inside 50, you're always going to be a chance. And They both look really sharp from the first bounce tonight.
Adelaide by just 3 goals now, having led by 7 earlier in the ball game. Free kick here for Laird as he charges in, grabs the footy, and Cripps has got him high. Hand pass to Miller, peeling off the back of the square. Hands it to Dawson, puts it inside 50, and there's Fogarty. Takes the mark left half forward. He'll be kicking from about 45 out.
Oh, it's just so important, that run and rebound. You just take a free kick or a mark and you're just sitting there waiting, but you need something to come from behind. And Miller was great. Jordan Dawson, they're the players you don't want to have the footy. And this what's missing tonight is Doherty, that run and rebound, and Saad's already done it part way through this second quarter.
Expected to miss 4 to 6 with that knee complaint on his meniscus, Sam Doherty. He's Fogarty on the set shot, the drop punt, sails goalward. He's hit it flush. Stops the run of 4 consecutive Carlton goals. And Adelaide are back out to a 4-goal lead. 9-4 to 5-4. 25 travelled second term. The Crows by 24 points.
Much needed, wasn't it? And it was their gun players involved. Laird winning the hard ball in the centre circle. And then Jordan Dawson, again, he just did too much space forward of centre. That'll really frustrate the Carlton coaching staff. He's had 6 inside 50s and 5 of them have led to a mark. A shot on goal. So well done, the leaders of the Crows, realising the moment there and stepping up, and nice finish from young Fogarty as well.
Just the energy that Carlton have come in this second quarter. 22 to 14 tackles in their way, but also the amount of football they've had. 1,000 metres gained to Adelaide's only 780.
Beautiful bounce in the middle. Laird stayed down and won it down in the path of Laird. Dawson rather has a bit of space. He kicks up to right half forward on the bounce. Keys under a bit of pressure from Saad. Got a handball clear. Bursting through Jones. Just had a bit too much momentum. Akers picks it up. Gets boot to ball in the tackle as it rolls towards De Koning. Had O'Brien on his tail. He wraps him up. Got a handball out late. Or did he? He was legged.
It's called too high.
O'Brien almost slipped in the tackle, and somehow he's got one arm on the quad and one arm on the shoulder. Free kick to the Blues ruck. The paint of defensive 50. He looks to switch. It's up Wiedering. But not a lot of options on the eastern side, and he's stuck in no man's land.
All-Australian on the last 3 years. Jacob Wiedering goes short to Cowan. One of 4 teenagers out there. He's the youngest of them at 18. The Tasmanian. As Lockie Cowan goes along the wing, and there's Mackay. Big towering mark. Hand pass inside to Chera. Chera does a full 360. Hand pass back to Walsh. Not a heap up ahead. Gives it to Hewitt. Squeeze the kick out back to Chera. Carlton get themselves in a slow play with Adelaide well set up. Crows by 24. They kick the last just to keep the Blues at bay after 4 consecutive goals against them. Chera along with the contest. Kick to half forward. Mackay competes again. Spills down to Butts. Wide hand pass ends up with Duday against the boundary line. Hooks a kick back down the wing. Philthorpe competes. No mark. Falls through to Young. Hand pass back to Plowman, who has a fumble for the Blues.
Did well under pressure. Got it back out to Cowan, who bangs it towards the 50. Again, they're outnumbered. Flying. De Koning brought it down. Front and square, though. Laird got it to O'Brien. Then Jones. Handballs out to the boundary line. Hits Miller up. Back where it came from, up to the eastern side. This is a bit more of a fairer contest. 2-on-2, and Philthorpe rises above to plunk the mark. Outstanding since his return from the Sandful. The pick 2 heads up to left half forward. Fogarty, speaking of fat marks, plunks it on the second bite. Wants to play on quickly. Centres his kick to Jones. The 2 first-round picks combined. He's not confident. Chase Jones, the man on the marks, 45 out. His teammates are telling him to go back. He's done just that all the way to the middle of the centre square.
Yeah, 3 first-round picks. It's a good sign, isn't it? Philthorpe coming out to the centre wing and taking a big mark. Fogarty, a contested mark. Chase Jones is just starting to really settle in his career, isn't he? As that high draft pick, 60 games.
Was the whipping boy for so many seasons. Comes in and kicks from 50. He's answered his critics. That is a monster kick from the 23-year-old. Chase Jones makes it a 30-point advantage once again. 10-4-64. The Blues 5-4-34. Still 2 minutes to play in the second term on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, such good work by Carlton up until that point. 4-minute mark. Adelaide have been able to get 2 and just put that margin back out to the 30 points just to make it a little bit harder maintain possession. Harry Mackay wanted to move it on really quickly. Walsh got it out the other side. He wanted to go back and slow it down, maintain possession. Defensive Adelaide were able to work their way through up until that point. Carlton have done such a really good work defensively to be able to restrict Adelaide to move the football forward.
Adelaide 8 of the first 9 goals. Carlton the next 4. And now the Crows the last 2. Adelaide by 30 points. 29 gone second term. Corbin Middlemass, Aaron Bryans, Rod Jamieson, Luke Ball and Mitch Cleary. Your call team for the opener to gather round a full house at Adelaide Oval. De Koning whacks it down straight to O'Brien, though. He's opposing ruckman. Hooks a kick out to the wing. Hitting up Kennedy off the back flank. Grabs it, lost it in the tackle. Spills down to Jones. Hand pass back to Kennedy. The Blues. They tried to hand it out to Walsh. Unset play on. Hand pass back to Sard. Hurried high kick down the wing. They come from all directions. Falls down to Durden. Nice work by the small forward. Hand pass to Cherry. Gives it to Akers. And the short kick to Silvani. 60 out left half forward against the boundary line. Kicks for the hot spot. There isn't too many down there. Charlie Curnow got a hand on it. Falls through the back and the pack is going to develop. Top of the goal square and we'll have a ball up. As Scholes, the last man to stand up with a footy. Top of the goal square for Carlton.
Incredible to watch the tsunami of Crows defenders just flood back then in the space of 5 seconds. Tossed up top of the goal square. Spills out towards Murray in the tackle. Got a handball clear but gave it straight to Walsh. Now to Akers. Smothered. Beautiful diving effort there from Lachlan Murray. Forces the boundary throw in when it could have been a scoring shot for the Blues. And that's the Adelaide brand right now. Intensity, contested footy.
Not only can he kick goals, Lockie Murphy too, just the pressure and speed in which he gets to the defence. Great smother.
Toss back in. O'Brien beat Silvani but paddled it in the path of Akers. Had Murphy to beat. Jones came through with an errant foot. Somehow worked to Fogarty, who marks at right half back. Still time to work with for the Crows if they're quick. Doesn't seem eager, does he, Fogarty? He looks immediately out to the eastern side and they'll switch across defensive 50. Hinge and now out to Murray.
Just trying to slow his teammates down. Murray takes a tumble.
Underneath the famous old scoreboard at Adelaide Oval, which reads 10-4 to 5-4. 5-goal lead for Adelaide. Short kick to Scholl. His short pass finds Duday, who marks at half back.
About 18 blokes in that scoreboard, Corby.
18?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Turning.
They all working?
Score. Oh, maybe watching TV, having a drink.
Duday goes long down the wing. Wouldn't be a bad place to watch the footy from. Out to Thilthorpe, who takes the mark. Eastern side of the ground and plays on. Burns off. Honey goes with the short kick to Scholl, who keeps on moving. Second touch in the chain. Feeds a hand pass to Sloan. Kicks inside 50. There's Fogarty. Takes the mark. He started all of it. Started creeping forward on the mark. Fogarty says, take me to the top of the goal square. The ump's not interested. And Fogarty will shoot from the 50 at left half forward with the seconds ticking down on the clock.
I gave Sard the benefit of the doubt. I think it was a 14.5 metre kick, wasn't it? But this should be a great finish to the quarter for the Crows after it was really all Carlton for that first 25 minutes. Darcy Fogarty, the young key forward, has led the charge.
First game back since round 2 against the Tigers with that knee complaint. Heavy strapping on his right peg. He puts his foot through a drop punt but misses. Near side of behind. But a hell of a start. And the home team, named after the city in which the whole competition gathers this weekend, at Adelaide lead at 10-5-65 over Carlton 5-4-34. The Crows by 31. Adelaide with 8 of the first 9 in the game. They led by 42 points time on in the opening term. Then Carlton kicked 4 in a row either side of quarter time. And the Crows have responded with the next 2 just to try and push back any comeback the Blues were trying to mount. And now it's beyond 5 goals at the half. Adelaide by 31 points. The goal kickers. Solid spread for the Crows. Just one multiple goal kicker. That's Darcy Fogarty. Other than that, there's 9 of them altogether. 8 with 1 each. Jones, Keys, Rochelle, Pedler, Walker, Rankin, Laird and Smith. As we go down the page in number order. While for Carlton, Harry Mackay's got 2. 1 each for Walsh, Durden and Charlie Curnow. And the sub's already been made by the Blues. Mark Pitternatt with what looks like a serious cut to his eye. Subbed out of the game early in that quarter. As Mitch Cleary told us, they even had the light on the smartphone out at one point to try and see into that eye, and in the end they couldn't patch it up, and serious enough that they had to tap him out of the game. Josh Honey is into the game for for his 13th match, the 21-year-old, early in the second quarter. At half-time, Adelaide by 31. The thoughts of our grandstand AFL experts, premiership players Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball.
Well, it was much better, wasn't it? And let's be honest, it couldn't have got any worse in that first quarter for the Blues. They clearly, quite apart from execution, they just had to focus on effort. And we saw that. We saw a big lift from their prime movers in particular, led by Chera at 11 that quarter. Walsh had 10. Hewitt got a bit more of the footy. Cripps is probably the one that's struggling a bit tonight. It hasn't been a heavy tag. He just looks a bit out of sorts, so they need a lift from him. But, yeah, it was a much better quarter. Interestingly, the Crows were able to level out the contested possession, but from a tackle and a pressure point of view, Carlton really dialed it up. And we spoke at quarter time too, Jamo, about the fact that when they were able to get it down there, which wasn't often in that first quarter, the big boys looked dangerous. Mackay and Curnow, I mean, they're in good form, we know that. They look like, one-on-one. I mean, if you get the ball down quick, one-on-one, it doesn't matter who's on them, does it? They look quite dangerous. So they were able to win the ball in the contest in that second quarter, and the clearances in particular, get the ball forward. They worked harder. They got out of the space a bit more and get the ball down to these key dangerous forwards and get some reward for effort. But probably it'll disappoint Michael Voss at that last 5 minutes. They weren't able to finish the quarter off. And we spoke about Adelaide having to absorb, when it was Carlton's turn to have the momentum, Adelaide had to absorb the pressure. Well, they were able to do that and then fire a couple of punches back, towards the end of that second quarter to really, 30 points at half-time. It's a pretty sort of, pretty reasonable buffer, isn't it? So for the sake of the game, a lot more, a lot more of an entertaining quarter. And, Carlton responded, which, we expect them to do. If they're going to be a top 4, top 6 team, they had to show us something. They were able to do that, but the Crows just good enough in that last 5 minutes to gain the momentum back.
We spoke about the leadership in the first quarter to be able to slow the game down, pull the trigger when they need to, and they certainly were able to do that in that second quarter. They just managed to maintain it, applied the pressure to Adelaide in defence, and they were good enough to be able to maintain and go forward. From Carlton, 3-3 for all the inside 50s. Adelaide were able to get it back, but just the way Carlton then set up behind, Adelaide weren't as clean around the contested area too, so the pressure that Carlton were applying, we spoke about how good Adelaide were in that first quarter, and they were so clean to cover the ground and get it on. So there was a real mixture in that second quarter. I think from Adelaide's perspective, wonder, but they've been in those types of positions on the other way too. Like when you have a look at Richmond, they've just been under the pump in the first half. They find a way when to go, and you've got to open it up, and the margin, you can close it down really quickly too. And I think that's what Vossi would be saying. And at half-time, boys, you got your hands on it. You started to clean. You started to think about it. You had blokes running and supporting. Maybe we just got to work out and be a bit smarter. And I highlighted, I think it was Jack Silvani when he should have in front down here, the middle of the ground. It was a 2-on-1 and the kick had to be right in the middle of the two defenders. One isolated incident, but it's the sort of thing where you just go, hey, slow it down. Get the numbers down there, go to the targets, go to Mackay, go to Curnow, and get around there and make it a contest and shut it down in our 50 and apply the pressure to the defence of Adelaide once again. So just picking the right moment when to do that. I think from Nixie's perspective, he'd be saying that very much as well. Like just, we're under pressure. We were able to maintain. They didn't get too close, but then we were able to finish off. And if Darcy Fogarty had it gone again, then you're back out to 6 goals. And the margin, it sounds a lot, and it would have been the momentum that would have, pushed Adelaide in to recommence that third quarter. So, real mixed bag of footy in the first half, but overall probably disappointing from Carlton the way they started on such a big stage.
Yeah, it's a good point. They're 15 inside 50s to 6 for the quarter, the Blues. So they really did dominate around clearance, get the ball, and they were able to lock the ball in that front half, but they've restricted, or Adelaide have restricted the 3-3. So that's a positive. They stood up under pressure, and that's a pretty dangerous forward line. And at times they look really dangerous, and we know the big guys both had their moments. Curnow hasn't had his kicking boot on to take full advantage of that, and Mackay capitalised on a reasonably soft free kick. So that will please Matthew Nicks as well, because they knew that the response was going to come.
Yep.
And whilst they were beaten around the ball and clearance that quarter and had to cough up field position, they were able to hold up really and restrict Carlton to 3 goals from those 15 entries. So in a sense, they'll be reloading again to say, okay, they're going to come again. We need to be able to absorb that, but hopefully the work that we've done in that first quarter, and that's where that first quarter you'd think, it was such a diabolical first quarter from Carlton's point of view.
is going to be the difference, isn't it? Because you've got to work so hard to get back in the contest. In AFL footy, you concede 6 or 7 goals to a team, you know, especially as good as the Crows are going at the moment at their home ground. It leaves you too much work to do. But if they chip away in this quarter, you never know.
And that's where Voss would be saying it too, I think, Corby, as well. Like, you know, we've got Pitnet down, you know, like we've, you know, lost McGovern in the part. I'm asking you boys to dig deep and find something here. And you were able to swing it, and you were able to swing it in your favour. We got within 4. I'm asking you the same thing, to come out of the third quarter. And you know what? Do not start like you did. Learn from that, reload, go again. I need you to dig deep.
Skipper's the one, isn't he? He's only got the 7 possessions. And he's got such a great record against Adelaide. Yeah. So there's some upside for a lot of these players in the Carlton team.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you fall so far behind, as you say, Jamo, it almost frees you up in a way. It's nothing to lose down by 7 goals with a heavy quarter-time deficit. It would actually be Carlton's or equal greatest quarter-time comeback since 1936 if they pull this in. They're 38 down at quarter-time. They're 31 down at the half.
How significant.
Couple off the SMS. Simon, who's listening to the coverage while working in Newcastle in the UK and enjoying the coverage. A Bombers man, so Carlton struggling is a bonus. Thanks for your work from Simon. Nice to hear from you. From Steph in Melbourne, a lifelong Adelaide supporter, up the Crows. We've got a blue, yellow and red heart to come through with the emoji as part of that as well, and the pumping fist emoji. Doesn't quite work as well on radio. Tyler in South Perth, only positive for Carlton is that they've had more tackles on the back of that first quarter. From Bruv off the SMS, says Chase Jones must be playing defensive half forward. Give him a pump up. Excellent game last week and being subbed the week before. Even better start today. Pump up the young bloke from Longford, home of the cleaner. I just drove through the town listening to you boys on the radio.
Home of the cleaner. What does that mean?
Is that a racehorse?
The horse, yeah.
Yeah,
The racehorse.
Yeah, right.
Hey guys, currently listening from Singapore at the end of 3 months travel through Nepal and India. Love the call and love that I can listen around the world and not miss a game with the ABC Listen app. Go the Cats. That's from Joe. Nice to hear from you, Joe. From Fran in Melbourne. Hi team, enjoying the call. This is the first time I've seen the Crows play on telly. Got the audio from the radio synced up. They are gelling well and playing a good team footy.
It's a good point, actually. I think the biggest stage, I think it's the first time Adelaide have done it in almost 2 and a bit years.
From Adrian in Hampton East, hi grandstand team, go the Blues. Entertaining and enjoyable show from Casey. Thanks, Casey. And listening to good commentary. I'm on the Edward River, about 70 kilometres west of Demiliquin, catching only bloody carp. That's from Fiery Brian. Brian, hope you're enjoying your night. Appreciate you sharing it with us on Grandstand AFL. We're on ABC Radio, Sport Digital, and also streaming through the ABC Listen app. It is half-time in the opener to gather round, and it's Adelaide by 31 points, 10-5 over Carlton, 5-4. Second half action coming up in just a moment, but first, the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
ABC News with Glenn Lauder. Communities in Western Australia's northwest are on red alert as severe tropical cyclone Ilsa intensifies. Hannah Murphy has the story.
An area from the remote Aboriginal community of Bidjadanga to Wim Creek is currently on a red alert for the cyclone, which is bearing down off the northern coast. It's expected to make landfall later tonight or early tomorrow at Category 5 strength. It will be the strongest cyclone to hit the WA coast in 16 years. Emergency services have evacuated some residents and roads have been closed as a precaution. Evacuation centres have been set up in Marble Bar, Newman, Nullagine and South Headland.
Government Services Minister Bill Shorten says the government will no longer rely on external debt collectors in an attempt to put dignity and humanity back into the system. The change is in part due to the Robodebt scheme, which used external debt collectors to pursue people who had unlawful debts calculated by an automated program. Hundreds of thousands of people were asked for millions of dollars of debts, and some were wrongly accused of owing money. Bill Shorten says the system needs to figure out what's wrong and not work on assumptions that people owe money.
But then if there is an issue or a mistake or just a red flag, in the very first communication that the government has with the individual, with the citizen, should be saying, hey, we think there's an issue here, but we don't just tell them, well, you owe us the money.
The Police Minister in the Northern Territories labelled the federal opposition leader's visit to Alice Springs as an opportunistic political stunt as his party begins campaigning against the Voice to Parliament. Peter Dutton's claimed violent crime in Alice Springs has reverted to levels seen earlier this year, when the town made national headlines and has again called for the federal police to be deployed. But Kate Warden says the claims are not backed by any evidence.
It's a complete dog act to use the most vulnerable people for a political agenda, which we know and we can call out as the start of the No campaign for The Voice. It's disgraceful and he needs to be called out for that and be held accountable. He has had no interest in Alice Springs for 10 years and suddenly we've got an interest in the centre.
A man described as being at the apex of a major drug syndicate has been sentenced to 19 and a half years in prison. 64-year-old Robert Gordon Polybank G was arrested in Adelaide in 2006 with 3 other men, but he absconded to Thailand using a forged passport while on bail. He was eventually extradited in 2020 and put on trial for his part in the sale of cocaine and methamphetamine worth $1.2 million. The judge took into account his pivotal role in the drug syndicate, his absconding, as well as prior convictions. G will be eligible for parole in 2032. Germany's government's appealed for efforts to reduce tensions over Taiwan as the German foreign minister is due to arrive in China for official talks. China's staged days of intense military drills around Taiwan in response to President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with the US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy last week. European governments are increasingly worried about China's pressure on Taiwan, despite having diplomatic relations with China. Beijing claims Taiwan is part of its territory, but Taiwan sees itself as distinct from the Chinese mainland. Leaked classified US documents suggest Washington's been closely monitoring the UN Secretary-General because he's suspected of being too accommodating of Russian interests. Harry Sekulich explains.
The latest revelation from the leaked documents show the US believed Antonio Guterres was so eager to revive a grain deal, allowing exports to leave Ukrainian ports through the Black Sea, that he was willing to negotiate with Russians who have been targeted by Western sanctions. UN officials have bristled at suggestions that Mr. Guterres' actions are undermining broader efforts to hold Moscow to account for its invasion of Ukraine. The reams of classified material circulating online, which haven't been independently authenticated, have US authorities scrambling to find who's behind the leak.
And Tasmania's Minister for Racing's confirmed she hasn't attended a harness racing meeting in Launceston or Burnie since becoming minister. She was asked whether she had during a Legislative Council inquiry into the role and functions of the Office of Racing Integrity. She was unable to answer and took the question on notice. It's renewed calls from the State Labor Party for her to resign. During the inquiry, MLC Meg Webb asked for a list of meetings and briefings that the minister had attended with industry stakeholders to be released. That's the latest from ABC News. For more, go to abc.net.au/news.
ABC Listen. Rampaging Royce Laven and HG Nelson.
I note that some people don't use logbooks anymore.
What?
Yeah.
They don't know cos,
Yeah,
sine,
cosine, cosine, cotan. They're all great.
Bludging on the blind side.
Why don't they do it?
I don't know.
I think Royal Commission. What happened to the logbook? I loved it. I used to open it up. Could we get Volandis to drag the logbook
Kicking and screaming back into our universities?
Podcast available now on the ABC Listen app.
You're listening to the AFL Gather Round
Grandstand AFL.
on radio
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
For the boundary throw in, stoppage goal chance for Walsh. Chucks it on the boot, gets the kind bounce. It tumbles through for a goal. Walsh makes his return, celebrates it too.
From the boundary throw in, it's knocked in the path of Saligo, turned it straight over, busting through a couple. Hollins shakes off 3, gets a kick up to the right forward pocket to Charlie Curnow. Curnow opens the angle on the left, it's flat but it's true. And Carlton get back-to-back goals for the first time this evening.
Free kick here for Laird as he charges in, grabs the footy, and Cripps has got him high. Hand pass to Miller, appealing up the back of the square. Hands it to Dawson, puts it inside 50, and there's Fogarty. Takes the mark left, half forward. He's Fogarty on the set shot. The drop punt, sails goalward. He's hit it flush. Stops the run of 4 consecutive Carlton goals.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Sounds of the second term in which Carlton were able to pad back a 42-point deficit to get within 3 goals before the Crows just steadying up before the halftime siren. They lead by 31 points at halftime, having led by as many as 7 goals earlier in the match. Corbin Middlemass calling the footy alongside Aaron Bryans, Rod Jamison and Luke Ball. Mitch Cleary is on the boundary for the start of Gather Round. All 18 teams, 9 games, 3 different venues across 4 days in the city of Churches. So the first time that this magic concept comes to the AFL world, and Adelaide playing host. We'll have tonight's game obviously here at Adelaide Oval. Tomorrow night the nightcap between Richmond and Sydney, and before that out at Norwood it'll be the game between Fremantle and Gold Coast. Plenty of consequence there. And then across the weekend we have 3 games on each of Saturday and Sunday. It's an amazing draw the way that it's panned out, Bawley and Jamo. This is something that the AFL couldn't schedule for, is the way that the ladder has landed and where the teams are placed leading into the weekend. So 3 of the 3 matches involve top 7 teams. So 6 of the top 7 play each other. You've got 1v5 St Kilda Collingwood, 2v7 Carlton Adelaide tonight, and 3v4 Essendon and Melbourne. 8 plays 9th, so the 2 teams in the middle there, or on either side of the top 8, Brisbane and North. 10 play 11, so again Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs around each other's station. And then the 6 teams down the bottom who are only on 4 premiership points all play each other. So you have the Hawks and the Giants, 18 v 15, the Eagles and the Cats, 16 and 13, and Freo and Gold Coast, 14 and 17. You can't make that up. 5 rounds into the season, they had no idea it was going to pan out like that.
What about tomorrow night's game, though, when you go Jack Graham, Tom Lynch, Toby Nankervis out for Richmond, and then Sydney as well, Lance Franklin, Paddy McCartan and Dane Rampy. Like, there's some significant names out of there, and that throws, I wouldn't even know who to go for in that contest.
The cynical Melbourne view during the week that, you know, the Collingwood St Kilda would bring 75 to the MCG, and is it too late to shift that back? And maybe Melbourne and Essendon as well. I think party poopers.
Isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
I think that's the
I think it's good for the game. I mean, maybe if it's at the MCG, you probably possibly favour Collingwood, being with the home crowd, but being on the neutral field, it adds another element to these games as well, doesn't it? So I think it's good.
And to point out too that every team still has 11 home games, 11 away games. This is a completely neutral round, all in one place. So nobody loses anything. If we didn't have this weekend, essentially we would have one less round in the season. So no one has had to give anything to make this happen.
The home teams were determined by a coin flip only a few days ago. Adelaide had specifically designed its dark or charcoal Guernsey tonight, unsure if it actually would be the home team, and then Carlton could have picked the navy blue and they would have had to wear their away strip. So I don't know if there was any sort of tinkering with the coin flip or anything there, but it's worked out Adelaide's way tonight. Credit to Tim Silvers as well, who sold the farm to let the AFL pick them for Thursday night footy when the start of the year. They didn't look great.
Oh, I know the Guernsey's important. It's always about the emblem as opposed to the number, but having the ability to be able to play on your home ground, Adelaide and Port Adelaide having that advantage here in Adelaide, big difference.
They're guaranteed to bring a crowd, the Crows, when they play at Adelaide Oval. They've done so again tonight, and they're the team putting on a show. Second half action upon us. Carlton playing catch-up. It's the Crows by 31 on Grandstand AFL. You with Aaron Bryans.
Bounce favoured Riley O'Brien. He slapped it in the path of Dawson. Cripps was in front. Got it to Shearer. The Blues trying to force their way up towards centre half back. Kennedy got a kick away. Out to the eastern side. Motlop got away from Michael Annie. A rare sighting, but he gave it straight over to Smith, who raced away. Would have been an easy, uncontested inside 50, but the whistle's coming back. Motlop was held without it by Hinge. So Carlton free kick forward of centre wing. The Motlop name famous with this venue. Jesse heads into the left forward pocket looking for Charlie Curnow. He came late, fell on top of the pack. Butts is underneath it, clutching his head. Meanwhile, play continues and holding the ball. Free kick going against Charlie Curnow, who did fall into the footy. Was wrapped up by Michael Annie. Butts has got back to his feet, which is a good sign for the Crows fans.
And Charlie just launched himself.
And the 19-year-old Michael Annie can go long to the eastern side.
Kicks to a contest, slips her a few and ends up with Saab on the logo outer wing. Hand pass away to Hewitt. He links up with Ed Curnow. Short kick in the middle of the ground. And Honey takes the mark. Turns, kicks inside the forward arc. Mackay hits up. Can't complete the mark. Spills to Akers. Still at half forward. Hand pass out of the forward 50. To Plowman, kicks into the pocket. He wanted Cripps. He was caught at the back, and Duday finds the safety of the boundary line. A throw in, 30 out from the Carlton goal.
Big player caller at half-time asked for a bit of love from Chase Jones. That was brave, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was going to be an uncontested mark for Big Harry McKay. Younger, smaller player, put himself in harm's way. Great effort.
Crows by 31, toss back in to Koning, wins it down, then grabs his own footy, hands it out to Akers from 40, shrugs the tackle of Dawson, check side is high but doesn't have a curve, it'll sit up in the goal square. Kerno brings it down only as far as Chase Jones, who rushed the kick, had more time than he thought and gave it straight to Akers. 45 out, tight angle to the right.
He'd like that one back for sure, just singing his praises, and he has done the last couple of weeks too, just his ability and his composure that we've been glowing of. Disposal good, and he goes and does that on the left foot.
Just the one behind this year, the former Docker, Blake Akers, returns from suspension. And the Blues need this. An average losing margin of 65 points. They've never won here. Down by 31. They need some momentum. It's not going to come from Akers. Across the face, it'll sit up, and off hands, smashed into the left-hand goalpost for a minor score. Adelaide by 30. First score of the third term is a behind. 3 minutes in. Carlton 5-5-35. Adelaide 10-5-65.
Smith with the kick-out duties, as is often the case. That big right-footed cannon as he takes some ground and then bangs it up to Walker. Holds out Young, just too strong. Takes the mark, defensive side of the wing for Adelaide. Short kick to Shoal. Looks back into the corridor. Dawson got there on the half volley, made it look clean. Retreats back by foot to Hinge. Back edge of the centre square. He comes out in front of the interchange to Jones. With his elbow taped, pokes the pass down to half forward. Keys hangs on to it. His 65th consecutive game. For a guy that was really on the scrap heap at AFL level. Amazing career arc. He kicks to the hot spot at the back. Walker had a fair piece of it again, and the ump's going to pay it. Pack of 5 or 6. Good purchase on it. Came out as he hit the deck. And the ump said that was an illegal dislodging of the footy, and so Walker can shoot from about 25 out just left of centre.
Adam Sard slow to get up too in that contest. What I liked about that ball too was just Adelaide's ability. We spoke about it from Carlton. Just from one end to the other methodically, just keep possession, short kick, do that. Low, hard, penetrating kick, 30 metres out.
Tex Walker, relatively straightforward by his standards. He's got two. And a second half tone setter. More of the same for the Crows. Adelaide by 36. 11-5 to 5-5. 4 minutes played in the third term on Grandstand AFL. Luke Ball and Rod Jamison.
Yeah, they've done it well, haven't they, Gemmo? They've spread the ground really well right from that first quarter. Attacked the big ground, so made Carlton really defend and use the ball really well with uncontested marks. And just looking at the replay, yeah, it must have been paid a free kick, was it? Just a chop of the arm. It didn't look like he controlled it all the way down, but anyway, that's when it's your day. Sometimes you get the 50-50 ones as well, and that's the problem with Carlton now. There's just no margin for error, is there, when you give out a start like that? So all important first goal in this second half goes to the Crows, and it makes it even tougher for the Blues.
Adelaide by 36. The bounce before the music stopped. Everyone was caught off guard. And there's a free kick going Jordan Dawson's way. The Crows skipper races on, uses the Shepherd set by Hinge to get some space and goes long into the left forward pocket. Rising up, Walker again. He's imposing himself on this contest. Tex marks, 45 out, 45-degree angle to the left.
Just moving so well, isn't he? Out in front. We're seeing at one end when Charlie and Harry get an opportunity just to launch themselves without breaking step. It makes it so hard for the opposition to get a fist to it then too. Tex Walker, 2 goals.
Their all-time leading goal scorer. Trots in. Beautiful kick. It's coming back from the right to the left, but it's through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Just not strong enough. Adelaide up by 37. 11-6-72, plays 5-5-35. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Sam Walsh, first game back after back surgery, 70% of game time tonight. Traditionally an 85 to 90% player, but just starting this third quarter on the bench, so less game time after that back surgery.
Well, thanks, Mitch. Good shout out. You looked at Elliot Yeo, for example, who returned last weekend from injury, only played just over 50% of the game. High sample size already from Walsh as Kennedy marks the kick out, then gets 50, so puts it to a dangerous spot. Top of the goal square, Motlop charging through, swings it on the right boot and snaps the goal. And a roar for Jesse Motlop. Of course, his famous father Daniel, who spent many years here for Port Adelaide after his stint with North. And his young bloke in Jesse able to kick one back for Carlton. 11-6 to 6-5. Adelaide by 31 again as they were at the half, 7 minutes into the third.
Well, it's a 2-goal swing, isn't it, for Tex? Look, it was a tough shot, but we've seen him pick those over the years, haven't we? And then he just arrives at that contest from the kick in late, gives away a slightly undisciplined 50-metre penalty, and they don't see it again. So he'll be disappointed there, Tex, and he'll want to make up for that. They just hang around, don't they, the Blues? I think the message would have been, okay, it's a 5-goal break at half-time. Can we get it back to 3? Can we get it within 3 at three-quarter time? And then we'll reload and go from there.
Luke Borrod, Jamison, your expert. So Brian wins it down with the double tap to the feet of Rochelle. He can't control it. Ripped away by Chera. And Carlton can clear up to centre-half forward. Michael Lanny in front position. Knocked off the footy by Durden. Gathered by Fisher, who kicks around the body. Mackay came late with a fist on Murray. Comes to ground. Both pop up okay after that heavy collision, and we'll get a ball up. 40 out straight in front. Brave by Nick Murray.
Great courage there. A couple of Crows defenders, Jones previously, and standing in front of a big charging Harry Mackay. No thanks.
O'Brien hooks it down behind. Dawson on his hands and knees. Hands it out to Jones. Tumbles a kick to the middle of the ground. Newman grabs it. Rankin's got him. Newman wrestles out of the tackle. Hand pass to Walsh. Shares it with Akers. Kicks a high ball up to centre half forward. Charlie Curnow runs underneath it. Murray spoils. Pack forms behind him. Smith trying to hand it out. Now Chera scrapping for it with the ruckman O'Brien, and we'll have a ball up. Half forward for the Blues. 40 out from their goal at the river end. Adelaide by 31. They did kick 8 of the first 9 goals and have led by as many as 42 in the opening term.
O'Brien wins it down straight to Laird. Bounced off his knees. Coming through Dawson. Fends off 2, but turns it over with the handball. Straight to Fisher. Caught in the tackle. In the back. A free kick going to Hollands. At right half forward.
Well, it's on the replay. I think he's called too high. It was actually a good tackle.
What a start for the pick 11, 19 years of age. He's owning the wing for the Blues, heads to the top of the goal square, big pack, and somehow amongst a body of 10, it's been clunked by Hinge. Short kick to Rochelle. Left back pocket, Adelaide by 31.
Great pick up from Brisbane too. Came to the back line. His first game, Bally too. Dislocated his shoulder. Poor kick.
Rochelle thought he spotted someone on the switch. He had Murphy at right half back, but Akers cut it off immediately. Gave it to Cowan, back into the 50, straight to Rochelle. And so we repeat, Rochelle's kick out to Saligo in the left back pocket.
And not only did Hingy do it, he dislocated his shoulder twice in his first game and then missed a fair bit of football.
Saligo with a young boy haircut as he kicks down the line, and Wiedering just moves Texas side, takes the intercept mark. That haircut, by the way, sort of pretty conventional up front, and then the big flowing, flopping mullet out the back.
I would love that.
As Wiedering pokes the pass back to half forward for Carlton. Hands on it from every player on the way through. Falls to Hinge. Half back for Adelaide. Hand pass to O'Brien, and he just bangs it out of the defensive arc. Up to Newman, who's in the box seat. Taken down by Rankin. Up says play on. Pack forms around Newman. Walker stands up with the footy. Hand pass out to Rankin. Gives it to Laird. He's tackled high. Oh, he's tackled high on the ball. Gee, the Adelaide fans thought he was clipped high. Silvani's getting the free. Gives it to Chera, who kicks inside 50.
Pandemonium at the Adelaide Oval. The kick to the pack. Top of the goal square. Comes to ground. Mackay soccers as far as Cripps. He's wrapped up by Sloan. Got a handball out. Here's Ed Curnow to Walsh. They're under immense pressure, the Blues, but they keep fighting. They won't win out. Jones gathers for the Crows. Handball to Saligo. Up the western wing. He just kicks for territory, and it'll stay in the field of play as well. 2-on-1 charging in. Rankin meets Plowman and knocks it over the boundary line. 50,000 in the house. There isn't an empty seat in this stadium. And they're up and about right now, Jamo.
Oh, no. Look, it's hard. It's difficult, isn't it, too, in the heat of the moment to make the decision. But how can you just look like a holding the ball one way and then clearly gets his head ripped off? And gets penalised.
The Crows by 31, 11 played in the third. From the boundary throw in, it comes to Jones, kick smothered. The opposite number 1, Silvani for the Blues. Hand pass away to Hewitt, high up and under down the wing. Charlie trying to take a one-hander, spoiled away by Murray. Now he ends up with the footy, got it out somehow on the wing to Jones. Hand pass away to Smith, the fend off, shakes off Motlop, kicks inboard, superb. And a mark taken by Murphy, plays on immediately, short pass to Rankin, marks in front of Newman. Newman makes sure he takes him down in the follow-through. Rankin gets up, races off, hits up Fogarty, drops the mark. One he'd ordinarily take, spills to Ed Curnow. Hurried kick out to half-back, wanted Fisher, slips out of play. And a boundary throw-in, 60 out from the Adelaide goal. Crows by 31, 11-6 to 6-5, 12 gone third term.
Crows fans have waited 3 years to feel like this. 5 without finals. Starting to get in their sights. Toss back into play. O'Brien wins it down. Clearing kick comes from Ed Curnow, but there's a whistle bringing it back. It was off the ball. There's a bit going on inside the 50.
Nick Newman's been the player for Carlton. He's just been antagonising the smaller forwards. Saligo dropped him. Not much in it. And a couple have gone to remonstrate accordingly.
So it's a free kick to Carlton. Silvani will take it. We'll pop it short down the line. Hit up Walsh. He heads wide to Fisher. Game 100. Spun is Hewitt. Ran out of room. The former Rooster has scored it over the boundary line. One of 3 South Australian Blues out there tonight. Fair bit of pressure going on from both sides and a bit of feeling now as well, Corby.
The others, of course, Corey Durden and Louis Young. The Blues actually trained at the home of the Double Blues, where Louis Young played his SANFL footy from the boundary throw-in.
Peter Motley.
O'Brien palms it down to Fisher. Hand pass to Kennedy. Kick smothered. Oh, there's a free kick here. It's going to go Adelaide's way. That was a high tackle, high fend-off against Kennedy, so Murphy will take it in front of the interchange gates.
The great Peter Motley, when he went to Carlton. Lucky to be with us. Bradley, Kernahan.
Strong connection.
Yep. Glenn Elgin stirred.
31 points. The Crows lead it by the kick inside 50 and right on cue. There is Louis Young floating through to take the intercept mark at half-back for Carlton.
Talking of stirred, that's where he came from.
Fresh out of Mitcham. Former Western Bulldog as well. Looks to go across defensive 50. They'll slow things down, the Blues. Trailing by 31 at the moment. Wiedering marks. It was a dangerous kick to Plowman. The late in for Mitch McGovern. He's injured in the warm-ups. Spears his kick out at the defensive 50 to Akers. Left half-back, I should say. The Blues kicking to the southern end.
Not out of trouble, but better.
High from Akers. A hit and hope, really. Up to centre wing. Coming across from the back, O'Brien at his best. He's a gun intercept marker. We've been seeing that across the first 5 rounds. Kicks back inboard to Laird. Finding plenty of the footy tonight. Laird not sure what to do. So he'll head back to the logo to Dawson.
I think that's sort of a common thread, isn't it, in SA and certainly in WA, and I'm sure to a lesser extent places like Tasmania and in the Northern Territory and places like that, that as Dawson heads inside the forward 50, almost a superb mark from Hinge, couldn't hang on to it, falls to Murphy, hand pass to Keys, he kicks the goal and immediately looks back to salute his teammate. Crows by 37, and the courageous diving act at centre-half forward has set up all of it, and another Adelaide goal. 12-6 to 6-5, Crows by 37 midway through the third, but just on that, Jamo, I mean, these states all had an affinity with the VFL, and their connection often lived through who played for their local team that went across and then obviously represented their club and their state in the Victorian League.
Well, the mid-80s was just outstanding. I mean, South Australia had a tremendous state team, and that one fell swoop when Jack Elliott and Carlton came across and took Bradley, took Kernahan, took Motley. And, you know, like they just... It's insane to think that they just take so much talent before the draft was sort of pretty much in place. But how good was that? Riley O'Brien at the other side, Bully, too. When we just spoke about Carlton maintaining possession, working it forward, he's been able to do that. Swings inside an Adelaide launch.
So Crows up at the Adelaide Oval in the middle. Philthorpe in the ruck, lost out to De Koning, who receives it back from Cripps. Handball up to centre-half forward to Hewitt. He's all alone, has some time to turn and hit Charlie Curnow. Leading out Takes it on the chest. 35 out. 45-degree angle to the right.
Nice bit of centre bounce work, wasn't it? And ironically, it was O'Brien having a rest, so Phil Thorpe goes into the ruck and he's a high percentage game time man, O'Brien, isn't he? But having a breather, and sure enough, the Blues win the centre clearance.
6 goals last week for Charlie Curnow to tie Jeremy Cameron at the top of the table. It's a beautiful kick. Carlton answer back immediately. 31 points the margin. The Blues 7-5-47. Adelaide 12-6-78. 17 minutes in on Grandstand AFL in the third term.
And forgive me too, Corby, I forgot Mark Nayley. The late Mark Nayley too. So those 4, and they were instrumental in State of Origin football, representing South Adelaide, Port Adelaide, Glenelg, Sturt. So, yeah, and you saw Carlton sort of train at Unley today, which is Sturt's home ground.
What was your buy-in, Jamo? Was it kid growing up? Who'd you barrack for in the VFL?
Well, I'm originally from Victoria. I moved over here when I was 11, so I was a Hawks man. Absolutely. I lived in the Geelong area too. Ray Card, Terry Bright, Michael Turner, like all these blokes came down. Larry O'Donoghue, a couple of blasts from the past.
Paulie, you grew up a Hawks fan as well?
Sure did, yeah, I did. In those 80s years where they played in the grand final every year, Corb.
Crows by 31 points, so just trading goals in his third quarter. Back in the middle, squeezing a little kick out is Sloan. Picked up though by Chera, the Blues. Hand pass to Hollands, out on that eastern wing. Kicks down to half forward. Charlie Curnow held out of it in a creative way by Murray. Didn't give away the free kick, and nor should he. Picked up by Hinge. He kicks inboard, and Rochelle takes the mark. Tough matchup. See Charlie Curnow for anyone, and Murray done his best tonight as Rochelle kicks down the wing. Walker the target, spills to Newman. Rankin tackles him, got a kick away, but too late. It's been a fascinating matchup. Rankin kicked one in the opening minute of play. Newman's been pretty good since then, and now there's going to be a 50 against Carlton, so Rankin's going to run the footy down to half forward. Did we spot what that was for?
No. Well, it was either abuse or did he throw the ball back to the wrong player?
He threw the ball back to the wrong player.
Goodness me. It could only have been one person. Nick Newman. It has been a good battle, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a brain fade. And again, there's just no margin for error when you're chasing down a 7-goal deficit.
50-metre penalty against Walsh on the return. So Newman was on the ground late to tackle.
But
opened up the game with that mercurial goal.
He won't be happy with this. And a pretty good job on Rankin, and this is a gift. 45 metres out, right half forward, the set shot on line. DeConey keeps it alive, but punted straight into the path to Keys, who bangs it through from the goal square for his third. It's been that kind of night for Carlton. DeConey with the goal-saving tap, but he's tapped it back in the field of play to the dangerous spot, and Keys can pop it through for an easy goal. Adelaide's lead grows 37 points, 13-6 to 7-5.
Well, Ben Keys coming down from Brisbane too. His work ethic has been incredible. He's always up the front, long distance run. He's an aerobic monster, and they've changed his role. He plays that high half forward. He works up and down the ground. He's the go-to. He's an outside, and the only knock-on would be his disposal. But tonight, just been dangerous. Been in the right spots. 2 goals in this third to take it to 3 goals for the game.
Was 1-7 heading into the into this game, Borley, and has had 3 straight tonight.
Incredible career arc, Corbett, working at Essendon. I was overseeing the VFL, and we had coffee with Ben Keys, trying to get him to play for Essendon VFL, and 2 weeks later, the Crows got him over and rookied him, and hasn't looked back, has he?
Adelaide by 37. Philthorpe won it down to Sloan, back to Smith and Laird, over the top to half forward. They're surging Adelaide, and Walker presents. Hit out in front, 40 from home, slight angle to the right.
Oh, when you need someone to step up, bring out your big guns. Sloan led in the middle of the ground, and then Max Michaelani too, just real poise, coming off the half-back line. The only blemish, Jesse Motlop just gave him that extra room earlier in this third quarter. He was able to snap truly for his first goal, but just his composure to deliver one of the hardest kicks when a player's flat out running at you.
Starts from the edge of the centre square. Taylor Walker kicks from the paint of 50. Big kick, but it's across the face and rushed through for a minor score. Adelaide by 38 points. 13-7, 85 to 7-5, 47. Time on in the third on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Corbin Middlemass, Luke Ball and Rod Jamieson with you.
He's kicked 2-5 Tex, and one which didn't make the trip.
Quite had the kicking boots on, isn't he?
Which is so unusual. He's Could have easily had a real bag tonight, Texan. He may yet. 38 points, the lead for Adelaide. Newman out of the defensive arc, dangerous kick. And Miller takes the intercept mark. It was touched on the way through, said the ump, told him to go. Pedler collects, tackled, dispossessed. Holding the ball, says the umpire. And a free kick for Josh Honey at half-back.
Doesn't want the footy. Where's he going?
He's probably a little stiff, Wayne Miller. Just there, got his fist to it and then took it on the second grab. Claimed the mark. Umpire decided something different.
Amazing sporting pedigree, Josh Honey, as he kicks down the wing. Silvani reaching for it. Looked a little sore as well after not completing the mark at full stretch. Ball trickles out of play right in front of the benches. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Darcy Fogarty just receiving some work on his calves. First game back after round 2 with that knee injury. Nen McHenry warming up on the bench. I think just to remind Matty Nix, he's still around, the sub unused for the Crows.
38 points, Adelaide's lead. Just keep an eye on Silvani for a Smith after, I don't know if he's had a side strain or whatever that was, reaching for that footy. And the boundary throw in comes down Adelaide's way. Dawson ushers a hand pass out to Smith, high up and under to centre half forward. Young underneath it. Pedler clever, just whacked it away into the path to Jones. Feints one, kicks inside 50, overcooks it. And Plowman takes the intercept mark, top of the defensive goal square. Crows by 38.
Did all the hard work then too. Chase Jones.
He's got a bit of spunk about him all of a sudden, Jamo.
I think he's just really starting to find his feet. Ball, he touched on it now. It's his, third year in. And he's just working his way through what's a difficult competition.
Carlton clear to the eastern side. Wiedering went long to a pack and Duday shoved out of the contest. Free kick to Adelaide behind centre wing. The Blues cannot get it towards their 50 right now. Duday plays on, sends it back to right half forward. Walker in front position. Good spoil from Young, stayed in play. At the back it's gathered by Chera. Rushes the kick around the body, just wide enough past Hinge. And Duday will knock it over the boundary line. True centre wing on the eastern side in front of the Max Bashir stand. It is Adelaide by 38 points. Still plenty to play out in the opener to gather round.
Probably the closest quarter for both sides. Adelaide all first quarter, Carlton minority of the second. And the only differential really is the hit-outs 9-2 in favour of Adelaide.
Rankin with a run on the ball. O'Brien wins the hit-out. Rankin's got it. Tackled, dispossessed. Carlton come up with it from the stoppage. Ed Curnow kicks down to half forward. Smith coming through, takes the juggled mark. Took to his hands initially and then completed on the third attempt. And the back flank, Brodie Smith, been a really good player for a long time for Adelaide. Former All-Australian, of course, back in 2017. He goes short to Jones, and Jones out wide to Miller. Off the SMS, I can tell you the affinity for VFL heroes from local towns is very strong in Tasmania. St Kilda fans everywhere on the northwest coast for Baldock, and Hawthorn supporters down south for Hudson. And the kick down the wing comes the way of Chase Jones. Pack forms around him. Out towards Laird against the boundary line. Feeds a hand pass away to Miller. Kicks a high up and under. Chera underneath it. Had his arms chopped trying to take the mark. Free kick for Carlton. Advantage immediately applied. Kick heads down the wing. Curnow the target. Miller are there to lend a hand. He looks inboard to Dawson. Can't complete a juggled mark. Motlop knocks it away from him. Wide footy on the wing. There's a free kick for a hold. It's going Carlton's way, as the noise will tell you. Motlop to take it. Eastern wing.
Looks inside. Sards all alone. Marks unopposed. Heads to the right forward pocket. Stuck behind with Silvani. Had to make a contest of it against Duday. Cleared both. At the back was gathered by Hinge, but Silvani just kept fighting. Beautiful diving smother.
Just to mop up that SMS, I didn't explain that well earlier. What I meant was, in places like WA and SA, before they got their national teams, and obviously there's two teams in each market, people all had VFL sides, and then they gravitated towards the national teams. Obviously in Tasmania and NT, we're not there yet.
Toss back in, 25 out. And Brian wins it down to Scholl. He's immediately tackled. We're inside. Carlton's attacking 50 at the moment, trailing by 38 points. 2 goals to 3 in this third term, Adelaide's way, increasing on their lead. Toss back up once again. Sloan becomes the tackler on Ed Curnow. Scholl comes through to gather. He's mauled as well. And they've just forced it another 5 metres towards the paint of 50. Tossed up. Brian wins it down, but Cripps can gather, who was in the ruck opposed to him. Gave it to Durden. Off a step. Up towards Silvani. Entangled with Duday. Stuck a boot out. Couldn't connect, and it's bounced off them and over the boundary line.
Should Jack throw a left? Or Didn't like what was said to him, Brodie Smith. Biggest margin, 42 points at the 26-minute mark of the first quarter, Adelaide. Carlton got back into it, now at the 38.
Gee, Cripps doing the ruck work opposed to O'Brien. It bounced off O'Brien's chest. Pack forms behind him. We'll have a ball up. 30 out from the Carlton goal at the river end of the ground. Up it goes.
Blake Acres.
O'Brien pumps it down to Honey. Squeezes shot goalward, but he's offline and behind. Minor score, Adelaide by 37. Time on in the third. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
I've mentioned a couple of times that Lockie Plowman, the late inclusion for the Blues, has had some blood dripping from below his lip. He's got that taped up, a little bit like Luke Ball had around his nose in the early 2000s.
Nice, Mitch.
Murray went long to a pack at left half back and off hands. We'll get a boundary throw in.
Many stitches, Bally?
Yeah, a few, Jamo. Yeah, too many to count, actually.
Scored that look in a grand final once?
Yeah, I did every second week, to be honest. Yeah.
De Koning with a double tap down to Ed Curnow, trying to get it away. Laird was tackled without it. Carlton continue to push forward. On the bounce, Fisher can gather beautiful composure to hand it over the top to Mackay. Dummies, opens the angles and sprays it. Got around two. All he had to do was curl it from the top of the goal square, and he's missed to the left-hand side. 7-7-49. It has not been Carlton's night. Adelaide by 36.
Just tried to kick the suitcase off it, didn't he?
Smith from the kick out, got it up to Philthorpe. Hand pass down to Scholl, hooks a kick down the wing. Keys competes, spills front and centre to Murphy. He can just kick a low trajectory ball to Walker at centre half forward. Has Wiedering to beat. Sweeping hand pass inside 50. Hollands under the pump, got boot to ball. Rankin stands up, wins it. Hand pass to Sloan, out to Walker. Gets rid of Wiedering, gets rid of Hollands. Can't get rid of Cowan. He's caught holding the ball. And the youngest man on the ground stops Big Tex in the defensive 50 for Carlton.
Great
blocking
stuff.
Cowan with the free kick.
Yeah, great stuff. But two young players from Carlton working hard to get back Cowan and Hollands initially, but Tex, was it Ben Keys all on his own over the top. He either didn't see him or he went the hard way to get it to him, but geez, they left one out there, the Crows.
Maybe just saying, come on, old man, get it on. Get off the ground.
Carlton exit defensive 50, heading up towards Charlie Curnow. He's beaten in the air. Murray got it down to Laird. Now Duday breaks through two. Gave it to Jones at right half forward. Kicks centrally. Somehow found the hole that Kennedy was waiting in. He plays on immediately. He put himself under a bit of pressure, but the clearing kick is good. Hits Fisher at right half back.
Game 100 tonight for Zach Fisher. Kicks to Chera. Takes the mark. And De Koning coming the other way. Who had to pull out of the contest late. And Chera, second-year blue. Kicks down to half forward. Target Mackay coming across in front, whacked out of play. Nice work, Brodie Smith, and a boundary throw in half forward for the Blues.
Well, they need a goal here, Carlton, last minute, for there to be any chance at all. It's been a bit of an arm wrestle this quarter, you're right, Jamo, but they just haven't been able to make any inroads at all.
They made up no ground. In fact, they're further behind than they were at the half. 6-goal lead for Adelaide. Boundary throw in half forward for Carlton. O'Brien wins it down, but straight to Cripps. Hand pass to Akers. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Getting across in front. Duday spills the mark. Honey sweating on him. Duday follows up. Hand pass away to Murray. Can just bang it out of the defensive arc, but too wide. Kicks it out on the full. Free kick for Carlton. They'll reload between wing and half forward. Still with time late in the third term. Crows by 36.
Plowman shakes and bakes, gets around Philthorpe and then kicks it out of the full. It was a magnificent sell. Raced to right half forward and then coughed it straight back up. Adelaide free kick in the left back pocket. Had all the makings of a beautiful goal assist. Butts has it on the boundary line. Called to play on, who head back up towards the broadcast wing. Philthorpe front position, it cleared him, and at the back was Wiedering, who read it well. Former pick one. Flat kick back into the 50. Almost targeted Michael Annie in a way. Mackay came late, brought it to ground. Scholl gathers, hands it back to Laird. Adelaide trying to get out of trouble here. And Duday dummies and clears. Back up towards the benches. Philthorpe flew, went straight through his hands. Big tackle laid by Keys, who almost mounts poor Wiedering over the boundary line and forces the boundary throw in.
Final moments here of quarter number 3. Huge crowd in attendance. Sold out for weeks at Adelaide Oval. They came for a bit of a contest, and so far they've just got a complete Adelaide showcase set up on the back of kicking 8 of the first 9 goals. Has Sloan from the stoppage, got a hand pass out, kick heads forward for Adelaide. But that'll do us. And Carlton have been playing catch-up the whole way through, made up no ground in that third quarter. The Crows lead it by 6 goals neat. Three-quarter time at Adelaide Oval. It's the Crows 13-7-85. Adelaide leading Carlton 7-7-49. 6-goal lead for the Crows. The goal kickers, Ben Keys has kicked 3. 2 of them came in that quarter. And then 2 for Walker and for Fogarty. And then singles for Jones, Rochelle, Pedler, Rankin, Laird and Smith. Meanwhile, for Carlton, we've got 2 for Harry Mackay, 2 for Charlie Curnow, and then 1 each for Motlop, Walsh and Durden. The Blues, one of only 2 undefeated teams remaining in the competition. They've got a huge climb ahead of them if they are to keep that status. They're 6 goals down at three-quarter time in the first game of Gather Round on ABC Radio, Sport Digital, and now streaming through the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
Well, it's not a normal cafe.
We specialise in the milk of the platypus.
Auntie Donna have millions of views. Now the superstars of socials have an ABC TV show and a cafe.
Here's your sandwich, you dingus.
And more celebrity cameos than latte flavours.
Doesn't that sound silly?
Pretty silly to me, Ray.
Auntie Donna's Coffee Cafe. Wednesday nights on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView.
You're listening to the AFL Gather Round.
Grandstand AFL.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Keys hangs on to it, his 65th consecutive game. He kicks to the hot spot at the back. Walker had a fair piece of it again, and the ump's going to pay it. Tex Walker, relatively straightforward by his standards. He's got 2. And a second half tone setter. More of the same for the Crows. Kennedy marks the kick out, then gets 50, so puts it to a dangerous spot. Top of the goal square. Motlop charging through. Swings it on the right boot and snaps the goal. And a roar for Jesse Motlop. Rankin, and this is a gift. 45 metres out, right half forward. The set shot online. DeConey keeps it alive, but palmed it straight into the path to Keys, who bangs it through from the goal square for his 3rd. It's been that kind of night for Carlton.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
We haven't had a single lead change tonight. Adelaide kicked the first 2 goals inside the opening 3 minutes. In fact, they kicked 8 of the first 9. From that point on, Carlton haven't been able to get back within 18 points. At three-quarter time, it's Adelaide by 36. Luke Ball and Rod Jamieson on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, well, look, I got to call out Paddy Cripps. He had 7 disposals to half-time. He now has 12. He's got 9 tackles, 4 clearances. When you have a look at the 2 previous games that Carlton have played Adelaide, he has got 6 Brownlow votes and absolutely smashed Adelaide. So they haven't run a tight tag on him, but they've made it really difficult to actually for him to get his hands on the footy.
Yeah, we were just talking about that off air. I'm not sure whether, and the obvious thing to say is he at 100%. He just hasn't looked to cover the ground as well. I mean, that's one thing that stood out from the very first bounce with this Adelaide team. They've looked dynamic. They're really spreading and covering the ground well. And that's not necessarily Patrick Cripps' A game or his one wood, is it? But he just doesn't look like his normal sort of self in there. So, yeah, credit's got to go to the Crows midfield group, the way they've handled Carlton's, and in general they've been on top, and you look at the numbers, they reflect that. Dawson and Laird have racked them up and have run around with plenty of space. Really like Chase Jones's game, his quarter, that one in particular, he had 8 possessions, and Brodie Smith, he's as we know, doing what he does so well. So yeah, it was an arm wrestle that quarter, but in the end they just haven't looked dangerous enough in terms of transitioning the footy. Carlton, we've spoken about their key forwards looking dangerous at times, but they haven't really been able to get much flow into their game. And again, credit's got to go to the Adelaide team and the way they've been able to defend from their team defence, the way they've been able to defend in their front half.
Both key forwards have missed goals, like Taylor Walker. We've spoken about his game tonight, 3 behinds, and then just Harry Mackay and that third quarter, just that wayward kick from about 20 out where he just wanted to lace it and put it over the top of the grandstand, and lucky to sneak into a behind too. They continue to go to Harry Mackay and Charlie, and they're both working really hard at the moment, but just they keep going inside 50, but again, just not as methodical or either as quick as you want it to. And we've been I've been calling out, go quick when you need to, be methodical when you have to hold possession and work your way forward, create the space and put it out in front of these guys. But Tom Doedee, but these guys are doing a tremendous job back there. Nick Murray, another one too. Brodie Smith, we saw, came over the back on a couple of occasions, and we keep talking about Max Michaelani and what he's doing, and Wayne Miller of the run and rebound. For me, Isaac Rankins probably had one of the quieter nights too. So the defence of Carlton, where I thought he was going to step up and go really well, he kicked that miraculous goal in the first quarter, but outside of that, he's been pretty quiet.
Mitch Cleary's on the boundary.
The Crows have made their sub, Ned McHenry, into the game. He was dropped to the sub role after 5 coaches' votes last week. He's on the ground. Jake Saligo, the man, subbed out for the Crows.
Thanks, Mitch. Saligo, just the 4 touches tonight. Had an interesting week, obviously. Got fined by the match review officer after an unusual incident, Bally, where
little brain fade, wasn't it?
Kicked a goal last week, just tapped the goal umpire to say, hey, did you see that? And then realised almost immediately, oh, hang on, I'm not allowed to do that.
That's going to cost me. Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about Norwood's history, I'm sure, over the weekend with them hosting 2 games. But Max Michaelani, who, of course, is the 19-year-old, he's in his debut season. He's played all 5 games so far this year. His father, Jim, played for Norwood for many years. For people that aren't aware, give us the back of his baseball card. Who was he? What did he do?
Oh, it was a little before my time. I just missed him. I'm pretty sure he was a key defender and played predominantly in the back half as well. Dow was strong and pretty tough too. And there's a few of those Norwood blokes out there that played accordingly. But I watched Max in the finals for Norwood last year. They got up on the last kick of the game to win the grand final, and I was sitting next to Scott Burns, and he just said, just watch this bloke, watch this kid move. He needs to be a bit tighter, needs to put on a bit of muscle, and he was able to do that, and he's learnt the craft over summer, and he's come out straight in game 1 and been outstanding.
Yeah, I like the Ben Hart comp too that you made earlier. There's a bit of the ginge in the hair, obviously, and the sort of the skinny-ish arms at the moment, but he looks a really nice player, doesn't he? He just looks composed and looks like he sees the game really well.
Small or tall too.
Yeah, that's right. Can play on both. Yep. Yeah, no, he's a real find.
I think Ben Hart was All-Australian twice before the age of 21. Before he was 21.
He turned up to his first training in his school uniform.
Incredible.
Before 20, apparently. Amazing start. And then, obviously, everything that followed thereafter. Final term underway. Crows by 36. O'Brien wins the hit out. Dawson just sockers it into space on the outer wing. Pedler collects. Hand pass went inboard. Ends up with the Blues, though. There's a free kick as Hewitt was dealt with, pushed in the back.
Umpire said play on. It's gone out of bounds. So
the advantage was taken, but nothing came from it. So boundary throw in on that eastern wing.
And they've just got to go, the Blues, don't they? It's got to take risks. Try and, especially in this first 10 minutes, just try and put some sort of pressure on this Crows team.
6 goals down. Final quarter ahead of us. O'Brien with the hit out, ends up with Cripps. Been quiet tonight. Tumbles a kick down to half forward. Silvani, the target, took an unkind bounce for him. He's going to get a second look at it. Hand pass away to Honey. He dishes it off to Akers. Kicks it on the run. One small step for Carlton. A long way back. 54 seconds into the final term. Akers kicks one off his left peg. Adelaide by 5 goals, 13-7 to 8-7. Luke Ball and Rod Jamieson on grandstand AFL.
Well, you mentioned it was a rare involvement for Paddy Cripps, wasn't it? In fact, it was his first kick for the second half, and just surging the ball forward. Not pretty again, not a heap of method to it. I thought they might have overdone it with one handball too many. Young Honey being a bit unselfish, giving out to Blake Akers, who was pushing down from that wing position, forced to kick it on his left foot, but did it nicely. So it's all you could have asked for, isn't it? Goal in the first minute. Let's see if they can put 2 in a row on just to make this game a bit interesting.
We spoke about Sam Walsh and the time that he's going to be required to play the game on his way back too. Just how much energy have Carlton exerted in that third quarter, and now they've got to find some more.
Another clearance coming. De Koning got it down to Cripps. Now Ed Curnow up to centre half forward. Fell through the hands of Silvani, falling back. Michaelani turns it straight over though. Walsh got it off to Akers. Can he go 2 from 2? He can't. He's kicked it out on the full in the left forward pocket.
Oh, he had to give that to Corey Durden.
That would have put a bit of spice in the game.
Yeah, that's right. He got one. He had to repay the favour there, Blake Akers.
Butts long out to half-back. Hands on the way through from Duday. Couldn't complete the mark and then fell heavily. Spills through to Akers. Hand pass to Cripps. Hooks a kick inside 50. They come from all directions. Falls down in front of Durden. He keeps it in front of him. Durden top of the goal square. Bangs through his second. Is the door just ajar for the Blues? Carlton close within 24. 13-7 to 9-7. 2.5 minutes played in the final term.
That was the margin, wasn't it, too, that they just couldn't get it past after Adelaide exploded in that first quarter. It got back to 4. And again, 4 goals. They are up and about Carlton. We've asked Paddy Cripps. He's showing the way too. And I think one of the easiest games, and we sit up here in the box and just say, oh, look, didn't deliver it well, didn't do that. But I think, Borley, one of the easiest things you can actually do, just give it to someone in a better position and honour that bloke running through, and then that generates the energy and the run, and that's what Carlton need right at the moment.
Well, he's had 3 possessions in 2 minutes, Cripps. He needed to lift to give them any chance. He's done that. Durden's looked the most lively, hasn't he? Yep. Small forwards, Carlton forward line.
Bounce straight up in the middle. O'Brien taps it over his head straight into the path of Laird, who gives it back to his ruck. Then Rochelle. It's an outstanding chain. Dawson's kicked it straight into Sard though. The Blues coming. Murphy gathers from centre half forward, heads to the top of the goal square. Back with the flight. Plowman cuts it off for Carlton in defensive 50. If you're just joining us, Adelaide kicking to the right of your radio dial, the southern end, leading by 24 points.
Plowman out to half-back. Cripps flies for it again. No mark. Spills down to Hollands. Hand pass and turnover. Crows inside 50 through slow. They all miss it. There's about 6 there. Split the pack straight through the middle. Akers, long kick out of the defensive arc. It's a loose one, and Miller takes the intercept mark. Looks back inside the forward 50. Pedler marks on his chest. Just a step inside the 50 at left half forward. Luke Pedler, one of their 2 inclusions. Pick 11.
This might exceed the range, Corby. Sorry, at the moment too. He's going to go back and have to kick it from outside 50. Carlton a push back.
His 3rd year, high draft pick. Pedler. He's got a long left peg on him. From outside the 50-metre arc, the kick has the trip, but it's offline. Crows by 25. 5 gone final term. Mitch Cleary.
First 3 quarters, Jacob Wiedering, Lewis Young and Tom Duday, only 3 players to yet to come off the ground. Duday has just left the ground with a blood nose, getting some work done here on the bench.
Sard plays on, pops it short to Kennedy. Still in defensive 50. He'll hand it back to the All-Australian backman. Heads up to the western side. Ed Kerno marks, turns, chips it through the benches, up towards Walsh. Adelaide had flooded back. Walsh will head up to left half forward anyway. Flying Silvani. Outnumbered by the Crows at the 4 of the footy. Miller got it back to Duday. Scholl inside to Hinge. Now off to Smith. Uses Laird. This handball chain in the 4th is working for them, but the kicking isn't. Butts has turned it over. Kicked it straight down the throat of Wiedering at left half back.
Just 7 intercept marks last week, I think it was too, and read that really well. Otherwise, Adelaide were away.
Wiedering, long contest kick to centre half. Oh, it's a Koning! Big Sitton comes down with the footy. Rode the back of Butts. The kick goes inside the forward arc. Mackay caught at the back. Spills down to Michael Annie. Falls to Jones of the Crows to Murray. Hand pass away in front of the behind post to Hinge. Long kick to a 2-on-1. Newman in the box seat for Carlton. No mark. Falls through to Plowman. Plowman under the pump. He's caught. Great work, Pedler. He was in a 2-on-1 and Pedler won it. The chase down tackle on Plowman wins it back for the Crows at half back. Adelaide by 25. 6 gone final term.
Well, that's what he's renowned for too, and at the right time from Adelaide. Carlton have just been coming and dropping it inside 50.
Up the eastern side, Dawson had a running jump at it. Sard came across late and forces it over the boundary line. Crows by 25 points.
So after that early blitz, Aaron, 8 of the first 9 goals for Adelaide. The closest Carlton have been is 18 points, which was time on in the second term. They haven't got closer than that. Now 25 down, 6.5 into the last.
So far this season, the 4th term is their worst scoring, the Blues. They'll need to buck the trend. Off the ruck contest, Jones shakes a tackle for the Crows. Hands it to Dawson, then Michael Annie. Between centre wing and left half back. Gets around Hollands on the 45. It's a magnificent kick. Got it off to Rochelle, who gave it to Miller. Ran into a wall, but somehow got it back to him. Rochelle into the 50. Just trying to get it to Pedler. Read well by Kennedy in the back half. Intercepts on the painted defensive 50.
One of the 3 big ends for Carlton tonight. They got punched in the mouth in the opening quarter, though, the Blues. Before they've had a chance to settle, now they've been chasing the game throughout. Kennedy back from that calf complaint, shares it with Mackay and then to Curnow. They're both on the wing. Who's going to take a grab up front? Long to Durden, stands underneath it. Pressure coming from Dawson. No mark, falls to Butts of the Crows. Hand pass missed his intended target. The tackle lingered from Durden. Jordan Butts will get the free half back for Adelaide. 25 points, the Crows lead. Carlton have kicked the last 2 of the game, trying to get some momentum going early in the final term.
Bucks to a pack on the western wing, off hands, front and square. Hewitt got it out. Newman with a tumble kick up to Charlie Curnow. Piercing ball a bit too high for Silvani. Clears out towards the scoreboard pocket. Jones wants to escort it over, but it won't go there. Sat up, he had to gather. Gave it to Miller. Spun a full 360s, held by the ankles. And called trip. It could have been holding the ball. Did a full rotation before he was brought down, but he knew he'd just done enough to shrug the tackle and force the infringement. Wayne Miller in the defensive goal square. Nearly gifted Carlton a goal. Clearing kick to right half back. Good fly. Fogarty far from home will take it. Wants to go up the western wing. Spots Thilthorpe alone. Couple of uncontested marks here as he looks inside. Hits up Scholl. Now Fogarty again. Forward to Thilthorpe. Trying to get around Newman. Did well with the handball. Laird a little 1-2. Uses Rankin. Then pushed as he kicked it towards the 50. Running fly from Sloane. The former skipper of what may be his final season marks, and unselfishly, as he's done his entire career, gives it off to Darcy Fogarty on the tight angle. 25 out. Close to the boundary line. Sloane probably had a better shot, albeit further out.
You might recall he actually took a mark over Mitch McGovern. It was a fair hanger from pretty much the same spot in round 20 last year and put it straight through.
One of the best forward lines in the competition at the moment, the Adelaide Crows, and they've just welcomed back Darcy Fogarty. This will be a blow to the Blues. Kicks from the boundary line. It's got a bit of curve. Oh my! How has he snuck that home? 3 for Darcy Fogarty. A dazzling display. And Adelaide hold all of the Blues momentum. Back up by 31 points. 14-8-92. Carlton 9-7, 61, 10 minutes into the final term on Grandstand AFL.
Oh, it's a nice return, isn't it, from Darcy Fogarty, albeit with the heavy knee strap, but set up by Rory Sloane, really, which contested mark in here, and Lockie Plowman, you hope and expect him to at least make a contest there and bring the ball to ground. They're pretty open pockets here, I reckon, at Jamo, aren't they? We see goals kicked from these pockets a fair bit, I reckon. That's a nice finish, just to halt any sort of momentum the Blues had. You felt like they had a bit of a sniff, but again, Corby, as you've been saying, they just haven't been able to get close enough.
I played here before the renos actually happened. Those pockets, Bally, you couldn't see the light through the post.
That's
the right angles.
It's a hell of a kick from out wide. Emblematic of the night for Carlton. As O'Brien hand pass away towards Hinge, peeling off the back of the square, kicks it in Fogarty's direction. Why wouldn't you? Competes in the air, no mark. Cherry inadvertently sockers it straight to McHenry. Hand pass to Laird to bang another one through. He's offline. Adelaide by 32. 11 gone, final term. 14-9 to 9-7. So 93 plays 61. Crows by 32 points.
Feels like they're 1 goal away from putting this to bed, Corby. Carlton need to find something. Sard plays on from the defensive goal square, had no idea where to go, and finally Ed Curnow presents late. Hits him at left half back, hands it over the top, uses Fisher, then Cripps, and now Walsh. There's some names, but Miller makes sure he runs out of room and forces him over the boundary line. True centre wing, western side. Adelaide have had all the answers so far tonight.
Jordan Butts is 198 centimetres. Tom de Koning just sat on his head. It's a fair catch.
Toss back in. Silvani taken out of it by O'Brien, who won it down looking for Sloane. Cripps got a hand in. Spills out anyway to Smith. Races through the logo and then goes along looking for Rankin. Murphy came out, couldn't control it. Spills to the back. Sliding in, tackle laid by Keys to hold things up just inside the attacking 50. As Plowman's last off the deck. Ball up to come.
It was late in Lockie Plowman. Mitch McGovern hurt in the warm-up, so originally in the team. came out super late from the restart. O'Brien slips through his hands, falls to Cripps. Took him a while to heat up tonight as he kicks in the middle of the ground, and Mackay's going to be paid the mark. Just picks it up and gives it a whack. They're all running downhill. Fisher looking back over his shoulder at pitches. Miller are right there with him. Fisher grabs it, trying to wrong foot Miller right, gets back on the left peg, tries to kick a banana on the inside out and puts it straight across the goal face, out of bounds on the full in the opposite pocket. 32 points is Adelaide's lead, 14-9 to 9-7.
We mentioned it's his 100th game so far tonight, Corby. Zach Fisher was picked 27 in 2016. He's from York in WA, 97 kilometres east. A shout out to the West Australians listening tonight. Adelaide clear out to the eastern side. Good body work by Wiedering. Gets rid of Thilthorpe. Takes a mark at the back of the pack on the logo. Not a lot of options ahead, so we'll look to switch back. Uses Newman and then Plowman. They can't complete the switch. Adelaide zoning off pretty well here through the middle of the ground. Newman now turns it straight over. High kick over the head of Chera, straight to Sloane. Adelaide on the counter. Keys marks on the eastern side. Heads down the line looking for Dawson. Stood in his spot, back with the flight. Akers brought it to ground. He's tackled by Dawson. And that'll hold things up for the time being. Jordan Dawson, what a night he is having. That is his 9th tackle of the evening.
And 31 disposals.
Up it goes. O'Brien swats it down, but straight to Ed Curnow. Hand pass to Akers. Kicks a high ball out wide. Walsh underneath it. Jones arrives late to spoil. Close to the boundary line. Hinge. Hand pass out of play. And a throw in right on halfway eastern wing. Crows by 32. Sometimes the numbers tell a story. Sometimes they're a little deceiving. I couldn't believe Carlton 37, Adelaide 35, the clearance numbers. But the way that the ball's come out for Adelaide compared to the way it has for Carlton at times tonight has really been the game.
Yep, yeah, they levelled it up in that second quarter. They're able to turn it around a lot, but yeah, you're right. Nowhere near as effective out of stoppage, the Blues tonight.
Speaking of clearances, Silvani ggets boot to ball in the tackle and hits Charlie Curnow. He marks 40 out, 45-degree angle to the right.
There's been a lot of pressured kicks, a bit like that, and Curnow good enough to take the mark, whereas Adelaide at their best have been able to chain it out with hands and really spread and gain effectiveness out of it.
Certainly wasn't Silvani's intended target. He just hit it in hope towards the 50.
Nick Murray had him covered too. Just the strength of Charlie to be able to just at the right time find the space he needed.
They need him to stand up. Charlie Curnow from 50. It's got all the distance. Just carries a bit left. Minor score for the Blues, trailing by 31 points. 14-9-93. Carlton 9-8-62. Still 10 to play in the final term on Grandstand AFL.
So Mitch Hinge on the kick out from a line goes to a half-back to Duday, short kick to Jones. Again in the defensive 50. Just pokes the pass up the defensive side of the wing for Murray. Adelaide by 31. Felt like in the second half they've held about a similar lead throughout. There's a long kick down the wing and pack mark in the end for Wiedering. They're going to play a free kick in front of all that to Plowman, who retreats back for Carlton. To Newman. Feeds a hand pass back to Plowman. Shakes the would-be tackle from Rochelle. They've caught a high tackle. It's a generous call for Plowman. The Blues will get it in a slow play at half-back. Huge weekend to come. Adelaide showcase tonight. They kick 8 of the first 9 goals. The home team tomorrow night. We've got a double header. Afternoon fixture down at the Parade. Norwood's home ground. Home of the Redlegs, where Gold Coast will play Freo. Fascinating game in the context of the season. Then the late fixture here at Adelaide Oval for Richmond and Sydney as Hollands, defensive side of the wing, looks inboard but turns it over as Riley O'Brien takes the intercept mark in the centre square.
Kicks to the western wing to Miller. Looks back inside. Spots McHenry the sub. On for Jake Saligo. Tactical decision there by Matthew Nix. McHenry retreats to centre half back. Hits up Hinge. Speaking of the 9 games across the weekend, Corby, it's great to have you and Luke Ball here. We'll also have Nick Malthouse, Mark Murphy, Kelly Underwood, Ben Cameron, Clint Wilden, Matt Clinch at every venue across the weekend. The ABC Listen app, your home of Gather Round. Adelaide's moved it to the eastern side. Chase Jones, true centre wing.
You're not sleeping on a bench somewhere, are you? Managed to find some accommodation?
Jones heads up towards the left forward pocket. O'Brien caught behind in the pack. Rochelle front and square, though. Used the body, bounced off Cowan, gave it to Rankin. Almost shaped the Newman tackle, but did enough. He slipped low, grabbed the ankle, and gave away the free kick. Rankin doesn't waste any time. Plays on, centres his kick, and hits Ned McHenry.
Apparently one of the other broadcast crews, Jamo, have actually got a couple of houses.
Yeah?
So they've got some Airbnbs, and basically they're all there like the Smurfs in one big house. But we're just in a stock standard hotel or apartments.
They're all painting their bodies blue?
I'm not colouring in the rest of it, but that's what I've heard.
Ned McHenry, the sub tonight, after 22 touches and 5 coaches' votes last week, to put a pin in it. Beautiful. It's been a marvellous night for the Adelaide Crows. They've made a statement at the expense of the Blues. Their 15th goal, 15-9-99. Carlton 9-8-62 as we approach time on. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Looks like Adam Sard's night is done for the Blues. Just spent some time down in the rooms with a physio. Has gone to the back row of the bench. I'll chase up exactly what the ailment is, but he's in the back row alongside Mark Pitnet, subbed out earlier with that eye injury.
Well, McHenry gets the goal, Jamo, but it's a pretty dangerous and slippery forward line, isn't it? They're starting to put together, the Crows, obviously with Rankin, the big signing coming into that team. But Murphy has had some good moments tonight. We know Saligo hasn't had a great night, subbed off tonight, but Pedler's got some tricks about him as well, along with Fogarty and of course Big Tex and Philthorpe. So there's a bit to like about that at Crows front 6, front 7.
6-6-6 warning against the Crows. Both rucks miss it as the umpire chucks it up on the restart. Philthorpe second go. Hand pass over his shoulder to Dawson. Just control onto his left boot. Kick inside 50 and Louis Young reaches over the top of Sloane to take the intercept mark. Wrapping around the back is Newman. Receives the hand pass. Gives it back to Young. Him and Rankin. Their battle continues. Hand pass got it out to Ed Curnow. Back to Newman. Hurried kick to the wing and a turnover. And it's Chase Jones who takes the mark at high half forward, pokes the pass out wide to Smith.
Of his best games for the club, this Chase Jones.
Smith lays it up to the hot spot. They all fly. Walker crashing the pack, spills to Murphy, chucks it on the boot. His snap is right across the front of goal and put it out on the full in the opposite pocket. Crows by 37, ticking into time on final term. Mitch Cleary on the boundary.
Crows holding a sign at the bench. It simply says +1 boss. I'm not sure if they're trying to call Rod Jamieson back to the club or it's some sort of tactic, but +1 boss for the Crows on the bench.
The Blues are living dangerously at the moment, just kicking in hope, and Adelaide have numbers sitting back, possibly that +1 that Mitch is talking about. Duday gathers, sends it back towards the arc for Adelaide. Coming across, Kennedy lost it in the flight. Plowman gathers, Sloane pulls him over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play on the paint of the attacking 50 right forward pocket.
You got the 2-minute noodles pretty early the other day, Bally. Any idea on +1 boss?
Oh, the +1's probably obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
+1 either behind the ball or at the contest. Not sure about the boss though. Usually maybe the boss is that sort of, as I'm looking down now, Tom Doty looks like he's playing the boss role, which is that goalkeeper +1 behind the ball.
Toss back in, it's spilled out to Ed Curnow, clearing kick up towards the western wing. Intercepted by Laird, got it to Hinge, heads to the top of the goal square. Walker's one out and gathers back with the flight, races into the open goal. He's got 3. He's stolen the show on the South Australian Showcase. Adelaide are home in front of 47,395. They're up by 43 points with 6 minutes to play on Grandstand AFL.
Charlie Curnow's just come over to have a chat to Rory Laird. In amongst all that, while it was really open forward line too, Wittering has been so good, isn't it? Just couldn't get his body in the right spot, went over the back. Just dangerous as a defender. When it goes over there, you become helpless too. Plowman couldn't get back to help out. Taylor Walker's been the target for Adelaide, the big man, joining Darcy Fogarty. Remember through the 90s when Carlton played in the sky blue? It was actually a commercial deal.
For the M&Ms?
Yeah, it was. I played in that game.
Did you really? Princess Park?
Mm.
Yeah.
And the other one too, that you might recall. Remember when Gary Hocking changed his name to Whiskers?
Yes. How good were the 90s? Adelaide out of the middle, kicks out wide to McHenry, takes the mark, and flares it further wide to Murphy.
I reckon he had about 48 touches that day too. Changed his name to Whiskers, Bally, for the day. What would you change your name to?
Everyone's got a price, don't they?
Murphy just pokes it into the pocket for Fogarty, who takes the mark against the boundary line.
It's getting a bit ugly for the Blues. For the Blues, this. Way too easy out of the centre bounce there. Training drill stuff.
Yeah, sort of 10 goals gets to that sort of ugly mark, doesn't it?
Yeah.
After that, a bit of spirit. Carlton earlier in the quarter. All of a sudden, it's as wide as it's been at 43 points. Darcy Fogarty from a tight angle. He's kicked one from the right pocket. From the left, he misses near side. So every unanswered score from here, that game high advantage grows. Adelaide by 44. 23 minutes played, final term on Grandstand AFL. 16-10 to 9-8.
Long ball from Carlton. Just trying to find anything they can. Up towards the western wing. Walsh head over the footy. Had Smith behind him, and Smith won out. Got it to Rochelle. Then Miller are the Crows on the surge. Scholl to Keys at right half forward. Steps inside. Heads for home. 1-on-1. Can he get away? For the footy. Fogarty can gather. Gets around 3 and snaps through his fourth. It is showtime for the Adelaide Crows. They have delivered in a main event blockbuster, and it's on as well in the 50. The Blue Baggers can put up a fight, but it's too little too late. 50 points the margin. Adelaide storming home, 17-10, 112 to 9-8, 62.
Charlie Curnow, Rory Laird once again having a bit to say.
Well, there's no point in doing that now, Charlie. And your Carlton teammates, the time to show the fight was in that first 20 minutes, and they didn't. And look, in the end, the Crows deserved to win by 9 or 10 goals, such was their dominance in that first quarter, Jamo. Apart from that second quarter where the Blues controlled the game a bit, but even then they were able to hold up in the back six, the Crows. They've just been dominant tonight. It's been such an impressive performance.
Adelaide head to Tasmania next week to take on the Hawks, who are struggling. Then back home for a big game against Collingwood.
Could be on a 4-game winning sequence by the time they get there. They'll start favourite, you'd think, in the Apple Isle next week. Hurried kick out of the middle from Dakota, but it's marked by Miller. And look, lockstep at the moment, undefeated in their last 3 now, after a winless opening fortnight. And Max Michaelani takes the mark on the back flank. Impressive is this teenager, as he just sets it up in front of Keys and hits him perfectly. Takes the mark on the wing. Adelaide by 50. 25 gone, final term.
I think up until tonight, one of the things from Carlton, Corby, is they've been in every game, haven't they? And the winning margin's 23, 10 and 12, and then the draw round 1. So there hasn't lost, but there hasn't been a blowout either way. And tonight's a bit of a kick in the shin for them.
Keys went to right half forward. Off hands will get a boundary throw in. Quick couple of stats for you, Corby. So under Matthew Nicks, Adelaide has only won 3 matches in a row twice. They've always included wins against the Blues. Yes. Which is not a great stat for them. Toss back into play, off hands by Riley O'Brien. Will trickle up towards Carlton's left half forward and slapped over the boundary line very deliberately there by Michaelani. His first blemish of the night, you could say, and the boundary umpires caught up amongst it as well. Free kick to Motlop.
Might be a 17-1 vote next year for the gather round back into Adelaide. Michael Voss will be very much opposed.
Motlop got it to Walsh, heads inside 50. Mackay marks out in front, tight angle, 45 out. The other stat was it's the first time since 2017 that the Crows have kicked 100-plus 3 games in a row.
That's been the real big key, isn't it, too? The ability to be able to get to that number and get there in the manner in which they did.
Yeah, good spread too, isn't it? Haven't been relying on one. Been a good spread across the board.
Mackay and Curnow with 2 apiece. Harry looking for his third. He's sprayed that across the face. It's actually stayed in. The footy on the goal line. A volley attempt by Durden was missed. He gathers. His handball kept it in play, but he gave it straight to Keys. Duday will clear with a torp all the way to right half back that bounces off the face of Newman. Spilled down. Scholl caught in the tackle, turned it over. Chera gathers for Carlton. Handball off to Hewitt. Now inside. Gee, here's Cowan going for home from 60. Heads to the scoreboard pocket. Silvani kept out of it by Murray. And in their battle, he's given away a holding free kick to the Crows defender.
And I guess coming in tonight too, Motlop 5, Mackay 6, Curnow 16. Outside of that, there hasn't been the numbers and the targets for Carlton to actually score. So, again, they've found it challenging in that area tonight.
Crows work it up to the eastern wing as Murphy kicks down to half forward. Ball skids through. There's a whistle on the play. It's a downfield free kick. Murphy was felled after getting rid of the footy. So Walker to take it. He's got Rankin one out in the cage, and he's happy just to lay it up. The Blues get numbers back in support. Kennedy takes the mark. Carlton away. Akers receives it back pocket. Rankin never gave up on the chase. Affects the kick, and it's a turnover. And Buffs takes the intercept mark for Adelaide. He looks inboard. And Sloan marks. He'll go short to Keys. And Keys has it with most of the players on the ground in front of him, standing right on the broadcast wing. Adelaide by 50, 28 gone, final term.
3 goals for the night. Ben Keys back to Butts. They'll just happily tinker it around at the moment, Adelaide. Their third victory locked away. Back to Duday, then Miller across half-back. Completes the switch out to the eastern side. Ooh, it's a dangerous kick, but Jones made it look easy pulling it in. Kicks to Michael Annie. Still in the centre square. Too far out to score. No urgency. He'll go long into the left forward pocket. Caught behind Fogarty. Got rid of Cowan and pulls it in. Falling low to ground. Fogarty's looking for a handful. He marks 35 out.
It's just been a huge work on Bally with Matty Nix just to be able to. You go back 18 months ago, Adelaide wouldn't be hitting the short kicks like that. They wouldn't trust themselves through the back half or in the middle of the ground, albeit the margin is at 50 points. But they've done it all night. In the first quarter when they were flying and second quarter when they were challenged. So it's a big area of improvement that Adelaide have been able to maintain possession when they've had to.
Had 5 goals heading into tonight. Kicks from 40. Darcy Fogarty has 5. Big time Darcy. Adelaide up by 56 points. 18-10, 118. Carlton 9-8-62 as we approach the final siren.
That's a good return, isn't it? A handful. We spoke just before about the even spread of contribution, but the votes are going to be interesting to give out, whether you squeeze in a 5-goal haul, don't you? But yeah, I mean, the damage was done obviously in that first quarter and in the middle of the ground, but it's a good sign, isn't it, that a young guy can come in and have an impact like he has.
To think we've been speaking so much about Charlie and Harry at one end, well, Walker could have easily had a bag tonight. Yep. He kicks 3-3 and had 1 land short, and Fogarty 5 goals 3, so he's had 8 looks at it.
Carlton have had more inside 50s than Adelaide, amazingly, after that first quarter. 53 to 51.
Taccone wins the hit out down to Hewitt. A hand pass to Fisher, gives it to Chera. On the eastern wing, feeds a hand pass forward to Taccone, takes on the tackler. Feeds a hand pass back to Kennedy, who spun around and dispossessed. Welcome to Adelaide. The Crows dish out the Blues' first loss of the season and show the rest of the league what the local team is capable of. Adelaide by 56 points in front of a sold-out crowd at Adelaide Oval. South Australia, and we're known as the Adelaide Crows. We're courageous, stronger, faster, and respected by our foes. Admiration of the nation, our determination shows. We're the pride of South Australia, we're the mighty Adelaide Crows. So that's how things are done around here. Adelaide kick 8 of the first 9 goals to blow the game apart. 42 points was Adelaide's lead at time on in the opening quarter. Carlton kicked the next 4. Adelaide responded as they did to every challenge that Carlton tried to mount throughout the night. Adelaide by 38 points at quarter time, 31 at the half, 36 at three-quarter time and 56 in the finish. They end up kicking the last 5 goals of the match. Fogarty kicked 5 himself, 3 for Keys and 3 for Walker. Far too good for Carlton, who suffer their first loss of the young season.
Yes, the pride of South Australia, where the mighty Adelaide
So the goal kickers in total, Fogarty 5, 3 for Walker, 3 for Keys, and then 1 each for Jones, Rochelle, Pedler, Rankin, McHenry, Laird and Smith. Meanwhile for Carlton, 2 for Harry Mackay, 2 for Durden and 2 for Charlie Curnow, and then 1 each for Motlop, Akers and Walsh. As the curtain comes up, the start gather round, we've witnessed a complete demolition as Adelaide make a statement to the rest of the league who are here to see it. Crows by 56 points in the finish. Initial thoughts, Rod Jamieson and Luke Ball.
Well, it was I wouldn't say a complete night, but in terms you just can't go past as to how Adelaide actually started the night, and that really did set them up too. We spoke at half-time how competitive Carlton were, but the margin was just too big to get them back in the game. They got as close as, I think, 3 goals at one particular point. It became a real scrap and an arm wrestle in that third quarter, but I guess just the class in the end just came to the surface, and Adelaide were able to kick 5-goal 3 to 2-goal 1 in that last quarter. We've seen in the big time Port Adelaide game 6 minutes, or 6 to 8 minutes I think it was. Adelaide kicked 6 just to really blow the game open. Then Fremantle last week, they sort of arm wrestled their way through and were able to finish off really strongly too. So, and I touched on how the ability to stay clean under pressure and use the football, come through the middle of the ground, maintain possession, go fast when they had to. And even with some of the players that were quiet tonight too. Saliga, who's been very good this year. Pedler, he's just a tackling machine. Isaac Rankin didn't have an impact on the scoreboard with the just kicking the 1 goal, but others stepped up. Lockie Murphy too didn't kick a goal or score tonight, but his defensive work, he smothered deep in the defensive area for Carlton. So I think Max Michaelani was great, Tom Dudo was great, Butts, Murray, those guys in the back half. Riley O'Brien probably had it his way too after Pitnet went off with the issue that he had. Not quite sure if it was around his face, but certainly the eye issue, and that made it really hard for the ruck. Look, I really like what Carlton are doing, but I think they'll get a real learning tonight, Bully, around they'll look at that, pull it apart and just say what happened and be better for it.
Yeah, it just showed all the traits of a good team, playing well at finals brand of footy, Jamo, really, didn't they? In that first quarter, they were tough in and around the contest. They were clean, as you mentioned, around the clearances. They had great balance around the clearances, trusted players to go in and win the ball, and then they were able to, as we spoke about time and time again, just spread and outwork Carlton on the outside. So, and the fact they were able to run the game out, as you said, they're clearly a hard-running, fit team as well. So, tough inside, great pressure, great running and overlap team, and then maybe that last thing they've been able to add over the last 4 weeks in particular, Jamo, is that ability to kick well as well and maintain the ball by foot. And when you look at some of the players that are doing it, it's Jordan Dawson, who we know is arguably one of the best kicks, if not the best kick in the competition. Brodie Smith's playing good footy again, isn't he? And Rory Laird. So it's a really good mix. It's a really good balance of tough inside ball winners and players that run and overlap and spread and get on the outside. And then that forward line, as we spoke about towards the end there, is really damaging, especially with Fogarty as that sort of mid-sized player, a bit of a challenging matchup. Walker looking fit and in good form, and then the brilliance and magic of a Rankin and the role players around them. I really like Chase Jones's game tonight. He's starting to settle into his career. I think he's ticking over 60 games now. We know he's a high draft pick, so they've got a really good mix of high-end talent and then some guys that, you mentioned those key defenders who are rookies but are coming in and really back to play their role and are doing that. So, yeah, I was so impressed tonight. They spoke about it all week. They talked it up. We're ready for the big time, the prime time, and they absolutely delivered tonight. So they should surge ahead now with confidence. Even in the pre-season, I like the noises that were coming out of it. We're not making up the numbers. We want to bridge that gap really quickly. We think we can play finals this year. Well, after tonight, there's no reason why they shouldn't absolutely believe that to be the case.
I find their list build fascinating, and I know this is something that's been hotly debated, but when you look at the grand final loss in 2017, they've had 8 first-round picks. So Fogarty at 12, Chase Jones at 9, McHenry at 16, Mackesy at 6, who's obviously no longer there, yep. Phil Thorpe at 2, Pedler at 11, who we saw tonight, Rochelle at 6, and Michael Annie at 17. So all of a sudden there's names there that are a big part of what happened tonight, starting with Fogarty, who kicked 5, And that's what you got to do. You got to collate high-end picks. You're not going to hit on every single pick. Hawthorn's great team when they were putting something together. They had a few hits and misses the way through, but if you get enough of them over a period of time, they trade in for guys like Rankin and Dawson during that period as well, and they've been able to put together a group which there's a couple of aspects. One, which I'm sure we'll get to, they have very few on the injury list, so Darren Burge's name comes up again there that they've got very few unavailable to them, but they got high-end talent that they've been able to collate over a number of years.
Yeah, they do, and they used the first-round pick on Jordan Dawson, which at the time people thought, is that over as well? And clearly now, in terms of the leadership he's been able to provide, and club captain, that now is looking like a masterstroke, isn't it? And homegrown talent too. That's the other thing, isn't it? Being able to attract back players like Dawson, like Rankin, who are from South Australia, I think it's been a huge win for them as well. So yeah, it's
and let's I was one. I'm sure plenty of people were. I was sitting here 12 months ago saying, they got it all wrong. I don't know where they're going with it, Adelaide, and there was plenty of those. But if you're sitting here 5 weeks into the new season, you can see what they're doing, and that there's a clear cause and effect between the way Nix wants them to play and what we're seeing on the park.
Yeah, and even you mentioned McHenry and Jones were two, and they were criticised for that, weren't they? I think there were some players that have burst onto the scene more than those two that they took in front of, but they've stuck with them. They've persisted, haven't they? And those guys are starting to, with 50, 60, 70 games behind them, those guys are starting to develop into really good quality AFL footballers as well.
I'm keen to explore more of that with Rod Jamieson in just a moment. Adelaide winners by a wide margin, 56 points over Carlton. Let's get into the winners' rooms to celebrate. Mitch Cleary is down there. Mitch.
And it is absolutely packed down here. Some familiar South Australian faces. It feels like everyone's arrived for gather round. Darren Lehman, Buff's down here. Guy Sebastian, I'm told, is somewhere in the throng. I'm talking 80, 90, 100 people are down here. The Crows are packing it out. Hugs all round. Exciting scenes as they huddle up to sing the song for the third time this year. And they're absolutely loving it, the Crows fans. We're about to speak to Josh Rochelle. I'll throw back upstairs as we try and pull him out of this song.
Thanks, Mitch. There were plenty that stuck around too. They show it on the big screen here and everyone's singing along in the stands and on the hill. There's very few of those that are quick to move away from the grassed area underneath the scoreboard. 56 points, Crows winners over the Blues. Do you want to pick up on some of that, Jammo? You've obviously come off the board recently, but you were there while, what are we going to call it, this rebuild was going on. But does it fill you with any pride to be able to see the way that they've played in the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, look, it does, absolutely too. And I guess the name or the word that we keep talking, you've got to be patient, And certainly I've been one that's got to a point where you go, come on, we've got to pull the trigger here and actually have a deep go. And the last 2 years, you've had 9 debutants in 2020 and 9 in 2021. So not only are you acquiring the talent, you're actually building the talent. We spoke of Butts tonight and the way that he's come on, and Nick Murray. And so you've actually had to build and construct a little bit outside to make it work in the manner in which it has too. And with that has to come experience, get the games into the players. And when Matty Nix took over, like the first year only won 3 games and we're just sitting back and COVID had hit. And so the expectation here in Adelaide from an Adelaide perspective is that it's the first time that the club had actually genuinely gone into that rebuild, and it took some time. And it ultimately wasn't by design. Initially, too, there was a bit of a fallout and way things happen, and then there was the ability for others that had come from Victoria or other clubs and said they were going to stay, but their behaviour, once they sort of got to the right point of the set, they took off and chased longer term and tenure and a bit of money. So that was really disappointing to hear, plus the ones that sort of got to an age that, with time had probably got past them a bit. So the club was sort of forced into the hand to go, right, as much as we don't want to do this is the first time that the club had done that, and we had to pull it out. And I think in terms of where it's tracking, I like what Matty Nix and respectfully what the coaching group and the experience that it's built, the talent that they're bringing in, but their experience that they've been exposed to over the last 2 or 3 years. And albeit the result hasn't been there, 3 wins, 8 wins. Last year, Adelaide lost 5 under 2 goals. So again, clubs go through it. and you want to get involved in the tight ones to expose and experience of that. And that's where I'm a little bit bullish. If they do stay fit and they stay healthy, I think they can finish that sort of 6 to 10. And if they get in there and the commentary from, all the other that view the game, that have had experience in it, and the opposition, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, is just the pressure that this team applies. It's a big tick. It's then the execution, which is then slowly coming, the targets up forward. And I spoke about in that last quarter where the club is just being able to take the punt and take the risk. If you go back last year, we spoke about this against Freo, round 1. Thilthorpe goes inside, kicks poor, executed, goes over the top, Fremantle kick, win a goal, and they're up by a point. So they're the sort of things where you've got to get past the bad ones and work through the positive, and I think Matty Nix has been able to take his team there.
And we've seen pressure in the past. Number 1 pressure team last year. Sydney obviously rode that all the way through to the last game of the season. Crows by 56 points over Carlton in the finish. Back into the winners' rooms, Mitch Cleary.
Thanks, Corbin. Joined by Josh Rochelle. Josh, the rooms are pumping down here. How good does that feel?
It's an amazing feeling. I think a lot of us knew by that third quarter that we were going to get over the line, and to have all our friends and family and fans come along now, it was a great win for us.
Feels like the city's got behind Gather Round. Have you sensed a bit of extra excitement in here? Darren Lehman's here, Guy Sebastian, you've got some family and friends as well?
Yeah, I was a bit starstruck in the change room seeing Guy Sebastian. I used to watch that guy when I was a kid. But yeah, it all started with the traffic this morning and going in today. It was a different vibe, and we just had to embrace it. We're loving Gather Round so far.
I see the Timmy Cahill boxing celebration on field. Did you give us a little one as you walked in before?
Yeah, I did a little bit of this going on. Thought I'd get the crowd going up and about today with my first goal. But yeah, it's been a bit of a celebration that's stuck, and I think I'll continue to go with it.
I'll probably upstairs to Corbin Middlemass, Aaron Bryans, Rod Jamison and Luke Ball.
Yeah, Josh, congratulations to the experience that you've gleaned, I guess, coming into the competition, but also in the middle of the ground. I thought the first quarter, what we all did, was just absolutely outstanding. 8 goals to 2 for Carlton. The clearance work, superb.
Yeah, we had a big focus that we're going to throw the first punch going straight in. We know Carlton were a really good clearance and contested team, and we thought if we brought that, it'd start us on the front foot, and it did in the first quarter, and I think that's what got over us the line.
Just the options at the moment too. Isaac Rankin only kicked the 1 goal, but had a quieter night. But Lockie Murphy didn't hit the scoreboard, but yourself too. Just the ability to be able to share the load.
I think that's why our forward line's looking so dangerous at the moment. We don't have to rely on any specific player. As you mentioned, you've got those guys. You've got players like Ned McHenry, who's stiff at the moment, who's at any other teams probably playing at the moment. So it's really good to have those options, and I think that's what's helping us kicking a lot of goals at the moment.
And Josh, yourself, you went into you're spending a bit more time in the middle, which is great to see. I know you played a lot of your junior footy there. What about at the club? Who's taken you under their wing? Who are you working really closely with in terms of senior players at the club?
Yeah, obviously Tech's been a massive one since coming in the forward line. But yeah, since I've moved into the midfield, Rory Laird and Jordan Dawson and obviously Rory Sloan have been unbelievable so far. And on the game, they're always directing me and helping me. And then credit to my midfield coach, Nathan Berbella, who's helping me a lot.
And what about the skipper? Us people from Melbourne, I spoke before the game, there's potentially a few eyebrows raised or a bit of surprise when Jordan was named as captain at the start of the year. Can you tell us a little bit about Jordan, for those that don't see behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think everyone was very surprised externally when Dawes was named captain, but internally he was the perfect fit for us. I think Rory was a great captain for me in my first year or two, but I think he was ready to pass that on. And since he's come in, he's led by example. On the field, you wouldn't think of, he's one of the loudest blokes. He's always communicating. He leads in a different way to other leaders, but since he's been captain, can't fault him one bit.
Turned 20 during the week. Josh, did you do anything to celebrate?
Yes, I had my friends and family. That a lot of them are over at the moment. A lot of them are diehard Carlton supporters, so it was good to stick it up them tonight. And then went out for dinner Tuesday night, and caught up with a lot of my family, which has been good.
So you got the entire competition here. You obviously play Hawthorn next week down in Launceston on Sunday, so it's a long time between now and then. Do you get to other games this weekend? Are you doing anything collectively as a whole playing group? How do you spend the rest of the week with every club in town?
Yeah, we got a nice little function going on tomorrow, run by Rory and Tex. And then, I think I'm going to go head down and watch the academy boys actually take on Port. I've got a few of the boys, Harley Reid and Nick Watson, so myself and Jake Sligo will go with our managers and have a good look at that. And, I might go watch the Collingwood game as well on Sunday, which will be good.
Josh, 22 touches tonight. We saw some of them occur in the back half. Generally, you're a mid-forward type player. What spurred that change on?
Yeah, I think I was playing a lot of that central midfielder role today. And I thought when I took my first contested mark of the game, I could really drop in and take a few of them, which was good because I haven't really shown that since being there. And I thought that was one of my weapons as a junior, so it was good to bring that back. And I think, I've been playing a lot more on ball, and it's been helping me get my hands on the footy and helping us score goals and helping me go forward as well.
And Max Michaelani, Josh, 19 years of age, it was just his 5th game tonight, but every time we see him out there, he's courageous. He's almost a general in a way that he plays his footy down back. What's he been like as an addition to this squad this year?
Oh, Maxie, he's just unbelievable. He's a great character. He hasn't put a step wrong since he's come into the club. He's just great work ethic, always hungry, and he's probably one of the most competitive players I found when I was in pre-season and I was matching up on him. He was probably one of the hardest defenders to play on, so credit to him. He's playing unbelievable.
I think you got a meeting, Josh, so we'll let you run. Congratulations. It was a joy to watch tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.
Josh Rochelle there, 22 disposals and a goal in the Crows win. We might just stay in the Adelaide rooms while we have Mitch Cleary down there. Mitch, what else can you tell us in the fallout to all that? Adelaide by 56 points.
Yeah, I've just mentioned plenty of the familiar faces down here, celebrities and the like. There's also a familiar face that many may not recognise in the flesh but would know on paper. His name's Patrick Clifton, former AFL legal advisor, big part of the tribunal, was taken over to the NBA in a role through COVID. His official title was Vice President of Player Health and Performance. He's actually just returned to the Crows and this week joined as their Chief Operating Officer. So second in charge behind their new CEO, Tim Silvers. He's back in Australia. Spent 2 or 3 years at the NBA during COVID as a big part of their COVID plan. He's actually just rejoined the Crows in a new off-field role.
Very good operator.
That's why he's the best in the business, Masso. There's not much that gets by him. You guys are obviously both familiar with his work.
Yeah, I am. I spent a little bit of time at the AFL the first 2 years after I retired from playing, and yeah, he's a backroom operator, but he's very much behind a lot of the stuff that goes on. He was at the AFL, and not surprised to hear. I didn't know he was coming back. That's a good signing for the. I think he's a Adelaide boy maybe to start with, so I think that's a good signing from the Crows.
I met him the first time last week actually. He's just recently returned, so yeah, happy to be back. Look, good people, and that's what I guess football clubs are all about, isn't it? Whether it's on field or off field.
We'll check in with Mitch in the Carlton room, so we'll get him, let him wander around there, and we'll get some fallout from the Blues. But a 56-point win for the Crows.
I was surprised they'd even let Darren Lehman back into the rooms. Last time that happened, if you recall, was down in Tasmania against the Kangaroos, and they kicked 10 goals to no score in the first quarter, and Buff was sitting there, and just everyone said, "Get out."
He's returned with a 10-goal win.
Yeah. What are they capable of this year? So I think they're the third youngest team last year. I mean, it feels like every year there's a side that comes from the bottom portion of the 8 that all of a sudden springboards up. And we've seen it from Sydney in recent seasons. We saw it from Fremantle last year that not only were able to play finals, host one, win one, and make it through to the last 6. Are they that kind of team in 2023?
I think they are. I think they're at the stage now where you know what you're going to get from them, and you mentioned the pressure and where that can take teams. They've built a really strong brand. They're healthy. That's a big thing, obviously at the moment, and they're starting to build a squad of 25 to 30 players that can come in and play a role at any time. There's some real integrity. It's selection. You can tell guys are being rewarded for playing their role. So when you're rolling out every week and rain, hail or shine, you know what you're going to get. That's a really good starting point to build the team around pressure. And then now we're starting to see the reward come from an offensive point of view. We're starting to see the ability to score heavily as well. So I think it's really good signs. And if they can stay healthy, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be aiming to finish in that top 6.
Yeah, I think the depth is the one that's probably for me in terms of the players. Like, so Sam Berry out tonight, and then Tyler Brown comes in. He's Elliot Himmelberg.
Yeah, just looking down at Himmelberg and a few others that are running down there. Yeah, doing some running after the...
Lockie Gallant's the one on the right.
Yes, Gallant,
he was probably pretty stiff. I mean, he's got a tremendous motor, work ethic, gets up at the football too, so another key forward. Elliot, they've played in the back half too, so they've experimented with that, just in terms of...
Schonberg, is that Harry Schonberg down there as well? He's played some good footy.
So these guys have been doing tremendous work in the SANFL. They're going back, and they're too good for that competition and really performing well.
There was a ton of pressure on Matthew Nicks in the pre-season and the early couple of rounds, Jamo, because Riley Thilthorpe started in the twos, kicked 4 goals in the Sandful, then becomes the sub, finally comes into the main side and kicks 5. And the messaging from him from the get-go this year was, I'm not going to gift games anymore. That doesn't matter what pick you are, you have to earn it. And the pressure is there from beneath now.
Sorry to jump in, Joe. I agree, and we talk about integrity at selection. I think that's a good place to be, and we've had St Kilda the last 3 Saturday nights called. They're in a very, very similar position now. They're healthy, and so it affords them that luxury that these guys, whilst they mightn't be big names on paper, they've got themselves fit. They know they're very clear on the role that they play in the team, and that helps the team play well and win. And if they keep doing that, they're going to play. It doesn't matter what they've done in the past or what the guys waiting in the wings have done in the past. That's irrelevant. So that's a really good position to be in.
That quote from Ross Lyon that I keep bringing up, every time you pick a team, you send a message to what you value. I just love it. It's a great line, and I'm sure one that every coach would love to live by. Can I ask you, Jamo, about this Darren Burgess thing? Because I feel like it's sort of got this life of its own now. It cannot be a coincidence now that every single place he goes, they have the shortest injury list in the competition. It happened with Melbourne when they had their run to the Premiership. Now he gets to Adelaide. They've got 4 on the injury list at the moment. Bond, Worrell, Berry, who's actually back from his calf complaint. He's expected to get a run at... he's expected, obviously, he's available for selection coming back from that calf complaint, not playing, obviously, tonight. And then the only other one in any kind of doubt is Paddy Parnell, and we know how that injury was caused. It's not as if it's a soft tissue complaint. It was inflicted in a dangerous tackle by an opposition player. So how much of it is Burgess and how much of it is just this sort of growing story around him?
I think the competition now, it's more individual around the way you train and the workloads that go in. So he's super critical, but he's really strong. And I think it was Steve May, I think it was, in their grand final year. Like, he had a tear in his hamstring. And the first thing you hear out of players now, go get a scan. So I'm led to believe they didn't tell him he had a tear, so it was more the mental as opposed to, it's a bit tight, I'll work through this. So there's a bit of tough love amongst it as well, but certainly the ability to be able to identify if there is something that is, just get him to work through it a little bit harder than maybe what you need to. If he gets sore, let's blow him up. Blow him up to the point you actually know where the breaking point is, and then you can sort of, just like anything, the way you lift weights. As you can see, Aaron doing a lot over, the summer. But you just, I want to get to 100, you get to 90, and then you just work the reps up and do that. And I think that's pretty key on turn, as well as the experience he's gleaned across the world.
Off the SMS, Rory in Melbourne, blind listener, loving your commentary tonight. Rory, nice to hear from you. From Rob in Montmorency, Carlton's draft picks for the last few years have performed well, but all the other imports, other than Young and Hewitt, have been poor. All starting... I won't continue that message as he singles out one player in particular, but that's from Rob in Montmorency. Probably brings us in a pretty sharp transition to Carlton, Bawley, who we've seen a little bit to start this season. The positive out of Carlton leading into the week was they hadn't played their best footy, but they've been winning. And that's a really good thing to have an O in the right-hand column on your record, be undefeated, and yet still a long way to go, still without their best team. This is the closest their best side has looked tonight with getting Akers, Kennedy and Walsh back, even despite losing Doherty to injury. And their midfield got shown up tonight in a big way, and the game was really over before they could blink.
It was, I didn't see it coming. I thought they'd actually use tonight as an opportunity to show how far they've come and even picked them to win. But, yep, you're right. They were they couldn't have been more disappointing in that first quarter, both inside and out, their ability to go in and win the contest, to absorb pressure and get their hands on the footy first and foremost. The possession count was extraordinary in that first quarter. I can't remember. I think they were 70 down.
Up.
Yeah, so that's part of it.
70 down, Carl.
Yeah, so then to pressure the Adelaide players on the inside, and then they were completely outworked on the outside as well. So that was I'll be really interested to see or to hear Michael Voss's take on that, and then how hard they review that first quarter. I just didn't see it coming. And I think if you're a genuine top 4 team, Jam, I just don't think that happens to you. I think you're able to shift that momentum, to shift that what's happening to you within a quarter. And you're looking at your leaders from that point of view, and Paddy Cripps had a pretty ordinary night. We know that. Walsh's first game back, so you potentially give him a pardon, but they just weren't able to stop that at all in the first quarter. So that would say to me that there's still, we know their best is electric, but there's still, that gap is still a bit too great to be really considered a top 2, top 4.
I think they've got some quality in there, but statistically, and the data shows that they're still reliant on too few to perform regularly. And that's particularly with Harry and Charlie up forward to kick goals from. So if they're not kicking goals, they genuinely struggle. So with the goals that they've kicked, the inside 50s, even when they had 61 inside 50s against the Giants, they only kicked 9 goals. 52 against the Kangaroos, and they kicked 16. So again, but the 2 key targets stood up and kicked 10 between them. So you go back to the data, have a look at where it is. They need to manufacture and find ways to get it. I think they've got the leadership. We spoke Cripps, Kennedy, Chera, Walsh, Curnow, Hewitt. So they've got that in there, but they weren't able to shut it down, sustain the pressure in that first quarter, and that was the blowout of the margin pretty much for the entire game. If you can arm wrestle that back to 3 goals, 4 goals, you've got the ability to then sneak up, which they did. They got to, 3 goals at one
within 18.
point. Yeah. So I just think too few at the moment.
Yeah, and it was back to their worst of last year in terms of restricting scores from turnover, well, really from all sources. Adelaide had their way, especially early from clearance, particularly turnover, even kickings. They transitioned the ball way too easily. So, because you look at the numbers at the end of the game, and they're completely deceiving. They've won clearance. They've had more inside 50s, and actually they had 75 tackles. Now
it just wasn't
Adelaide
that
had
game.
the ball. No, it just wasn't at all.
Oh,
so it's the first quarter's tells the real tale. I think.
So you can go wasteful, wrong targets, poor disposal. Like they're the things that, from an outsider just having a quick look, they're the areas that Carlton need to tidy up. They get the footy in there. Yep, no worries. I feel every club at some point throughout the year maybe has one anomaly where there's a blowout and you learn from that and you just go, that shouldn't have happened. Maybe that'll be tonight for Carlton after their first 4 games, and tonight is just an isolated incident. So when you have a look at what lies ahead, St Kilda, West Coast Eagles, you would think on form should touch them up. And then it gets a bit tougher with Brisbane and Western Bulldogs too. So there's a bit of a challenge for them. And again, you keep going back to the few. Sam Walsh, get a bit more footy into him. He'll play a bit more, but geez, after tonight. And Paddy Cripps, that is as quiet as I've seen him play for his lofty heights that we all put on him, and I'm sure he does himself. But in the end, he's ended up with 19 disposals, 12 contested, 10 ground ball gets, 10 tackles. So most players would go, gee, that's not a bad night.
Yeah, his first half, I think he had 7 possessions though.
Yeah.
And so all that was done late when the game was out of reach. So yeah, he was unusually quiet tonight, Paddy Cripps.
Does that mirror the North Melbourne Good Friday game? That in the first half, Carlton statistically were dominated and then fought back, and on paper it looks like they played well across the whole night, but they never really did.
I saw the highlights of that game. I actually thought the Kangaroos played pretty well too. I thought they really took it to them. And I thought Carlton were maybe a bit lazy at times with their defensive work. But again, you're sort of relying on the same blokes to step up, and after half-time they got going and then blew it. Well, the Kangaroos kicked the last 4 goals too of that game, which brought the margin back to that 23 points.
But the centre clearances in the inside 50s, Carlton won them in the second half.
Yeah, and then it was Curnow and Mackay overpowering the undermanned North Melbourne defence, which at times they look in good form. That's the frustrating thing probably for Carlton supporters. They're getting their hands on the footy a lot. They're marking it. Not always kicking well, but
they're such a centre break team, aren't they? If they can get it in there quick, 6-6-6, isolate Mackay and Curnow. But even though they won the clearances, I feel like I didn't see it at all today. I never saw them walking out the front door of the centre square, or it never ever looked like that, despite the guys that they had back available to them.
Pitnet's issue, I'd be keen to see the outcome of that.
He can't stay out there, can he? The poor guy. Yeah.
But the other one for me, George Hewitt, he stood up alongside Rory Laird. Rory Laird touched him up terribly. You know, mate, if you're going to tag a player and running down, just the work that went into probably shutting down the key playmakers for Adelaide just did not work.
We've got to get to the votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. The news coming from the Carlton rooms is that they're not letting us in. The security guy on the door has told our team, Mitch Cleary and Ben Cameron down there, that there is a full media ban. So we're not hearing anything from Carlton tonight. So we were hoping to get some sort of reaction from the Carlton rooms, but they're 3 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. We won't get any reaction, unfortunately. Adelaide winners by 56 points. Who's doing the votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year?
I just quickly jotted something down, just in case, Jamo. You happy to?
I've done the same.
You happy to? Well,
you go. Guess. The guess can take.
Well, I think the 2 and 1 are pretty clear. Can we sort of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go. Both read them out.
All right. Well, I'm going to give 3 to the skipper. You mentioned the midfield matchup. So Laird against Hewitt in particular completely touched him up. Jordan